This is the D6 generation with your hosts, Craig Gallant.
Wrong! If you're getting any compensation, it's not charity!
Russ Wakeland. Did you put me on a boat with frickin' dragons attacking me and whatnot? Now we're talking. And Raef, Hollywood Granger.
Now that's Jimmy Django right there.
With contributions from Total Fangirl.
Vampires do not sparkle.
And our loyal listeners.
One game is very like another till the D6G reviews it, brother.
Welcome to another edition of Rapid Fire, the roundtable discussion of all things gaming, coming at with the speed of a filled-to-capacity rowboat fleeing from the massive whirlpool grave of a mountain into the arms of a hungry sea monster. This edition is brought to you by Abel Vieira from Brazil, who says, "Greetings, great the D6Gers. As an ambassador for the Southlands, I bid you welcome and good luck in your campaign of world domination. Cheers!" Tonight, our panelists are, as always, Russ Deep Wizardry Wakeland and Raef Gladarius Granger. As a special guest tonight, we'd like to welcome Angelo John V. Loose Lombardi, a longtime listener and wandering gamer extraordinaire. Let's begin. Issue number 1. Hospitality is the relationship between guest and host, or the act or practice of being hospitable. Specifically, this includes the reception and entertainment of guests, visitors, or strangers, resorts, membership clubs, conventions, attractions, special events, and other services for travelers and tourists. As gamers traveling around the world to tournaments, conventions, etc., hospitality can be crucial to our experiences. Whether it is the hospitality of a friend's couch or a 5-star hotel, we all need someplace to rest our heads. Question: on a scale of 1 through 10, with 1 being less important than Justin Bieber's barber's name, and 10 being the ultimate secret to manufacturing ticket-to-ride expansions, how important is the ambiance of a hotel for a gaming convention? Red Roof Russ.
Oh, judging by TempleCon, I'm going to give it an 8.5.
Renaissance Raef.
Yeah, I find it important. I'm going to say 8.55.
Abu Dhabi National Angelo.
I know it breaks the rules, but I'm going to go with 42 because I believe it's the answer to all questions.
Wrong! The ambiance of a gaming convention is less than nothing when you're looking at hotels. Capacity, food, parking, let these be your watchwords. For the love of all that is holy on God's green earth, do not gamers bring enough of their own ambiance everywhere they go? Issue number 2. Corsets, just as one word. Issue number 2. The term migrant worker has different official meanings in different parts of the world. The United Nations definition is broad, including any people working outside of their home country. In the United States, however, the term is used to describe someone who migrates within the country in order to pursue work, often referring specifically to seasonal work. Question: how many days a month must a person be away from their home in order for them to qualify to you as a migrant worker? Muley Graves Granger.
Ooh, I know this answer as I used to teach migrant workers. It's something like 135 days.
A month. Excellent. Aggie Wainwright Wakeland.
I'm going to say 20.
Aaron Trask Angelo.
I'm going with 16.
Wrong! In order to be a migrant worker, you can't have a home. In order to be a migrant, you are always on the move, living a life of loneliness, isolation, and despair. There's no gaming for you. There's no house or family. There is only, if you're lucky, the rabbits, George. And we all know how that ended. Issue number 3.
Wow.
Atlantis was a legendary island nation first mentioned in Plato's dialogues. Atlantis was supposedly a naval power lying in front of the Pillars of Hercules that conquered many parts of Western Europe and Africa 9,000 years before the time of Solon, or approximately 9600 BC. After a failed attempt to invade Athens, Atlantis supposedly sank into the ocean in a single day and night of misfortune. Question: one of the most popular theories behind Atlantis places the actual location of the nation that would become the legend on what Greek island devastated by a catastrophic volcanic eruption in the 1600s BC? This is a multiple choice question. Listen carefully. A. Santorini. B. Crete. C. Minoa. Or D. Mykonos. Caldera Russ.
I'm going with Crete.
Remnant Raef.
C.
Minoa. Aegean Angelo.
I'm going with Mykonos.
Wrong! The answer is A. Santorini, the location of Thera, thought to be a university museum city of the Minoan Empire. The island was almost completely obliterated by a volcano, leaving only a quarter-moon-shaped volcanic crater behind. Issue number 4. In 1523, Jean Fleury seized 2 Spanish treasure ships carrying Aztec treasures from Mexico to Spain, starting Starting the pirate craze. The great or classical era of piracy in the Caribbean extends from around 1560 up until the mid-1720s. The period during which pirates were most successful was from 1700 to the 1730s. Caribbean piracy arose out of, and mirrored on a smaller scale, the conflicts over trade and colonization among the rival European powers of the time, including the empires of Britain, Spain, the Netherlands, Portugal, and France. Most of the pirates, however, were English, Dutch, and French in origin. Question. In your best pirate accent, introduce yourself as a Dutch pirate. Raef the Rotund.
Yeah, I fly boats.
Russ the Redolent.
I'm at you, scurvy dog. I've got a splinter in me shoe.
Angelo the Allegorical.
Ahoy, mates. It's a large brown frigate. I rolled 3 skulls and Raef is at my port. I'm going to abort and give me my third captain in 4 turns because I can't find bananas and I'm a little short on coffee, please.
Impressive. Or not, depending on who you were. As this wasn't a question, you can hardly be considered, oh, what the heck. You're all wrong, you scurvy dogs. That's all we've got for this episode. Thanks for listening and good night.
This episode of the D6 Generation is brought to you by
Myriad Games, the friendly professional gaming store of the D6 generation.
And by Battle Foam, protecting your army so you don't have to.
and by Lone Wolf Development. Take your game to the next level.
And the War Store, bringing the war to your door since 1999, and that is for a decade or more.
And by Audible. Try the service, get a free book, and support the show. All by visiting audibletrial.com/D6G. Hello!
Hello.
Yeah, what's up, all?
Welcome to episode 74 of the D6 Generation. I'm Russ Wakeland.
And I'm Craig Gallant.
Whoa. Craig, what about 74? Can't just
It's
launch
one
into our
away
things.
from 3/4.
Hey, there we go. I'm
Hey.
Raef Hollywood Ranger.
Today's show, what are we talking about today's show, guys?
Today we are interviewing a traveling gamer extraordinaire, longtime listener, Angelo.
Yes. More about Angelo later, but Angelo is basically, he's a CEO. No, he's not a CEO. He's a
not a
COO. I keep
And
saying
he
that.
did promise that we could slap you the next time you ended up
I keep
putting
promoting
an
him.
executive in there.
I feel as he should be an executive. No, he's a chief operating officer, COO.
Right.
But he's an executive at a major
Constantly
corporation.
traveling.
Constantly traveling, high profile position, and yet he still finds time to game doing all these things. So
In fact, he's doing a giant board meeting in a couple months, or in about a month, and his introduction to his board meeting is going to be a rapid fire episode.
oh, cool.
Yeah.
But I want to say, too, to
getting,
all the people that maybe, and our audience isn't even in this category, but to anybody who's like, oh, what a bunch of sellouts, it's just going to be another infomercial. No. Angelo was not planned to be on at all. He just decided he was going to be up in the area in Boston, and he wanted to pop up and see Myriad and have a chance to hang out. And all three of us at once, we were having dinner, and we're like, oh, my God, he's just so fun to talk to, and he's just a regular guy. That we're
I
like,
don't
let's
think
have him
anybody
on.
would have thought that until you mentioned it, right?
Oh, I'm surprised. You're even more cynical than me. Remember how, sometimes people are like, oh, it's just a big infomercial. But we haven't heard that in a long time. But
And we also have mentioned what company he works for.
Right. Yeah. And I didn't think we were gonna.
well, he works for
Now
he's the COO of La Quinta.
So wow. So
Well,
Raef,
now we've turned it into an infomercial.
could you solve and cause any more problems yourself in one
It's all
fell
good,
swoop
man.
before
I like
we
telling the
start?
truth. It's all about the truth.
Truth
Okay.
to power, man. Truth to power.
Yeah, truth to power. Wait till I get into other for you, Craig. You are just you're making the world go around, my friend. But
Folks,
I'll save that.
folks,
it's a little foreshadowing.
It's going to be one of those shows this evening, folks. I don't think I can survive. Oh, wait, that's the second part of the show. Oh, no, that is a segue. So,
That's such a good segue, Russ. I can't even kill it.
You have no wait. Can we mark the tape? Because today is the day that Russ becomes a professional broadcaster.
No. I heard someone tell me once that the difference between a professional broadcaster and a podcast is that professional broadcasters do good segues. Podcasters do good segues and then comment about how good they were.
Well, then we're just podcasters.
So there we go. We're just podcasters, but we're also going to be reviewing Survive Escape from Atlantis. a fun family game that also might find its way to a gamer's table and still be a lot of fun. So we'll talk about that later in the show as well. But first, dear listeners, we like to thank you for listening to the show by occasionally holding really fun contests. Sometimes not fun contests, but give something away, right? So what are we giving away this time, Raef?
We're giving away the game Survive
by Stronghold Games, and it's a pack. It's a prize pack. What else is in the pack?
They're getting code 777777.
Right. And what's the third thing? Here's your real trivia challenge. What is the third thing in the pack?
Boy, the third thing is those downloadable 777 PDF things that are colored.
No, you have to find those yourself.
A package of the Dystopian War dice.
No.
A bunch of Black Library books.
All right, let me just save you any further embarrassment. No, what also is in there is the Giant Squid expansion.
Nice.
As well. So you're getting the Giant Squid expansion, you're getting Survive, and you're getting code 777. What do they got to do in this package, Craig?
What do they have to do to win this package? That is an excellent question. Raef, I think you should probably answer.
Don't help him. Make him work.
All right. The only thing I know is we want you to call it in, I think. Call in is preferred. Email is okay. And I have no idea. Something about what you say if you're drowning on a lifeboat, perhaps. I don't know.
Oh, God. Really? Is this where we are now?
I remember, it's what game would you bring with you in a lifeboat?
Thank you, Craig.
Okay.
Woo! Yes. We should really write these things down. We should. We is broadcast professionals. Yep. Yeah, folks, you can keep asking for us to make these contests more clear, but we're still going to fail at it because we're just, So basically what you want to do, and I got some questions about this via Twitter and the Skype and other things. What you want to do is...
You mean Skype and the Twitter.
Yes, sorry. The email address is contest@the d6generation.com. Contest, just the word contest at d6generation.com. You would want to email us either a nice text description. We've already got some very funny ones, by the way. You can email us for bonus points or bonus consideration. Here's basically how this works. I'm getting questions. Does art give extra consideration? Does it have to be audio? Here's the thing. We will judge it based on quality and perceived effort. Okay? So if we look at something and they're both are equal, someone's are equally funny, but someone's obviously put more time into theirs, we will give the nod to the one that has more time. Whether that means you did a great drawing, whether it means you did a phenomenal audio file, whatever you do to add perceived effort. What do you guys think? Does that sound fair?
Yep. I don't judge him that way.
Okay, I know. Well, Rafe is just going to roll a d6 and we'll see what it is.
No.
Yeah? Oh, yeah?
I basically judge them just how it hits me in that moment. If it could be a one-liner, but if it's the funniest thing I've read that day, that's in.
So that's why it keeps it a very fickle bonus, because basically 2/3 of the reviewers will help you with effort.
Yeah, 2/3 will definitely.
1/3 will be straight up, you just got to make them smile.
That's right.
At the right moment.
God knows what's going to make them smile from one day to the next.
Right. So
exactly.
Now this contest will run through, will be due episode 75, so 2 weeks from when this airs.
You know what that will be? 3/4.
Right. So we're looking at, let me see if I can figure my calendar out right now. We're looking at, you know what? March 7th. March 7th, all entries are due. Midnight, March 7th. How you like that?
Midnight GMT?
Yes, midnight, March 7th.
GMT.
All entries are due, and we will go through those, and then we will get them into the following show. So won't be in the next show because we'll be recording before they're all in, but it'll be the show after that. But the contest ends March 7th. So good luck, everyone. Contest@d6generation.com. Let us know what games you would bring in a lifeboat escaping from a giant sinking island formerly known as Atlantis.
Uh-huh.
Right.
Yes.
Now, one other thing we have a procedure change coming up. Procedure change. So
yes,
is that a seed change?
A seed, yes.
It
nice,
is in fact
nice.
A change.
I won't mention it's a nice segue because I'll try to be more professional. Nice. I don't even say nice. I'll say, yes, we have a sea change coming. I didn't do that very well.
We're getting better. Wow.
We're working on it.
We said this was an experiment and it would be growing and evolving and changing, and Russ gave up.
Yeah, so the Lost Chapters, we're very flattered with the great positive feedback we've been getting from everyone about the Lost Chapters. We're very excited that you like them, that you're interested in them. And the biggest piece of feedback, couple things, was you really, really wanted subscription, some way to automatically get new ones and not have to worry about going and clicking here every time we release a new one. And I believe the news guy mentioned that last time, but we've added subscriptions, and more about that in a minute. The other thing you asked us about was, we thought we'd kind of have fun with the whole, Craig kind of didn't.
Russ thought.
Well, there were two schools of thought. I thought it'd be kind of fun to not mention what's in the episodes,
like a magic booster pack.
Craig thought it would be fun to never really mention the Lost chapters in the main show, but I think what we found is people really want to know about what's in them and are they worth getting and are they focused. So what we're going to do is we're just going to mention occasionally in the show what the recent ones have been to let you know if you're interested in getting them. And this is not in any way to make you go, look, you want to support the show and grab them? Great. If you'd rather not because you don't have the time to listen to that many, that's fine too. You decide. It's your call. It's your buck.
Yeah, it's your buck.
These are $1 each. We have subscription options as well. There's no savings for subscriptions. They're just automatically delivered.
Yeah. So I need to slow you down a little bit there.
Right.
So what we're trying to say is people wrote in and it was so funny. The week we launched Death Watch, people didn't know because it was hidden like a booster pack. And people wrote in and be like, hey, what would be really cool after they heard the main show on Death Watch? It'd be really cool if we just heard you guys talking about your session. Well, lo and behold, that was our segment.
Right.
That's right.
So listeners kind of told us feedback to like, go ahead, you can mention what it is in the main show because that'll help us decide if we want to get it or not.
So we definitely want to do that. So the three, by the time you hear this, there will have been 3 Lost chapters released. Right. Book 1 was what, Craig?
Book 1 was an overview of my adventure notes for the Death Watch adventure that we did, and we went over some of the details and some of the jokes that had erupted. And
It's kind of a session report for Death Watch.
Exactly, a session report, and it told you exactly how everybody ended up.
And our goal for Lost Chapters was 30 minutes to 60 minutes, and that long was about an hour.
Well, our
5.
goal was 30.
Right.
Yeah.
That was
That's
an hour
the
5.
hilarity of it.
So then the second one we did was actually directly based on listener feedback. After we did the interview with Neil from Spartan Games, we got a lot of people saying, the interview quality was a little weak in terms of the audio, and Neil was sick, and it was late at night, and you were on the edge of your seat with anticipation of exactly what he was saying. And so wouldn't it be great if we could somehow summarize and analyze what he said and kind of bring back to you in more greater detail what was actually said and bring some of the knowledge of what that meant to us when he said it. So book 2 is, again, it was going to be 30 minutes. It's also a little over an hour of us going through in detail. Craig literally listened for the entire review a couple times, wrote all the points down, and then went through. And we didn't just regurgitate the interview, but we actually analyzed everything Neil said, explained why we thought it was exciting, and sort of analyzed what we think was changes. So if you're really interested in more about Spartan Games, that's a great one to listen to. That's book 2.
And this is something we actually have had an idea about for a long time, because if you guys notice, we try to get out of the way when an interviewee is talking and try not to infuse our own thoughts other than to perhaps ask questions that you might want to know. So we've thought wouldn't it be cool if we had a chance to the 3 of us talk about what the interviewee said, and this seemed like a good chance to begin that because the audio had come out poor for some people.
And then the third book that's come out is all about, and we get a lot of questions about this.
Tons.
Picking paint pots. So I like alliteration.
I like that.
Yes,
That's nice.
Russ does like alliteration.
And again, this was targeted for 30 minutes and ended up being a little over an hour. But anyway.
Which seems, I want to say, all Hollywood lovers out there, this was a fun episode. I don't know how we talked for an hour, but it came out great, I think.
And what we basically talked about was which paints, brands, and pots we like for what. And we even snuck in some Dystopian Wars painting tips on the end there as well. So if you're a painter and you want more about that, that's what that one's about. So those are the first 3
types of paints and techniques and stuff like that.
Hopefully that shows you a nice spread of kind of the intention of the Lost Chapters and the kind of things we'll do.
Got one more question for you.
Yeah, go ahead,
Russ. We've also gotten some feedback, and I'm not as technical savvy when it comes to the PC. So we've gotten a lot of feedback where I wanted you to put one big button on the website, which you've done, but then people are like, well, wait a minute, what if I don't subscribe to iTunes and I buy a subscription? And does that mean I'm stuck with iTunes? And it's funny, I tweeted and said, hey, subscriptions are now 1 click, and one person wrote back, it's 4 clicks, and it's awesome, it's so easy. So what's this technology?
Well, okay,
we have to worry about it?
Well, the rule. So here's how this works, right? So there's really 3 ways, with really 2 primary ways you can buy Lost Chapters. You can buy them in the new hotness of microtransactions, right? So if you don't want to be tied down to some long subscription, you just want to hear one, no big deal. Follow the link, the little pile of books on the right-hand side of the website. Click on that. It'll take you right to the Lost Chapters page. And right there, you scroll down, and it says buy Lost Chapters individually, at least every single one. It just says buy now. You'll be charged 99 cents. $1 actually. Be charged $1, and you will then immediately be able to download an MP3 file. There's no DRM on it, okay? For those of you who know what that is, there's none of that. It's a just wide open MP3 file. We trust you folks to to behave responsibly with this stuff. You download it and you listen. You put on whatever your favorite player is. And if you've already
you have an option to download it to your desktop if you want.
Right, and if you've already got an MP3 player installed in your system like iTunes or Zune or whatever, when you click that file, it's going to automatically go into that thing, and then you have the choice to drag it to your favorite MP3 player or whatever.
Okay.
So that's one way. The other way is with the subscriptions, and this is causing some confusion because I wanted to be clear about how it works. So, which probably subscribe
because people want the sort of. I just want to be able to know they're downloaded.
Fire and forget.
So the subscription model sort of turns these audiobooks, we're calling them, into a little mini, what some might call a premium podcast. They'll automatically deliver to your favorite podcast device. Okay, and it doesn't have to be iTunes. In fact, you're not actually going through iTunes for the transaction because getting involved with iTunes for anything audio is a very labor-intensive process that we are not big enough to really entertain. So that's why folks are saying, I really want to be in iTunes. We're not there yet, folks. We're sorry. Hopefully, if this all works out and everything goes, we'll be able to get there someday. But right now, we're not at that level. So what we're doing instead is we're launching what's called a premium podcast. You can go to our website, same place. You click on the stack of books. Takes you right there. It shows you two options to subscribe, either monthly subscription where you get charged $2 a month, or you can buy, and that's recurring, so it'll automatically subscribe, and it'll go through PayPal. So if you want to cancel any time, just go to PayPal, say stop, and it'll stop. Or you can do an annual 24-episode pack, and it's $24. You buy that, it's pay once, and you get a year access to the stream, the basically subscription. And how that works is then you're going to be automatically emailed a little email that's going to explain how to do everything. And what it basically is, it's an RSS feed, for those of you who know what that is, or it's an iTunes, which works in iTunes or works in Zune or anything else, and it automatically delivers these files to you, and you'll also be sent a username and password that's unique to you that will give you access to the stream. So when you add this RSS stream to iTunes, which you can do, iTunes is going to say, hey, this is a protected stream. What's your username and password? You type those in, boom, you're in, and now it's just like adding any podcast to iTunes.
Question.
It's in there, and it goes.
You go to the website, you click on the books, you select subscription, you pay with PayPal, you pay $25 or $24.
Yep.
Okay. I just open iTunes, and I follow the instructions on the email.
Yep.
Do I then just open iTunes and voila? Does it prompt me? Do I have to drag and drop?
In the email, there's a link to the iTunes subscribe. So you actually, when you actually buy, it gives you the link too right on the screen. So if you're on a computer with iTunes installed and you click that link, it's going to automatically do it all for you.
Okay.
And then it's in it's in your iTunes application, but it's not really in the iTunes store.
So the reason why that's important, correct me if I'm wrong, because we have a lot of overseas listeners that say, they're from Brazil, wherever, and they say, hey, iTunes doesn't quite work the same as it does in America. Will I be in trouble? And I've noticed you said no, but I don't know why.
It doesn't matter because that's in the iTunes store, and some things like for example, in China, some content is not listed in the iTunes store in China. But this content isn't actually going through the iTunes store. All it's doing is using the
recognizing that as the media player.
Yeah, it's just like you could do. Yeah, it's all it is. It's a podcast aggregator.
Okay.
It's all it's doing. So,
question.
Yes.
If you can sign up monthly and it's recurring, how's that different than a subscription?
Well, they're both subscriptions. There's two ways you can subscribe. You can pay $24 for 12 months, or you can pay monthly recurring, which is $2 a month over and over again.
But for the monthly one, they have to keep dragging it in?
No. They both work the same. No, there's no dragging anything in. You do it once, and what will happen is you whether you do monthly or annually, getting it into iTunes or Zune or whatever is the same process.
Okay.
And they'll automatically be loaded it'll be available to that stream automatically either way. The only difference is that if you do monthly and cancel it, the stream will stop.
Okay.
Now, the other difference is that monthly doesn't give you access to the back catalog. Okay. So,
see, I thought there was a difference.
All that means is that if you subscribe, there's 3 lost chapters out now, right?
Right.
If you subscribe tomorrow monthly, the first 3 chapters will still not be available to you, but anything released after you subscribe will be available to you, and you have to go back and buy the other ones onesie-twosie. We're having a special deal, though, if you buy the annual package right now. It's a limited time. If you buy the annual deal, we'll give you access to the entire back catalog as soon as you sign up. So if you sign up for annual tomorrow, as a thank you for putting $24 down, we're going to give you the first however many chapters are out there before you signed up. But that's limited.
Gotcha.
That's eventually going to stop once there's a big enough back catalog, obviously. But that's the deal.
Okay. And my last question, and again, you guys have asked about this, so I'm only not regurgitating, but bringing up what we get a lot of emails on, so this will save us some time. What's up with ambling?
There's 2 ways you can buy individually. One of them is through something called payloads, and it's on the screen there. One of them is called ambling. I liked Ambling initially, but I'm not really liking how they're working out. So I would recommend, if you want to buy the Lost Chapters onesie twosie, use the payloads option. And if you've already purchased Ambling, because Ambling required you to buy 5 packs of little, like, basically coupons that you then redeem. So our shows are $1 each, right? So in Ambling, you had to put $5 down, you get 5 coupons, and as the shows are released, you can buy 5. What I'm planning to do with Ambling is release 5 of the books there and then stop supporting Ambling. So anybody who's put $5 down will get their 5 worth of Lost Chapters. But I'd like everybody to move off of Ambling because it really, they're not. It's unfortunately their player's not very good. It's a little fuzzy, and I think now with the subscription option, which we didn't have initially, that'll handle what the Ambling app used to try to give people.
handle, yeah.
So I think if anybody now we don't have very many Ambling subscribers. Most people have chosen the payloads or the subscription model, so it's a very
less
small
than
group of people.
10%.
Yeah. So, but if you're one of those people have any concerns about that, email me directly. I'll explain what the plan and how that's going to work. So let me know about that.
Cool.
So, is that we're not going to talk about this long every time. I just wanted to bring you guys up to speed on the Lost Chapters and how they're doing. So.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
All right. Are we done? Are we ready now for the big?
We are.
Ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. It's time now for Achievements in Gaming.
Blink, blink.
Oh, my achievement went crazy. Did you see that there? It went nuts.
We got to get Craig hit that noise.
There we go.
I mean the echo effect.
I do feel like I'm
It's
missing out.
We'll have to,
It's weak sauce.
It is.
Otherwise.
It is weak sauce. So,
Oh, that's not very nice.
Achievements in Gaming is brought to us by RPA of the Cat's Pajamas Gaming Group. Hey, Nits. I may have painted 4 Malifaux crews, 3,000 points of Imperial Guard, a Crix army, 2 Battlefleet Gothic fleets, and terrain to match in the last few months. But you and your wife had a baby, and that has me beat. Congratulations on the birth of Gianna May. Aww. So, Craig, I know you're still a little blue over not getting your Achievements in Gaming Echo, but what games have you been playing since last we chatted?
Well, interestingly enough, except for one item, Russ and I have pretty much played the exact same games with the exact same people for 2 weeks straight.
Oh,
Look at that.
So, So we start at TempleCon. And we played Survive.
Yeah, achievement for attending TempleCon. We'll take one of those.
Yeah, absolutely. We all had fun at TempleCon.
First impression of TempleCon, Craig.
Wow. No pressure.
It was nice. It was good. It was interesting. There seemed to be more costumes.
Yeah, I like the cosplay this year. A lot of cool costumes.
That's what I noticed, too. I noticed the costumes.
Yeah.
And I think, now let me ask you this. Now, for those who don't know, TempleCon is extremely, is what, retro-futuristic steampunk type theme.
Right, yeah.
And a lot of cool, in fact, I tweeted some pictures because it was really cool to go to the...
Futuristic.
Yeah. So it was really cool going into the gallery where all the stores were, because there was a couple points where everybody in the stores and all the people there were all in costume.
Right.
Like they were shopping, and the way the atrium was structured in this hotel, it kind of looked like it matched. And so I took some pictures because it was kind of weird. It was kind of cool in a weird way. But what I thought was interesting was apparently the Nerf blaster revolver weapons, toy weapons, are very popular amongst the steampunk modeling set.
Cosplay folks.
But here's the weird thing, though. They all had them, and they were all painted up to look like brass and all that, and they look good as that role. But then they were wearing bandoliers of the actual Nerf bullets.
Yeah.
So I was trying to figure out.
Kind of ruined the effect.
Well, I was trying to figure out, were they playing like assassination or something?
I don't know.
So I was wondering if that was going on.
Like it might have been actually.
Remember the assassination game or something? Yeah, I was wondering if something like that was going on because they were all carrying them and they looked very shifty-eyed, like they're going to get shot at any moment, kind of thing.
I don't know.
I don't know.
I didn't notice the bandoleros.
Yeah.
One of the most interesting moments for me was they did a whole Rocky Horror Picture Show reenactment, which is many people will know what that means, where they're acting in front of a movie screen.
Was spread thrown and all that stuff?
I would have to assume, but I was only in there momentarily because Romeo noticed a man in bondage and some serious leather drag walk into the auditorium. And I was like, dude, what is going on there? And I was like, I think it's
Rocky Horror. Yeah,
Show.
that's obligatory in Rocky Horror.
Exactly. And he had never heard of the Rocky Horror Picture
really?
Show. So we went inside and we watched a few minutes of it, and it was an education for our young Romeo.
Wow, I didn't realize he was quite that young. That's almost like, I'm not a huge Rocky Horror fan, but that's almost like not knowing about Holy Grail. That's kind of a
it is
deal.
very
Only
cult.
when you're old farts like us.
Maybe. I don't know.
I mean, they do it in Manchester every Halloween. That's huge.
I think it's kind of obligatory. You at least watch the movie once, just to, just to
but anyway,
know.
so that was an interesting.
The actress I want to meet is in the movie.
That's true.
Susan Sarandon.
Okay.
Anytime. Look me up.
Hey, Craig, what were you playing at TempleCon?
So anyway, we played Survive, and who played Survive? It was Nicole and Russ and Jeremy and I.
Yes.
Yep. Not me.
And then you weren't there yet.
I know.
You were doing some weird thing like waiting in line or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
And then we played Walkstar.
Oh, I want to hear about this.
Walkstar. It was interesting.
Well, we all just want to be real
miserable.
We all just want to be real walk stars and drive around on fancy cars.
I want to be a walk star, and I will make food, and I will use a walk star. Yeah, no. Yeah, I mean, I didn't feel like I was like pulling teeth or anything like that, but it wasn't. It definitely falls under Craig's. If it's not a thing, if it's a thing that exists in real life, and I don't want to do it in real life, I probably don't want to play a game about it.
I thought it was fun. It was co-op. So that was cool.
Oh, interesting.
And you're trying to it kind of reminded me of a board game version of Diner Dash. I don't know if you're familiar with the little video game, but you're trying to serve orders and you're trying to build your restaurant at the same time, and the goal is by the end of a certain number of rounds you have to have achieved a certain amount of money, right? Or your restaurant goes under. And I think the biggest problem with the game was that I really wanted to eat Chinese food.
Yes, so it totally ruined my diet.
I was like, we had to go out and have Chinese food. Literally, we found the closest Chinese food place after that, and we had lunch.
Yeah, we totally did.
Would I like it?
I think you would. Yeah, I think you would. It's heavy card driven, which you like. Components are nice. The wooden board's really cool.
And it's quick. I would play it again.
It's fast. It's fast and fun.
Not like and it has
Factory
Manager.
It has a nice hectic
like
feel. I like it. I love the artwork. I like a lot about it. Now, I guess it's kind of hard to find right now.
Dude.
What?
Yeah, whatever.
Nothing. Go ahead.
I think it's kind of hard to find though. So if you can find it.
Yeah, and it definitely catches the theme. You have that sort of hectic, frenzied, trying to make food feel. So I liked it.
So enough. Yeah. So it was cool. It was fun. I'd play it again.
And that's pretty much all we did, because right after that we had to go get food.
We had to get food, and then we had to get ready for the big Dystopian Wars demo.
And then we had to get all ready for the
I showed up
Wars.
right when Craig was holding his head over Walkstar, and he looked miserable, and he was picking on Jeremy, and Jeremy was going to cry. And then I played Merchants and Marauders. And this was weird. This was a weird con. I played with the same old crew I play on Tuesday nights. I was like, "What's up with that?" Because the last con I played La Havre with last TempleCon I played with La Havre with a bunch of listeners. So I think I'm going to go back to that model.
Well, some of those people don't like to branch out. They like to keep with their normal clique.
Yeah. Well, I don't like playing with strangers. But when they sign up, I guess they're not strangers anymore. And then
do they have candy?
No. They just last time Greg did buy the scotch.
I get it.
Yeah. I played last year with I can't remember. It's a nice guy too. He goes to Carnage too. I can't remember his name, but he's a nice guy. Anyway, I played Merchants and Marauders, but the highlight for me was I played Civ. I had so much fun playing Civ, the board game.
Oh yeah, now what did you tell us about it? Which civilization did you play?
I was not the Chinese. I was the Americans, and I was going for a monetary victory.
Yep.
And I had the engine working really well. I'll never know if we won. The consensus was that I think Doc Rain was probably going to win with military might because we had to go to the demo, DW demo. But I just had fun. I don't know why. It was just a blast. It was just fun.
It's a good game.
It wasn't a brain burner.
It's a really good game,
yeah. It was fun.
I like it.
Yeah, it was fun.
So then at that point we all ended up having to get to the Dystopian Wars demo going.
Oh, wait. There was an important thing, sorry, Russ, that happened to me during then. Right. Greg Silverman, the listener of the show, I didn't get to play any games with him, unfortunately, but he knows that I'm trying to learn Scotch. Well, he comes by and he pours some Scotch for Doc and I. And this stuff, he's like, now be careful, guys. This is 53% proof. I don't even know how that's legal. But so Doc and I took it easy, but that's an important fact that you need to know that happens during the DW demo. So go ahead.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Something Craig and I didn't know because you're probably busy running the thing.
Yeah.
Just ask Nicole.
So Craig, how did that start? So we set up. Craig had his wonderful train. Right, we had his all set up.
Well, thank you. So we, as we said, the War Store was awesome, and they helped us set up an entire area this year. So we were in the same general place, but they cleared an entire area for us. Jeremy was awesome because he printed out huge posters of our Dystopian Wars characters, and we had them up all over the walls.
Yeah, that was cool.
And we basically ran 3 sessions of 8 people at a time, and it was the middle of each board edge and each corner. And very quickly in the first session, we learned that if we could coordinate it so that opposite people deployed in opposite areas would go at the same time, we could actually have 2 activations going at once, so we could double the amount of play that each player got.
Ah, right.
And
that was something we figured out in the second half, because the first game we kind of were like,
we figured it out in the first session,
and we ran into trouble with our
halfway
into
through.
each other.
Yeah,
but it was great. Everybody was really in the right spirit, which is important for these kind of things, because it's sort of a lot of yelling and fast moving and not a lot of deep strategy. But
right,
the scenario was cool. Craig had the little Sturginium oil rigs all across the table, and everybody's job was to capture as many of these oil rigs as they could. And everybody was running 2 squadrons each, right? Everybody had
2 activations each, whether it was a battleship and 3 frigates or 3 cruisers and 3 frigates.
Right. So it was good fun, and we were giving out prizes. We had all kinds of prizes to give out from Spartan.
Mm-hmm.
We were asking.
Was awesome with the prizes.
So we throw out a question, what defense do you use against torpedoes? And the first person to say concussion charge, we throw them a prize, and so we did that for a while, and then each round, the winner won. Pretty much everything they need to start the game. They won a starter box. They won a deck of cards, and they won the book, right?
Yep. And the dice.
Well, the dice were at the end, the last round.
Yeah.
Yep. And then we also gave away someone each round, depending on the different events. We changed each time, and it was never based on the winner. Would get their picture taken, and they would get submitted to Spartan Games to have their portrait and likeness used as part of the background fluff for Dystopian Wars.
Yep.
So we had 3 lucky winners got to take part of that as well, which is pretty exciting. So we took their pictures, took their information, and we sent it off to Spartan Games, so they can go look forward to that as well. So it's a really cool prize pack, and special thanks to Spartan for bringing all that together in such a nice way.
Step up.
All right, now Craig's a little pooped out tonight, so he's not doing himself justice. So I come rolling up, and I'm a little bit late, and I normally try to just blend into the woodwork, because Russ and Craig really know how to run a demo, and you just don't need to get in their way. So Craig was furiously, scrounging and everything painted. He's got little Sturginiums, and Russ was standing around. He's getting the timing right. And I know Russ is going to be back up, and Craig uses his huge parade grounds voice, which I love when he does. He's like, okay, listen up, and blah, blah, blah. He gives the rules. And Nicole started out as the ring girl. She would hold up, Craig would go, crit, and she'd hold up this big, huge poster so that Craig and Russ could read the crit chart, which I thought that was brilliant. And so I come rolling up, and my plan, when I saw I didn't really have much to do, was I'm like, okay, well, this will be my chance, and I'll just mingle with the crowd, and I'll talk to people, and you got to play a miniature game before. And so I'm trying to just, meet and greet people on a one-on-one basis. Now, meanwhile, I'm getting the impression that Craig thinks I'm just goofing off and slacking off. And he's like, Raef, because you would give these guys these little white marble things for when they would do it real quick, and it would give them a reroll.
Yeah.
And I'm talking to this guy, and I'm like, what? And I think the whole time he thinks I'm just goofing, but meanwhile I'm like, oh yeah, this is Dystopian Wars. It's a really cool game by Spartan Games, doing my thing. And so that was kind of fun. And during this time, Nicole walks up to me and she's like, woo, she's like, you reek. And I'm like, what are you talking about? She's like, oh my God, you smell like a distillery. She's like, what, are you drunk? And I'm like, no, I'm not drunk. I'm like, but freaking Silberman gave me this scotch. I'm like, it was potent, but no, I'm not. I don't believe in public displays of drunkenness. That would really embarrass me, So it just was funny. And so, so a couple times throughout the session.
We'll let that go. The jury's still out of that one.
Let it go?
What? Sorry? Can we say something? Sorry. Oh, we're good. It's all good. Keep going.
It's just interesting. Here. Everybody has their own unique thresholds of public
right. So it's all fine. It's fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so that was funny, and then at one point too, Romeo Battlephone was a sponsor along with Spartan Games with the actual demo. So Romeo was giving away a C4 bag, and so I was kind of wearing that, and it was really cool because I did get to do some one-on-ones and really meet some people, and a lot of people hadn't played miniature games before, and so Craig, you did an awesome job because I would say, hey, stick around. This is only for an hour. They're like, oh, really? I'm going to get a couple of my buddies. And you didn't know this behind the scenes, but one guy's on his cell phone. He's like, you got to get down here. And
cool.
A guy who never played a miniature game in his life won the pack. Nice. He won the starter pack. And he was up in his room, and then he came back down, and he was so psyched. He's like, this is the coolest thing ever. I totally forgot to tell you that until right now.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's
That's
very
awesome.
nice to hear.
Well,
And then I felt really cool because you guys voted in a young college kid, and he does play miniature games, and he liked Spartan games, and so he came specific for this demo, and he won the C4 Battle Foam case. So I just thought that was cool because, college kids are traditionally broke, and I think he really appreciated the case.
Another fun thing about the C4 case was that Raef, in a very good idea, wanted to give that away. Romeo actually came in and played it around. So Raef came over to me and went, I think this is where we should give it away. We should give it away for like the most spirited. I was like, okay, cool. So at the end of it, I was like, okay, everybody, who was the most spirited? And they all voted for Romeo because they didn't know why we were asking them to vote. And I was like, yeah, that doesn't work. He doesn't want to win this.
Or the best part is Romeo's there to actually play. He's got his models. They're all painted up. They look beautiful.
They look awesome.
He wants to learn the rules. Now, we're all excited because we're like, hey, Romeo from Battle Foam's here. Everybody looks at us and like, you could hear a cricket. Nobody says anything. They're like, yeah, so...
No, it was cool. It was really cool, and I really want to thank our listeners too, and the people that showed up because these kind of events are really more fun when people come to them, and the fact that there were so many of you that were because we never know, right? We don't.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
never know.
we like to think that there's going to be a lot of people there, but you never really know, and to see the beginning when it was stacked so deep and people were setting up their schedules so they can make sure they made it to one of the rounds, and have all the emails prior from the listeners saying we're going to be there, we can't wait to show up, and all the support was really, really great. And it was great to see you and meet everyone there. That could make it. So really, the best part of cons for me is meeting the folks like you who like to listen to the show, and so it was great to see so many people in one spot. And it was really that was my highlight at TempleCon right there, was just spending that much time with the folks who like the show and running the event and having a good time together.
We got to thank Kevin and the War Store because they, from what I understand, that not only did they donate all that dystopian war dice and the gift certificates, but Craig, how did they like hooked you up with space or something?
Yeah, like we already just said.
Yeah. We run into trouble
were
with
awesome.
space.
They moved all the stuff, and but I think we covered it.
Yeah,
Thomas
they
was
did a
zoned
great
out during
job.
that part.
So that was TempleCon was awesome, and it was a good time as usual.
Yeah.
Definitely, if you're in the Providence, Rhode Island area in February next year, make sure you can attend because it's definitely a really nice con. And as Nicole said in last episode's Total Fangirl, these smaller cons are a really totally different experience, and in some ways a better experience than the large cons. Just a different experience. So make sure if you're a real con fan and you want to try these things out, make sure you get some nice local con flair, smaller cons into your schedule, because it's definitely a great experience, and it's something you don't really find at larger cons.
Yeah, and I've already decided I'm doing an event where other people can come play. I'm not going to just play with everybody I play with on Tuesday.
Yeah, Hey, you should sign up for things. Push your boundaries. Sign up for new things. Try new stuff.
Well, I was jealous. Like Greg comes in. He's like, "Oh yeah, I'm doing this great role playing with Death Watch." I'm like, that would have been fun. Mm-hmm. I just fell asleep. I was somehow thinking, "Oh, it's local."
Get your badge
so
worth,
I didn't
man.
sign up for anything.
Get your badge worth. Sign up for stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So, in my last little TempleCon note, seeing all that War Machine in action, they had a huge War Machine turnout. I mean, it was crazy. It was it's like 250 people or maybe more.
It was crazy. It was huge.
And got me all excited because they had cosplay going on there too. I saw a Scar walking around.
I saw Scar,
and some other folks, and they had amazing tables as always. Privateer was crazy.
Did she have a huge rack?
She did. She did have a huge rack on her head.
On her head.
I
people
noticed
get your minds out of the gutter.
Yeah, right.
She had a huge backpack, and I'm not using a euphemism. No, really. I mean, she built those things on
right. The little steam things. Yeah, right. But it got me all excited for War Machine. So more about that a little later in my achievements here. So we'll take a few achievements for TempleCon. That was good fun. And achievements for our listeners who came out. That was great times.
Yep. So, achievements all around.
All around. Now, after TempleCon, that Sunday, was it Sunday evening? I can't remember. But anyway, I got a chance to break out. We started doing, the girls are now old enough. My girls are old enough. We're starting to do Sunday night family board game night.
Oh.
So we break out a board game. And this time I decided we'd try.
Does Nicole make cookies?
No, not yet. Although that's a good idea.
Are you in the doghouse by calling her stupid, by the way?
I did not call her stupid.
Oh.
No, but you're in the doghouse for implying that I did. So she's so not stupid, she doesn't fall for that stupid baiting.
Touche.
So I broke out Survive, and we'll talk more about that later. But my kids, the whole family loved it. Total success for the family.
I can't wait.
And so that's a good game, and more about that when we review it later.
Stronghold games.
Yeah, good job with resurrecting that one.
That was brilliant.
And then Craig and I. So then the following Tuesday, Angelo, who we're interviewing later this show, Angelo is in the region, and we know Angelo from his affiliation with La Quinta, the inns that help out the D6 generation and give those good deals. And the deal was he was in town. He's like, he wasn't trying to do any kind of promotion with us. He's like, guys, I'm in town. I just want to say hi, and I'm a gamer. I want to play some games.
That's right.
So we're like, cool.
And that's how he knows us.
Right.
He's a gamer.
So so he came up to Myriad Games on Tuesday, our gaming night, and we decided to break our schedules up so that we could play games, just the four of us, pretty much all evening, and go out to dinner. We played, we gave him 3 different games to sample. We tried Hexx XL before Raef got there as a filler game. Right. I think he really enjoyed that. We always have a good time with that game.
Oh, we had a blast.
Still haven't played that game.
You should. It's fun.
I want to.
So we played that, and then we played Survive. Raef got there. We broke out Survive. We went dinner first. Came back, got Survive. Survive was a big hit. Raef,
so fun.
Yeah, we'll talk more about that later. But that was
my God! It brought up so much memories from the past. And
Angelo liked it too, which is good.
It was fun playing with Angelo. It's like he fell right in with busting on us and stuff.
Oh, absolutely.
So achievements for that. He's really good. He's a quick learner too. He's a really interesting guy.
Yeah.
And then
even though he's no Targaryen.
No. Entirely susceptible to Jedi mind tricks.
He's like that stormtrooper that Obi-Wan says these aren't the droids you're looking for. That was Angelo.
Listen to the interview later for that one. And then we broke up Merchants and Marauders. Yep. We thought a nice sort of medium weight game would be fun for the
That was so fun.
And we had a blast with Merchants and Marauders. And we saw a lot of interesting events that we'd never seen before in the game.
Yes,
a lot of Captain Death. We saw the naval vessels moving in and Rafe skillfully avoiding them. And
my ability to tempt fate.
Right. Yep. So it was really, I think we saw a lot of stuff going on in the game. And even though all of us, at one point or the other, the game took longer than we expected because all of us sort of had bad luck on our streaks to victory. So we all kind of got stalled. But it didn't really matter, though. We still had a blast. At least I did. It was just fun.
Yeah. It was an absolute blast.
So Angelo was a great sport in all those events. It was really fun playing with him. And, so if you ever happen to run into Angelo, wherever you are, definitely sit down with a game with the guy because he's a real great guy to play a game with.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And there's a very high likelihood when you hear the interview, he may be where you are.
You never know. The guy's
eventually.
All over. Right. If there's a random dude named Angelo, no, seriously, if there's a random dude named Angelo hanging out in your game store one day you didn't expect, you've never seen him before, and he's like, hey, I'm Angelo.
Get a Foursquare, or this might be too creepy, I don't know, but he should get a Foursquare account or like tweet and like, I'm here, and like D6G gamers can like hook up with him and he can play and
could totally network. We should do that. We should. And then
our wandering correspondent.
Right. It'd be like, where's Waldo? Where's Angelo?
Right, where's Angelo?
He gives field reports. Right now, I'm flying high over I-95. Anyway, I don't know if that came across. But anyway,
talk to me about War Machine.
Oh, basically, before we get to War Machine, I have one more thing I want to mention. Another family game night. So this
This is
so
good.
I had another board game night. Kit, my youngest daughter, for some reason, she's 7. She passed out. So my oldest daughter, who's 8, Rose, she's been dying to play one of these board games with the dungeon crawl. So I was like, okay, I'll break out Ravenloft. So I took Ravenloft out. We're going to play 2 players on the first multiplayer scenario. And she chose her character. I let her pick anyone. She wanted to play the girl. She picked the ranger. And I picked the cleric, figuring that I could help keep her alive with the cleric. It's only 2 players. It's a tough 2-player game. And then I also gave us one. You're supposed to have one. I think you're supposed to normally get 1 healing surge token each, but I gave us each 2.
That's smart.
Just as a bonus. And she loved it. She loved every minute. And she was totally into it. She totally got the tension. She's like, oh, no, we're only down to 1 healing surge. I'm down to 3 hit points, Daddy. So don't worry, Rose. I'm going to do a healing strike. She's like, can you do your healing strike? And she had it totally figured out. Can you do your lance there and kill that? Because she had all figured out. She's all into it. She got the attention. She liked the story. She's like, can we see more of the story next week? And I was excited to see that we both made it through. We survived that level of the dungeon, and we only used 1 healing surge each, so we technically beat it on normal difficulty. So we're pretty excited about that. Mm-hmm. So she really liked it a lot. In fact, so much so that I got the new Dragon version just came out this week. So I got that. I picked up the newest version of Ravenloft, the new Ravenloft board game, but it's not Ravenloft. It's now, what is it, Dragon, Call of Ashelon?
Call of Ashelon or something.
And I got that because it just gives more, it's a whole other box game.
How did she deal with the sort of what Lou and I categorize, and Craig, I think, as the boring repetitiveness? This flip a tile up, there's a monster. Flip a tile up, there's a monster. How did she get excited about that?
I don't think that's boring. I think what happens with her is she figured out immediately the idea that if you don't flip a tile, an event card happens. She figured out event cards were bad very, very quickly, and she was like, I want to... And she was the ranger. She had the ability to scout without being against the edge of the board, And she figured out, she totally had her movement down, so like she could scout and always put the tiles over, and she was trying to find the room. She's like, how many more tiles is it to the room, Daddy? And she's trying to guess how many it is. And she was really working
it out. In training.
No, she loved it.
No, I'm not criticizing her.
It's definitely... Ravenloft is definitely very much a puzzle game. So it's not. It's a very abstracted dungeon crawl, and I think now maybe because she's never played Descent, she didn't have an expectation of being something different than it was. She just liked what it was,
Right.
So yeah, we had a great time, and she's really looking forward to this Sunday again. I'll be breaking it out again, and we'll try the next level, and I'll see if I can sneak Kit in there. I think Kit's not really strong on the reading yet, so I think she might be a little bit tougher on that part. But she loved reading her daily powers, and she wanted to hold them to just the right moment. So good times. But now, I'll still get an achievement for teaching my daughter Ravenloft. Now, then what happened is, so after TempleCon, I was just totally in War Machine mode, and it just turned out to be good serendipity because one of our local War Machine players, who doesn't come on Tuesdays very often, but he's a very dedicated War Machine player, emailed out to our little group here at Myriad that he was going to run, or Myriad's running a 15-point Highlander tournament this coming Saturday at Myriad.
Can't do weekends.
So 15
Why
points.
is it called the Highlander?
Because there can be only one. Here's how it works. You can only have 15-point list, which is pretty small. You may have one Warcaster. Well, that's duh. You may have one and only one Jacker Warbeast. You may have one and only one unit with attachments. And you may have one and only one solo. And I think every one of those categories is also, we're trying to determine if it's also a must. So I think you must have a solo, you must have a unit, you must have a Jacker Warbeast, and you must have a Warcaster. And that's all you can have. And it's got to fit into 15 points. And so it's a really unique build structure. And you can also only have one list, which in War Machine, normally you take 2 lists to a tournament and switch them out. So you have one list and one of each type.
Yeah, I'm jonesing for War Machine.
Really unique. And so I played a test game against Blake last night, and we had a great time. Blake totally destroyed me because, it's Blake, and he's awesome. But I had a great time with him, and I'm also taking this as an opportunity to build one of my jacks I haven't played with in a long time. I've had him in parts. Old Rowdy, never finished him, so I'm going to get him done. And then I'm to build some of my new Stormblade gunners, the guys with the big guns that hang out with the Stormblade. So it's a good opportunity to do a little more modeling for War Machine, and I'm looking forward to playing in a totally wacky tournament format to see how that works. It'll be fast games because only 15 points, so it'll be over quick, one way or the other. Right?
All right.
So we'll see what happens. So that's all that stuff.
All I've got is I played all those games I've already mentioned, but I had a very fun game against Don again in Flames of War.
Oh, yeah.
And I played a 900-point mid-war list, and Don played his Germans, and it was very close. He eked it out, and my goal is I need to get better on the rules, not because I expect to win the tournament at Adepticon, but I just always rely, you've heard me say this before on Russ and other people, and I just rely on, saying half of the rule, and Don completes my sentence for me, and I don't want to do that for Adepticon, so the goal is not for me to win. My goal is to me to have confidence in knowing the rules. But there was just so much cinema with that game. It must be probably what Craig feels when he plays Dystopian Wars, I think. Is like there was this one moment where I had to run from behind a house to the woods. And Don is entrenched Germans with submachine guns. And literally my stomach turned to like ice water because I was just so petrified of my guys. I'm like, oh my God, they're just going to get chewed to bits. And I was like, man, no wonder. I mean, on the one hand, it's scary because again, real people did that, and on the one hand, I almost feel like I cheapen it by playing the game. But on the other hand, it was just so much fun that this game creates that kind of visceral feeling for me. So we just had a blast.
Yeah, it's an awesome game, and that's the reason I can't play Flames of War, because exactly this feeling you described. I get too into it.
Yeah,
but that's an awesome game.
Yeah.
Now you were playing that. I was right next door on the table next to you, playing Jeremy in a massive, because we're now at the strategic level of our XCAM. Some of us are, and so. Yep. I played in this massive strategic mission, so it was pretty much every model I own for Blazing Suns on the table, which are now all painted, base coated, basically. Except for one of my cruisers, because I had 800 points. And then Jeremy had 600 points, and he was attacking me, and I had to escort 3 convoy ships. And we had a blast. In fact, we saw stuff we've never seen before. Tiny flyers were like the MVPs of both sides. My torp bombers, actually landed and reloaded and fired twice from the carrier, which people have said doesn't happen in the game. Oh, it does, baby. It's awesome. And that was sweet. We did lots of damage with that. I actually ended up having a glorious victory. Poor Jeremy. I wiped out all of his boats except for his battleship because I captured his battleship and got away with 2 of the escorts I was carrying. So I only lost one of my escorts, and I had a really good day there. And it was just so everything just worked. And he had these 2 flights of little fighters playing free sweepers kind of at the end, 2 safeties that were going to get my convoy. And I had to, it was tough because I had to hold the convoy back so I didn't run into his fighters who would easily dive bomb me and kill me. And yet, if I kept too close back, his battleship and his cruisers that were pursuing me would get me. But what turned the tide was his 2 cruisers came around the back of an island and started shelling the back of my fleet. My battleship went broadside. Get this. Front battery fires, hits his first ship. Okay, I get a crit. I play lucky shot, right? Yeah. I roll a 6 and a 5, re-roll the 5, roll a 6. That one gets sucked into the warp. My stern cannon fires at the other cruiser. Critical, roll snake eyes. Nuked him. Now, the other one, cruiser had been killed earlier, so that totally took his cruisers out, and that was when his battleship was starting to get hammered by torpedo bombers, and my 2 bombers actually bombed his battleship. Wow. It was like, everything was coming. It was awesome. It was like pure, full combos. It was great. It was a glorious, glorious day for the Blazing Sun. So
that is awesome.
Good times indeed. So that was awesome. And then last but not least, big new release day, because I was at Myriad there. They had... Magnifico was out, so I got that from GameShare. But then Jeremy, our Sherpa, picked up Conquest of Planet Earth, which is the new game from Flying Frog Productions. This is the one where you play the aliens invading a major city near you, and it was awesome.
Is it the Carney Folk one?
No. Each player controls little UFOs that are plastic models that look like they're flying around shooting beams and destroying the ground. And then you invade different areas of the map, and you flip over cards, and like it might be like the Washington Monument, and there's a certain amount of resistance there. You got to fight, and you blow. And then there's like space technology you can get, like brings like a giant robot in, and there's a model for the giant robot or Godzilla, and there's like 10 different races you can play. So really? I was playing like the space orcs, the big meaty guys. Jeremy had a guy that were terrible in combat. They had the mind controls to take control of the humans. It was awesome. It was definitely in the same spirit of Last Night on Earth, the zombie game. You know, it's kind of silly fun. There's not a lot of depth there, but it's perfectly themed, great fun, and it actually plays very quickly. Good times. Definitely highly recommend. If you like components and a little silly gameplay, Conquest of Planet Earth, you need to check the game out. Good fun.
Wow.
So, that was all a lot of game in there, but I had a lot of achievements to achieve.
No, that's awesome.
Whew. You got anything, Craig, before we move on to model?
Last night I didn't get to play Dystopian Wars or watch Flames of War.
Oh,
Negative
yes.
God, the music started. There,
what is this?
I don't know what happened there.
What was that? That was annoying enough when it was valid.
Play the sheep noise.
Negative achievement for that. Sorry, folks. Yeah. My bad.
What? And I'm not sure why am I getting a negative achievement for what
for missing Dystopian Wars.
Yeah, but I did. Okay, so anyway, Ian has been jonesing for a night of Star Wars RPG.
What do we call him now, Russ? The Necro Gamer?
I just want to say too that if I had taken the Dystopian Wars evening off to do something else, Dystopian would have been pronounced dead by someone on this podcast, not me.
Very true. That's absolutely true.
That's why you got the negative achievement, my friend.
Okay.
Craig, I think he's right.
He is right. I'm already alarmed by how few people are playing. But
Jeremy and I are all over it, baby. We're single-handedly carrying it, baby.
I'm back. I promised months ago that I would play this game. Okay.
All right.
So we played Star Wars Roleplay, which is considered by many to be sort of like the lab in which they tested their ideas for 4th edition D&D.
Really?
Without some of
it's made by WotC?
Yes.
I didn't know that either.
Yeah, and a lot of the changes from 3.5 to 4. I have a feat. This is the first time Dave was saying this too, and it's true of me also. This is the first time I've ever played a role-playing game where I didn't crack a book. So I really don't know how the game plays.
Was that a good thing, though? Was it mean the rules were so contained you didn't have to crack a book, or you just didn't get a chance to crack a book?
I didn't get a chance, and most of it is it's a D20 system, obviously, and so it's relatively easy to follow along with what's going on, and you can tell that it's got its basis in the old D&D, but there's you're not looking to break the armor class to hit, you're trying to break their reflex score to hit now, which is kind of incorporates their armor and their agility, and so there's a lot of amalgamating going on with the stats.
Nice word,
amalgamating.
Thank you.
An achievement for
but yeah, it was interesting. I think I'm almost too invested in the Star Wars universe that I don't want to play in there.
Right there.
Yeah,
I can't role play in it.
Yeah. It's almost too intimidating, and I was a Chagrian mercenary.
What's that?
You know those guys with they've got a set of horns going straight up, really tall, thin horns, and then they've got kind of very, very short tentacles coming off the sides of their heads with more horns straight down.
Sure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. How do you role play that?
Well, I mean, I was just role playing. I'm like, I don't know, honestly. I don't know.
See?
And it was interesting. I'm not going to name any names, but it was interesting around the table because there were a couple people who were role players, ROLL, like Raef.
Let me guess.
No, I'm
Will
not
and
I'm not
not
gonna, first
naming
of all,
names.
Will wasn't there, but
Will wasn't there. That's right.
no, and and so it was like I went in months ago, and I was like, Ian, I don't know, like I kind of want to be this guy here, this race, because they're cool and I have a cool mini, and I kind of like the way they look and they stand and they but I want to be
a stands. I like how he stands.
The model. Okay.
Oh, right, okay.
And I want to be a pilot. And he's like, okay, well, blah blah blah. So he made the character for me. The problem is that if you want to really maximize your bonuses and your rolling ability, that you don't want to be a Chagri and you want to be one of these other guys to be a pilot, and so blah 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 blah, yada yada yada. So I wasn't like optimized for anything.
Right.
And so I went in and I'm like, oh, cool. So in my head, I'm like, okay, so I'm the pilot if we need something piloting. Well, the ROLL player was a pilot who had like 8 more bonuses than I did because he was exactly the right race.
But the DM didn't
exactly the right things set up. And,
yeah, but they didn't sort of talk to all the players and make sure everybody was different. Everybody get overlapping roles.
I don't know how that happened. I mean, Ian's a nice guy. He wants everybody to be happy. So,
so would you say this is the Jar Jar Binks of an RPG event?
No, because I think I'm sure there are people that would like. Everybody had fun. I mean,
would you upgrade it?
Ian was there.
Would you upgrade it to Young Annie?
No, I wouldn't do that. It's way above Young Annie.
Oh, it's above Young Annie. So it's above Young Annie, above Jar Jar. Are we now talking about naked C-3PO level maybe?
Yeah, okay. Probably around naked C-3PO level.
Would you describe the event as wizard?
No, I would never use wizard as an adjective.
All right. Okay.
See, I know that we run the risk of going long, but I just have to ask. This is where
this is good radio here, people.
This is where I admire Craig. I'm not being sarcastic and I'm not being facetious because
I can't
this
wait
is
to hear
exactly the scenario where months and months and months ago, Craig, it says to Ian, I will play. And Craig is a man of his word. And Raef, if in Craig's shoes, would go, wait a minute, Dystopian Wars? Yeah, I'm not doing that. That's crazy.
Right.
Like, just forget about it. No.
Yeah, well.
So, but I don't know. Didn't you really just want to play, Dystopian Wars?
There were times, and it had nothing to do with Ian's GMing and nothing to do with the system.
I know.
But there were times last night where I was like literally going, well, I could do that, but there's a guy who could do that better. And those guys are kind of like sitting back and they're not. I'm like role playing. I'm going in. I'm talking to people. I'm trying to chat people up. I get a little holo recorder, so I'm trying to get a little holo recording of everybody in the bar, so I can like later identify them if I can like sell the information. And
this does sound like a Raef character. I got my comm link. I'm ready to go. I've got the holo recorder. I'm recording people.
Oh, I had a comm link too. Totally.
Oh, good. Nice. Okay.
But it was funny because there were constant references to Death Watch.
Oh, really?
Because constantly like, well, if we were Marines, we'd just jump in on the roof and blast it with a melt-a-bomb.
Right. And then die to a Hive Tyrant, just leave the last part out.
Yeah.
But, no, I mean, Ian had a really good adventure set up, and it was kind of like it was supposed to be like a one-off. So it was it was good. The only thing I would say is he did a lot of hiding the ball, which we referenced when we were talking about Death Watch. So it was kind of like, okay, you want to go to this planet and you get this information, but when you go there, the guy's like, oh, I don't have that information. You're like, oh, okay.
Okay.
And then, okay, we'll go over to that guy. Well, he doesn't have the information either. Okay. Well, what we need, we know we need to buy a shuttle from him, so we'll buy the shuttle from him. Okay, he's got our money. Oh, by the way, I don't have a shuttle. Oh, okay. So Ian was getting very clever with his plots, and the time was ticking down both in the game and at night, and but it ultimately ended up. We assaulted a big bunker full of stormtroopers, and it was a blast. And stormtroopers are wimps, I gotta say. And like my character, who was so middle of the road, didn't do anything good. Well, it turns out he's awesome at blasting you with a heavy blaster pistol at point blank range.
Right.
So that was where he shined. So it was fun. It was.
So you wouldn't want to
have a lightsaber?
Yeah, you.
No, because none of us were Jedi. Because it took place a year after the first Death Star blew up.
Okay.
But it was funny because I decided my guy was like, and I didn't have any background fluff for my guy or anything, so I was just making it all up on the fly. And I'm like, and technically there's a soldier class, and I wasn't him. I was a scoundrel, so I don't even know really what my background was. But I decided that I was like a vet, and I didn't trust anybody, so I was literally being all suspicious of all of our contacts and everything. And it turned out that randomly I was right about everybody. So that was funny too.
That's good. I'm glad it was.
I mean, it was a good time. I mean, Dave was funny, and Dave's always funny, and Ian's great, and the Alex.
You're a better man than me. That's all I can say.
The Alex boys. Everybody. We all had fun.
Sure had a fun time playing Flames of War. How about you, Russ?
Oh, shut up.
I'll give you an achievement for that. It's obviously a very wizard experience, so I'm excited for it.
It was wizard, Annie.
Right.
I don't know what the heck.
All right, we're bringing it back, Raef. We're bringing it back. Bringing wizard back. All right, moving on to modeling. And this is going to be a long achievements, folks, but hang in here because, we got a lot going on because of TempleCon. It was a very busy week or two. So I did some modeling recently. Believe it or not, pre-TempleCon, I got all my cruisers and battleships done for the big TempleCon showdown there. Actually, I'm emailing Craig, okay, what do I have to have done because I'm not going to finish it all. What can I leave out? And I left out my Sky Fortress, which I finished. Well, okay, the Sky Fortress is not really finished, but it's got base coated in all the important areas. So the wood's done, the green areas are done. I got some brass here and there, and I got to go through and do all the detail work on it still. But I'm really liking how it looks. That's just a great model. I really like that model a lot. Even with just a couple colors on it, looks great. Also now, of course, getting ready for the big Highlander event. So for War Machine, so I've got doing some cleanup on my War Machine models. Like some of them got broke when I dropped my tray the other. When I got back from Gen Con. My irony story of making it to the airplane okay, and then I dropped my stupid tray. So I got to fix that. And then I'm also getting my Stormblade gunners and unit attachments ready. So I'm working on those. And so I've been doing a little bit of modeling. Keep busy.
Very nice.
Took a tune for that.
Yep, absolutely.
Yeah, Craig, you go.
Well, I finished my second FSA starter box with 3 more cruisers. So that's I have more frigates than you can actually legally field in a 1,200 point game.
So why did you do this?
Good.
Why did you buy a second box?
I don't know, honestly. You know what? Because I wanted to paint more of them because it's so rewarding to paint those models, but I didn't want to buy a second fleet because every time I buy a second fleet, that's when the Spartan game fizzles out. So I wanted to
That's
just
what
focus.
I was going to say. Craig's used to buying 2 starter fleets right out of the gate, but this particular time he didn't.
Right.
So it was like going around the world with his left arm gone.
All right, okay.
Kind of like that, I guess, yeah.
I'll get a cheer for that.
Now, we haven't mentioned very much, but Raef and I are going to Adepticon.
Woo! Cheer for that.
So we're very excited about that. And Rafe's doing a Flames of War event. He's very excited about that.
Doing a
tournament, yeah. And I'm doing an epic tournament. So I'm really excited, except they don't allow squats. So that was more money than I'm ever going to admit to. Wasted as far as that goes.
Wow. That's too bad.
So I'm going back to my IG army, which is what I was using over the summer. And so also terrain, although I probably won't have to bring it with me to Chicago, I've got all this terrain that was half finished from my last binge of Epic.
Well, let me ask you this, though. Why do you think they don't allow squats? Because isn't Epic sort of a fan-supported game anyway right now? Why are squats out?
No, it's not necessarily. No, it's, well, firstly,
that's a great question.
It's a good question. Technically, it's half fan-supported and it's half still got the stuff that's valid with GW.
Okay.
So all the stuff that's valid with GW is valid. But then the community, mainly the tactical command website, forums and everything, they actually have a really, really rigid, lest we say more rigid than GW, playtesting system that they've got set up, so that that an army list has to really go through a rigorous, expansion experience before it can be okayed by them.
And the squats are too new, or what?
And squats are in the process of being okayed, but there's 2 separate lists, and people are like arguing over which list. And this list is real squats, and this list is that BFG race that everybody thought might be squats. And so it's it totally makes sense that it's not ready yet. But you could be Dark Eldar, which is totally fan created. You can be Necrons, which is totally fan created. There's all kinds of fan-created IG variations, but they've all been play-tested up the wazoo by a bunch of different communities. So,
wow,
I don't know yet whether I'm going to go straight IG or armored regiment. But so I've been dragging out all the I did before I started picking up squats. I picked up a whole bunch of armor and artillery and chimeras and stuff like that. So I put together and primed and started painting another whole tank company and a bunch of chimeras, and I got all my aircraft set up and ready to go, and a bunch of manticores, the resin ones from Forge World, which while I was putting all these models together, I started to have these like I don't get why these models don't look better. When I look at Spartan Games models, in particular their resin, and then you look at the money that GW has got to be able to bring to bear on any project they're doing, why do these resin models not kick ass as opposed to, okay, I can tell it's a chimera thing, and okay.
Because they're a dinosaur.
Well, it's weird because a year ago I loved the epic models, and I still
until Spartan.
But now I'm spoiled with resin, I think. I am.
They haven't adapted. It's like Borders.
He's growing up. Right?
Oh, yeah. Actually, I just got an email. Borders just announced it's going into Chapter 11.
Chapter 11.
Bye-bye.
And I think they will pop out and survive. And GW, you're hearing it from me. File Chapter 11. Get it over with. Pop out. Survive.
Okay. And I'm also painting up those buildings, and I've got that cathedral that I painted, and so I'm all very excited in my epic phase right now. And very briefly, since we're talking about Adepticon, Raef and I will also be hosting a big board game night Sunday night.
The first one ever.
The first one ever. So Sunday night, if you're going to be at Adepticon and you're going to be there Sunday night, you're going to be finding us, and we're going to be playing board games, and we've got all kinds of our corporate sponsors and supporters and friends that we've made all through the years. They're going to be providing games for the board game night. We're going to be giving a bunch of those away.
Let's play Survive.
Yep. Well, I'm hoping Stronghold's going to. I mean, they're going to.
They're going to step up.
They're awesome. I haven't even asked them yet, but yeah. So it's going to be awesome. We're going to have a lot of different games. The Adepticon guys are going to be providing some games too. They've got some avenues. And it's going to be a blast, and it's going to be all night Sunday. So stay an extra day.
As far as you know, Craig, is it just show up and play, or is it sign up and play?
Nope, it's totally show up and play.
Cool.
It's free. It's basically a party for all the volunteers and all the people who stayed an extra day or they're leaving in the morning like we are.
Yep.
Cool.
Yep.
Going to be a blast. Absolutely.
I have one modeling thing, and I've been excited. I'm using Army Builder to build my lists, and then I'm going through my list, making sure I have everything painted. And what's really cool is there's a tendency to not use transports because they often get sent to the rear.
In Flames of War, you're talking about.
In Flames of War. But Don was telling me that, what you do is you have to display your army. And I've always wanted to paint and own trucks. Because Craig has an awesome motorized British truck.
I love my trucks.
I love my trucks too. And when I did my trucks for Germany too, I really was bothering me that they died so easily because I love painting them up and how they came out, and you can never really use them in the game.
Yeah. Well, I've never bought them because it's like, box of Shermans, box of trucks. What are you going to buy?
Right.
So now I have an excuse to buy some trucks and paint some trucks. So I'm just psyched.
You know what they're good for? They're good for making your army look good when it's being judged for its appearance.
I agree.
That's what Don was saying. And he's like, technically speaking, to be rep, to be WYSIWYG, you need the truck. Well, whether you play with it or not, that's a different story.
Right. That's the thing that always killed me, like Russ says. But mine never died because I always sent. You have to literally deploy the truck with the unit that's supposed to be driving in it, and then in turn one, it gets sent to the rear.
Right.
So it doesn't even matter how fast the truck moves. You can immediately take it off the board, even if it doesn't have enough move to get to the edge. You just take it off because it went to the rear.
Right.
So you're setting up. So it looks really cool in the opening phase of the game, and then you take the trucks off.
And just to go a little bit off the beaten path, the reason why nobody, so you're reading this list, you get this fully, there's a part where the guys lost their half tracks. Like I play U.S. Armored infantry, and they lose their half tracks, so they become a truck company, historically in the war. But in the game mechanics, infantry gets the best save, 3+ save. If they're sitting in a truck, you only get your truck save 5+. You lose your infantry. Right. It's not like 40K where they blow up out of the Rhino and then they get an army save.
Right.
Armor save.
Right.
So, anyway.
Well, achievement for transports.
Yeah, there you go.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, other, I got a couple little video game things here real quick. I don't have a lot of other, but so this new game coming on Xbox Live called Stackers. And
yes, the Russian Chinese dolls.
Yes,
I mean the Russian stacking dolls.
Yes, so nesting
dolls.
Nesting
dolls.
So what it is it's my daughter Rose fell in love with the demo, and she actually used her allowance to buy the Xbox Live game, and she loves it. In fact, she's already solved it. She keeps going back to it every morning and trying to solve all these puzzles because there's different. It's sort of like an adventure game, and you start out as a small, and it's really cool because it's like 1920, 1930. And there's this family of nesting dolls, right? And they get split up, and you're playing as the youngest boy, and you got to go find them. But the thing is, you can sneak up behind any other nesting doll that's one size bigger than you, jump inside of it, and take control of them. And then you can jump inside another one. And when you're in control of one of these other nesting dolls, each of them have one special power. It might be the key keeper who is going to unlock a gate at the train station, or it might be the a pelican which can fly, or whatever. And you unlock these puzzles. It's kind of like an old school adventure game. But the art style, the art direction is beautiful. Great graphics. Really fun title. My daughter loves it, and it's just a really creative game. So even for adults, I think you like it, but great for kids too. So definitely check out Stackers.
Sorry, I got to chime in there.
Yeah.
Lou downloaded a demo. I think it's called Costumes.
Yes, is that the Halloween one?
Yes,
my daughter.
So Craig, I see him. Yeah. He's playing this little kid, and he's walking around this really cool arcadey board, and it has these little quests or whatever. And the kid's wearing like a cardboard cutout robot costume, but when you get into the big boss fight, he turns into a big cartoon transformer. So you see a huge transformer hitting with big swords and missiles. So it's in the kid's imagination, he's the transformer.
Oh, cool!
It looks really cool.
Yeah. That was a neat game. That came out on Halloween. That was pretty cool. Now, the other big video game hotness coming out is
new.
Dawn of War 2 Redemption. So, there's a Retribution. I can't remember, but one of those two. Anyway, you can tell because it's got a giant Inquisitor logo on the front. And the big deal about this one is a couple things going on here. So, Dawn of War 2 is phenomenal, right? And in Dawn of War 2's expansion, they added Chaos to it. So you still played the main campaign as Marines, but you could fight Chaos and become tainted. Well, in the new Dawn of War now, they have campaigns for all the major races, so you can play the campaign as Orcs, as Eldar, as Space Marines, as what's the other one? Chaos. But then also they've added Imperial Guard. And what's cool about Dawn of War 2 is you pick your main leader, and one of the leaders is a female Inquisitor, and she's got the little servo skull flying around, and she's got the little floppy Inquisitor hat and everything. It looks phenomenal. I got to play the beta's out, and if you own one of the earlier copies of Dawn of War, either 2 or 1, on Steam, you can download the beta for free. The beta is only multiplayer, but if you download the beta and set it to just play against the computer by itself, you can try out the Imperial Guard, set the difficulty easy, and just check it. You can give you a Bane Blade. You got all your. What's really cool too is you build your squad of infantry, right, and they got their little las guns, and then you can add attachments to the unit. So you can add a commissar, and he can do summary execution and all that stuff. It's awesome. It's really cool. So the Chimeras work perfectly. They support perfectly. The Sentinels look right out of 40K. They walk around. Little steam things going. Really, really cool. Definitely check out Dawn of War 2, the beta at least, because the full game is coming out, I think, in another month. So pretty cool stuff. So that's my other.
Very nice. Go ahead, Rafe.
I'm getting tired. So the only thing I'm going to say is Craig's predictions. So, Craig, I credit you, my friend, for the peaceful resolution of Egypt and Tunisia's countries.
How is that positive? He was negative.
Because Craig predicts that it's going to be the worst strategy ever, which he admits he's horrible about predictions. So by predicting the worst, the negative occurred, the opposite occurred, the reflective occurred. Due to Craig, Egypt is now free, and Tunisia. I just think that's amazing. I mean, seriously, he predicted a really bad thing, and instead, whoever saw that would have happened?
Well,
nobody.
Actually, I do have a confession to make.
Okay.
Interestingly enough, I am behind the entire thing that's happening in Egypt right now.
So you're not that Google. It's not the Google guy. It's you.
No, it's me because our trip in April was scheduled to go to Egypt, and I've already been to Egypt. And so now, with the unrest, we're not going to Egypt. We're going to Santorini, which I've been to already also. But Santorini is absolutely amazing, and it's the island that most people think, as I think you've already heard recently, that Atlantis was based on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
you planned all the unrest to get your tour canceled and switch.
I did.
Nice.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah. No, I kidding. It's a joke. Sorry if you like that Massachusetts student that got trapped in Cairo.
So you've been reading any books there, Gallant?
I've been reading a couple books, yeah.
Like what?
Okay, so I finished the audiobook, The Vor Game, which is the next Vorkosigan book by Bujold, and loved it. Okay, so here's the deal. I'm a convert. I love the Miles Vorkosigan, the whole Vorkosigan series. In fact, I had a bunch of listeners who emailed me and said, you can't keep listening until you listen to the first two prequels, because they'll set up the whole universe for you. And I did it. This is the first time I've ever done this, too. Excuse me. Started on the audiobooks, went to the actual books. I'm going to keep going with the audiobooks for the Miles Vorkosigan timeline, but I went back and I devoured Cordelia's Honor, which is an omnibus of the two prequel books, and they're awesome.
That came out kind of funny, when you listen back to that.
Okay.
Go ahead. Keep going.
I thought it was okay.
Anyway. So I absolutely loved the book. I'm a huge convert now. I don't know if I'd say I love them as much as the Honor Harrington books, but they're really, really good. So those of you who are like, I can't believe you've never read them. Well, there you go. I should have read them. And for those of you who haven't read them, do yourself a favor and go out and read them.
Achievement for that.
Now, speaking of classics, though, I didn't have anything to listen to from the library that I was interested in, and they just happened to have Armor by John Steakley, which is a huge, big classic book that revolves around this awesome suit of powered armor. If you haven't read it, go read it. It is awesome the way it's structured, and if you're going to listen to the audiobook, Tom Weiner is the voice actor. He is amazing. One of the best, if not the best, voice actor that I've listened to in years. Just every character has a totally different voice, and he even throws accents in there where they're not actually written into the book. So you get the idea is it's so far in the future that Earth is basically Earth, and there's just that one government, and we're all from Earth. So an Earth fleet ship is going to have people with all kinds of different accents on it. So every character's got a different accent, and it's just awesome. The one question I have for listeners, and I know a lot of you have read Armor, and if you guys haven't read Armor, you've got to read it.
I haven't read
awesome.
I have not either.
Okay,
I'll put it on my
you
list.
will love it. I guarantee you. Except the entire middle chunk of the book is basically these three characters who are accessing the memory core of a suit of armor that they've found.
That's cool.
And their experience, the only way they can do it, because it's degraded so much from battle damage and age, the only way they can do it is actually kind of plug in emotionally. So they're living through the armor's last 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a huge problem, and the huge problem is there are moments that they're living through, and it actually changes the point of view. So the point of view is it's first person in part of the book, and it's in third person when it's the guy in the armor.
Okay.
Which theoretically is you shouldn't ever be able to get any of that story when he's not in armor, because they're accessing it through the armor.
Oh.
But there are sections where he doesn't have his armor on, and they're experiencing it. You have to assume, because that's the way the novel is structured. So I've read the book 3 times over the last 10 years, and I never noticed that. And I noticed that in the audiobook, and now I'm like, please tell me, any listeners out there, am I missing something? And the way it's written, it's not something that's going to glare out at you either, especially if you're reading it, because it's almost written like 2 different books. One book that takes place 2 years after the other book. But it's interspersed, you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like the chapters that are from the point of view of the guy in the armor are just like a book from the point of view of the guy in the armor. And the first person narrated sections of the book that happened 2 years later are like a totally different book that's referencing the same sort of thing. But I love it. It's just that one little thing is like, now I'm like, oh, like seriously, how could he have been in the bathroom naked, staring at himself in the mirror, wondering who he was? And they know that because they're getting it out of the armor. So that's the one little issue I have.
Some continuity issues.
Exactly. But the story of the book and the structure of the story is just amazing.
Achievement for armor.
And indeed.
Achievement for armor.
That's John Steakley's Armor. And I'm reading Triumph by Dan Abnett. Thank you, Nils.
What the F?
And it's okay. Nils,
I like to read.
Yeah, well, sorry.
Yeah.
Speaking of that, Wakeland, where's my book?
You gotta show up.
I was there.
You gotta show up on nights I bring the book.
Oh, that's trick. And he will never tell you what those nights are.
Right, it's a test.
Yeah. So,
I'm
enjoying Triumph. It's light. It's quick. It's everything Nils said it was, which is like, it's okay. I would much rather, if I'm going to be reading Dan Abnett, I'd much rather be reading Dan Abnett writing 40K. But this is kind of like a poor man's Terry Pratchett. So if you're a huge Terry Pratchett fan and you're begging for something new before the next book comes out, you could probably read this and you'd be like, oh, it's okay. Because it's the same sort of tongue-in-cheek. It's supposed to take place in the modern age for us, but it's an alternative timeline, and then magic was discovered in the Renaissance, so no technology was developed because magic was used to do everything, and that's the very, very, very basics of it. But it's good, it's neat. I'm enjoying it.
Okay,
and that's me.
All right, is that achievements?
That's achievements. Holy,
that is achievements.
You're listening to the D6 generation. Born to game.
And now it's time to talk about our friends at Lone Wolf Development. Building quality software for all your gaming needs. Yeah, that was a pretty... What's up with the wolf? Is he sick over there? What's going on?
He is. He's tired, man. He's had a rough couple of weeks.
But, even when they're tired, they're still cranking out great software tirelessly.
You bet.
How'd you like that? Army Builder, the recent release of 3.3, supports all those cool user images, custom output formats to make your list look exactly like you want.
That's what I wanted to talk to you about.
Yeah, so did you try it out, Raef?
So with Adepticon coming up, I've been building my Flames of War lists. I have to make a 900-point mid-war list, and I got to check out the new version 3.3, and here's just a kooky thing that I really liked. You can change the background from standard Army Builder blue to then what I'm calling Army Builder Desert. And for whatever reason, for me, it was so fun to click that because my mid-war lists come from North Africa.
So now it's like the whole
desert.
You're like in more of your list designing mode. You're like in Europe. In the sandy desert.
Of course, it's so easy. Drop and click. And even if you don't have the automatic update, it's so easy to import the Flames of War files. It was just click. The user interface, I noticed, is 100 times easier than version 1.
Yeah, they definitely improve it. They're constantly improving their stuff, which is really
it's cool.
Great.
It's a must-have once you've used it once.
Yeah,
pretty much.
I think we've said this a million times, but we cannot state this enough.
No.
If you're a miniature war gamer and you do not have Army Builder, what is wrong with you, people?
Yeah,
Seriously.
I might even monopolize this. Cut me off, Russ, when I can. I mean, they've got Hero Lab, they've got Card Vault, and they've got Realmworks coming up. But what I want to still talk about, when you're building your list, it's like, do I want artillery? Do I want Shermans? It's like click. Okay, right. That's how many points I have left. Do I want a bazooka? Click. No, I don't need a bazooka. Unclick. I mean, it's just that simple.
Well, it's really great when you're down to those last couple points and you can't find where to put it. You're like, well, if I rearrange this and pop that in and out and mess around with the different attachments and different upgrade options and units, you can do all that great stuff. So now I wanted to mention, though, before we run out of time here, that Hero Lab has another big release coming out, Craig. What is that?
They do.
Oh, that would be the Super Shadowrun data files coming out in spring.
Right. So now Hero Lab is a character creator for many, many different RPGs, and they've got an official license with the Shadowrun stuff coming out. So that's going to work just perfectly. It's going to make characters exactly right. So if you're a Shadowrun fan, definitely check that out. But they have a lot of different RPG licenses. So head on over to wolflayer.com and check out all the different downloadable files for Hero Lab.
Yep. Absolutely.
PulpGamer.com. We've come a long way since Monopoly.
And now, What's in the News with the shout-out. What's in the News is brought to you by Ludology, the new gaming podcast by Ryan Sturm and Jeff Engelstein. No news or reviews. Ludology just features in-depth discussions of game mechanics, theory, and history. Check it out at ludology.net or find us in iTunes. Ludology. Kind of like the name. Pretty snazzy. And now, the news. Mantic Games has announced a new dungeon crawler. Actually, they announced it a little while ago. But the big hot news is that there is now a gameplay preview up of the Dwarf King's Hold. This dungeon crawl, of course, will feature the cool-looking Mantic figures. So head on over to manticblog.com to check out what the components are going to look like of this new latest dungeon crawler board game. Fantasy Flight Games has announced a brand new role-playing game in their line of 40K RPGs. This one is called Black Crusade, and this is going to allow players to take on the role of either a human servant of chaos or even a chaos space marine. This summer, you'll be able to adventure in the 41st millennium from a whole new perspective. Yeah, and we know Raef got it right on his prediction. Stop that, Wakeland. Wait, are you like bad-mouthing our listeners here? They just wanted to let you know that they've been listening to the show and they know that Raef's prediction was but I got like the thing that got announced at like 2:00 today, and by like 5:00 we had 10 emails and 50 Skypes and 33 tweets. It was like, oh, crazy. And so what you're saying is we are well aware that Fantasy Flight Games made this announcement. Yeah, thanks for the info, but now we know. Thanks very much. Thank you for letting us know. Yes, Raef was right. It's not like Craig and I totally disagreed with him or anything. Actually, Wakeland, I believe you and Craig did totally disagree with him on that one. Oh, well, who knew? How about? All right, Wakeland, move along here and stop picking on the listeners. Thank you very much, everyone, for letting us know. And we are now well aware that FFG has this brand new, exciting lineup for their RPG system. In other 40K-related news, there's a cinematic trailer out for Dawn of War 2 Retribution. You can just check it out on YouTube. Just look for Dawn of War 2 Retribution trailer, or go on over to the Relic website to check that out. Pretty darn impressive, and for those of you still recovering from the Ultramarine movie, this will make you feel a lot better. Anyway, moving right along. In convention news, PAX East, the big Penny Arcade convention that takes place in Boston now, the second annual Boston version of their convention, is a few short weeks away, and they have acknowledged they are totally sold out of 3-day passes and Saturday badges. They're in a new venue this year that has been rumored to be 50% larger than last year's venue, but even at this stage, they're already sold out of Saturday and 3-day passes, even if you come on today. So the only way to get in there now is a Friday badge or a Sunday badge. Good luck with that. Also, in other news, Days of Wonder is offering a $10,000 prize for the best design of a new Ticket to Ride map. I guess when you run out of ideas for the board game, you just farm out a new one for the fans. Kind of cool. $10,000. Why not? Give it a try. If you think you can draw a cool map for trains to connect cities on, then, hey, give it a try. And another area that Raef might be right on his predictions for 2011, we'll have to kind of comb through his exact prediction here. But it turns out that, the game show The Price is Right, the one, see Bob Barker, now it's Drew Carey. Anyway, The Price is Right, just recently on one of their prizes gave away an all-expenses-paid trip to Gen Con. Right, on a morning game show. Who'd have thought that? It's kind of neat. Anyway. And Wakeland also wanted me... Wait, Wakeland, really? Am I reporting? Oh, yeah, it's big news! Wakeland, really? At Sesame Street? Sesame Street for the Kinect. Yeah, Sesame Street's got a big license deal for Kinect. It's going to be Sesame Street for Kinect. Yeah, it's going to be us. Anyway, for some reason, Wakeland wants me to tell you there's Sesame Street games coming out for the Kinect. I'm not even sure why that is news for gamers, but there you go. And finally, and this is kind of exciting sci-fi news, something a total fangirl has written about actually a little bit on her blog. Social networking fans, people on Twitter and Facebook and those folks, set up a Kickstarter page and have raised $50,000 to build a statue of RoboCop in Detroit. That's right. A statue of RoboCop in Detroit. Kind of cool. $50,000. Hey, we'll see what happens. It'd be kind of awesome. Maybe we could build some other statues in other places. It'd be kind of Captain America in D.C. or maybe, Spider-Man in New York City. Or, hey, who can say? It'd be kind of cool. And that's what's in the news.
In 2008, an elitist gaming group was sent directly to jail by the Geek for a rules infraction they didn't commit. These men promptly escaped a low-security white-collar work detail into the New Hampshire underground. Today, still wanted by the gaming community, they survive as podcasters of fortune. If you need a game reviewed, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can listen to the D6G team. And lest we forget, brothers, battle foam, protecting your army so you don't have to.
In big and crunchy cases.
Indeed. How excited were we when we got all those new cases and we got to see everything new at TempleCon?
Oh, we wish you were there.
So
It was
cool.
cool. Big mountains of battle foam were floating everywhere.
Unbelievable. I love the Malifaux bag. I love it.
I do, and I also love my C4. My C4 holds exactly everything I need for Dystopian Wars.
Oh, I'm telling you.
Rulebook, templates, places for the cards.
Yeah,
That's awesome.
my C4 is holding 2 complete fleet boxes of the FSA.
Holy
plus
cow.
plus the carrier,
Yeah.
plus an extra battleship, plus 3 extra cruisers with enough room, if I figured it out correctly, for the land forces box, 2 large flyers, 3 medium flyers, and a bunch of other little mini.
And this thing is smaller than a
pieces left and right.
briefcase. It's smaller than a briefcase, people. It's crazy.
It's
Wow.
crazy. And
See,
of
I went
course,
a different route. I've been playing Flames of War, and I wanted to bring my Dystopian War, so I ordered a custom cut Dystopian War tray to fit my Flames of War case. No problem.
There you go.
I just used the custom from tray creator right on the web, and voila.
Ooh, speaking of that, Rafe, too, Battlefoam just signed a deal with Spartan Games.
very excited.
And they're going to be producing official Spartan Games bag products. But better,
Nice.
but even cooler than that for people right now, by the time you hear this, when you go into the tray creator there on battlefoam.com and you can lay out your stuff, and there's pre-made shapes for all the common things, most of your miniature war games, all the Dystopian War ships will be in there, and aircraft.
I didn't
That's
know
been
that.
released. So
That
you
is
can go there
awesome.
now and just crank out exact shapes. You don't have to even measure your models. They're going to fit right in. Awesome stuff.
Wow.
So,
and you're going to be able to use that by going through the new Battlefoam website launching next month.
that's right. Brandy new. Brandy new.
Absolutely.
I've always liked his site, so I'm wondering what he's going to do.
And you know what? Romeo likes to give back to the community. You know how he's going to do it this time?
But
On
What's
March
his- what's the plan this
21st,
time?
he's opening up his own gaming store.
no way.
Yeah, but this
Yes.
is more of a. It's going to have 12 professionally done
like a
tables.
hobby bunker.
It's totally like a battle bunker type thing.
Yeah.
Hobby bar, foods, drinks, and he's going to have. He's saying huge savings on all types of models. So I think this is really just a showcase. I don't even think this is a profit center for him. This is just a place to showcase all the kind of stuff you can do with Battlefoam and really give back to the local community there. So definitely, if you were in that area, check it out.
You know what it sounds like to me, from what I picture it when he discusses it, it's like when you buy a Trek bike, Trek bike, and you go there and you go to their shop. They've got all the old models of Treks, and it's almost like a museum,
Right.
And Romeo's promising there will be one day a Rafe hand FOMO,
No.
big stand up in the warehouse.
I didn't hear that.
Yes,
What I heard was it's going to be a little model, a mini model.
he said he
of
was
it.
going to make it miniature, but I know he'll make it big.
Oh, right.
After our game reviews, you'll feel like you played the game 100 times. After our interviews, you'll feel like you've known some of the biggest names in the gaming industry for years. After a single episode, you'll feel like the time just flew by. And once the headache clears, you'll know you'll never need another gaming podcast again.
The D6 generation. Born to game.
Okay, welcome back. Now we're very, very excited to have with us. We'd like to welcome Angelo Lombardi. Hi, Angelo. How are you today?
I'm very good, Russ. Thank you. I'm thrilled to be on the show.
Well, we're excited-
Welcome, Angelo.
Yeah, welcome, Angelo.
We're very excited to have you. Now, Angelo is a longtime listener, and we got to know Angelo through his desire to be involved with the show a little bit and help us out sometimes through his associations with the hotels. But the really exciting thing is we discovered after talking to Angelo on a recent visit that not only is he a COO and a very busy executive, and he travels constantly, right? But you also manage to find in time for all kinds of great gaming. So we wanted to try to figure out how you manage all this, still have time for your family, your job, and gaming.
Yes.
Right.
So up first, we have to ask the traditional question. Are you
The
ready?
traditional, yes.
As you are on the show as a gamer,
Right.
let's ask the traditional question.
Are you now or have you ever been a gamer?
The only answer to that is I have always been a gamer, and it started. I've got the traditional gaming path. Literally at 8 years old, my father handed me his copy of Red Box Dungeons and Dragons that his brother had given to him.
Ooh.
With no interest in the game. It was a pass along, and at 8 years old, I did most of my learning to read, learning how to play Dungeons and Dragons. I missed the point that I was supposed to color in the dice until much later in my life, where I developed eyesight problems attempting to read the D20 with nothing but indentations. I was thinking about this recently, and I realized I learned basic math playing the Dungeons and Dragons war system, where you had to take percentages out of your armies during a conflict.
Oh, I remember that.
I remember going to my aunt and asking her to teach me on a calculator how to remove 20% from something because I needed to fight this war.
Oh, nice.
So that was most of my formative high school years until I made the life-changing decision to get married. And on my honeymoon, I did what most gamers do. I went to a game store.
Wow. Well done.
Well, I was a gamer. I didn't know exactly what to do on honeymoon. So I went to my Games Workshop store, which I'd never heard of before, and I discovered miniatures. And that began the transition from role-playing to my infatuation with metal onto plastic. I discovered BattleTech and the multiple ways to crush your opponents mercilessly, or as I like to do it, lose with just enough grace to want to come back the following week.
Nice.
When time
I'm
got
still
short,
practicing that.
Yeah, I'm a fantastic loser, and what I like to tell people when they challenge me to a game is, if you need an ego boost, call me. I will lose with the best of them.
We can swear to that after last night.
Yeah, you did a very good job of that.
I lose with a smile on my face. I assume I would win with one, but it doesn't happen often enough to know.
See, as I'm sitting here, what I'm thinking is Angelo scored the double factor there. He not only sets the precedent that miniatures are going to be important in his life, but takes his wife on his honeymoon, therefore establishing his marital role in gaming. It's that important.
You
it
sound
was
like
an
a
attempt, but
anthropologist.
it doesn't always work out that way.
No, it doesn't. But you had the precedent set from day one.
It turns out that there was a clause that changes precedent as needed.
Oh.
Which brings up the third generation of my gaming career, which is where I am now with 3 young kids at home, a relatively demanding job and family responsibilities, which I wouldn't trade for anything, is the need to get my gaming in a relatively non-traditional manner. And miniatures, as much as I enjoy a good game, board gaming has really become a much bigger part of my life because of the quick setup time and breakdown time, the availability of games and audiences. It's much easier to pick up a game on the road if you're willing to play anything that's going on than travel with 1,850 points of Space Marines or Orcs. So that's where I am now, and frankly, where I discovered the show was when board gaming became more than Monopoly and Payday, and there's a world out there to be untapped to. I turned to the experts in the industry.
See, now he's just buttering us up. I see how this is.
Well, the reason I wanted to become part of the show is I'm very ROI-based with my business background, and I wanted to return on the investment of the many games that the D6 generation has led me down the path of joyful ownership.
That's very kind.
And I'm getting one step closer to realizing a complete return on my investment.
There you go. So
thank you.
Let's talk a little bit about what you do. So you're with La Quinta Inns, right?
I am. La Quinta Inns is a hotel chain in the limited service segment. We have 800 locations coast to coast, and was my in with the D6 crowd. If you're traveling to a convention or TempleCon, Adepticon, we have locations in those areas. And my role is I'm the chief operating officer, and it's really a fancy way of saying that I clean toilets and I smile. We have 88,000 toilets nationwide, so I actually don't get to clean them all. It's an important job, but not a job I'm capable of doing. I have a very large team that helps me clean those toilets, and they also help me with smiles. They're fantastic at it, and it's my job to help them do it better for our guests every day. So I travel. I spend the majority of my time visiting the hotels, working with the team, interacting with our customers, and really being out where the magic happens, out at the properties. So
it is thanks to you being where you are at in the organization that La Quinta is the official hotel of the D6G, as we like to say. Let's just be clear about how much traveling you do. How many weeks do you travel in a given year normally?
Well, normally it would range between 40 and 45. Last year I traveled 51 weeks.
Wow.
I've been in the hotel industry for 22 years. The first 9 was as a front desk clerk, so only in a higher capacity for the last 12, and a small part of that in the current role that I'm in. And I've passed 2 million miles with the airlines.
Wow.
I'll literally put my 100,000 miles a year in without breaking a sweat. Wow. I'm very comfortable on airplanes and airports. Rental cars are. I actually drive rental cars more than my own car. It doesn't get a lot of mileage.
Wow. So, so before we get on to how you fit the gaming in there, I know Raef, you wanted to ask a question about how Angelo went from. He just mentioned he was a desk clerk, and now he's the COO.
Yeah, and I want to say, too, that, like, what's fun about this interview, what's fun about this show is this wasn't planned. Angelo really is just a listener first, and he's been generous, and he contacted us, months and months ago. He goes, you guys are awesome. I want to give back in the way that I can, just like a lot of you listeners do. And we're having dinner last night. We had such a fun time just talking to Angelo, gamer to gamer, that we all instantaneously were like, let's have Angelo on, and he can share kind of like what we had over dinner. And one of those fascinating things was, Angelo, is tell us again how you went from desk clerk to COO, which is Chief Operating Officer, or the coup, as I like to say it, because to me, it's an awesome story.
And Raef, I'm going to do that, but first, I'm going to embarrass you a little bit by saying you're actually wrong. That's not what happened last night.
Uh-oh.
3 of you had a miserable time, but during the game, I picked up on Russ's Jedi mind trick.
Oh, my God.
To manipulate me, and before we left Myriad Games, I Jedi mind tricked you into thinking we had a fantastic time.
Oh, okay. Well,
nice.
It's a fantastic trick, and if I knew this earlier in my career, I would probably be the CEO instead of the COO.
Yeah, really.
Now I've got it, and I got to warn my boss to look out. I'm coming.
Yeah. Now
you're even more powerful than Russ, then.
Well, that's kind of funny as a story, but the real truth of it is even funnier unless you are playing the game in which Angelo found himself the victim of Russ's mind control Jedi tricks over and over again.
Over and over again.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Terrible.
I
almost
recollection.
sunk my own ship with a sea monster. It is deadly effective.
It really did.
It is.
Yeah.
But he killed me at least twice because of it. He killed Raef at least twice. He was killing people left and right with Russ gently pulling the puppet
I don't know what you're
strings in the
talking about. I don't know what you're talking about.
I'm the puppet.
Be careful. I'm warning all the D6 followers. If you ever find yourself in a position with Russ, put in the earmuffs. Don't bet against him.
Wow.
Don't listen to what he says. It's
That's right.
Wow.
Or bring a Toydarian to the table.
Yeah, or go with it. It's actually pretty entertaining. So to answer the question, it's interesting. If I look back at my career and I get to have this conversation always, my career is a little backwards. I learned management of the hotel industry a little bit after the fact. So I started as a desk clerk to put myself through college, primarily under the statement that a friend of mine who was in the industry made, hey, you can get 40 hours a week while going to school, and you can study while on the clock. Mm-hmm. And a fantastic selling point when you're 17 years old and about to start college.
Right.
So I took the job, and I spent a few years longer in college than I thought, actually, quite a few years considering I never actually completed it. But year 5 was exciting. I had a great time. Opportunities opened up in the industry. Well, while this was all going on, I was discovering the miniature gaming from role playing. It was very pen and paper at the time. I was getting access to a computer. Excel was the new toy, and I found BattleTech. And growing up in D&D and being a dungeon master for all of those years and kind of learning the game by default, we like to change our environment. And this was before all the great tools and the ideas to customize your own mech. So we were attempting to come up with a way of really changing the BattleTech world and making it our own. So I spent hours working with Visual Basic, with Excel, learning the computer for no other reason than to promote my gaming. We created character cards and mech cards and trackers for playing games. And how great would it be if I could press a button and that button said PPC, and you put in a range and you put in a few stats, and it automatically told you what got hit and where. So we built a couple of quick tables, and it was all about efficiency and simplicity and finding a way to tie the computer into the game. Of course, this was pre-laptop, so we had to move the giant honking desktop with a 13-inch CRT to the game table. But, you're young. You don't mind lugging that 40-pound monitor around.
That's right.
So what happened is I learned Excel, and the company I worked for at the time, another hotel chain, was rolling out computers to their managers, and they were starting to create a budget process, and this was going to be Excel-based, and they used to do it by pen and paper. I found myself at a point where I'm looking for more in a career. I'm getting an education in business management. I've got a few years under my belt, and I know my way around Excel. So I worked through the budget process for my hotel in my region, and it got noticed. And we began talking about ways that we could use the computer better. And technology was so basic at this point that the management team would get reports on Monday for how they did last week. And anyone who runs a business, that's a terrible way to run your business. You know, anywhere from 3 to 7 day late data, it's very hard to operate under. So I created a very simple spreadsheet where everyone in the region, every hotel would just send a spreadsheet once a day. You'd throw them all in a folder. Excel would read it and tell you how you did last night. And I preloaded budget, and I preloaded prior year. Right now, anyone who uses Excel or any tools will look at that and say, wow, that's so basic. A 10-year-old could do it. Well, it wasn't.
But not back in the day, right?
16 years ago.
Right.
And what happened is we had the region I worked for had data the morning of who was doing what. They could go and report against budget 6 days before the company could. And this got noticed, and my boss found himself in a position where he was getting promoted because of some of the tools and the way he was running his region. And it was an opportunity for me to go with him to go work at the corporate office and to help create these tools company-wide. And I remember thinking, as I'm talking to the interview, I have no idea what they're talking about, but I don't think they do either. So in the concept, there was revenue management was just coming into existence in the hotel industry, and no one really knew what it was or where it was going. They just knew it was a way to make more money and run the hotels more efficiently. And I was sitting in the interview, and Larry Daniels was the gentleman doing it, and he said, "We're not quite sure, with your skill set, what you bring for revenue management." I said, "I'm not sure you guys know what revenue management is, and I don't know what it is, but I think I can do it better than anyone else out there." And they offered me the job, and I did learn what revenue management was after I had the title for a little bit. And found while I was doing it, computers are a big part of it. Excel was a big part of it. And as computers permeated our company, I was right there tying my operational experience, my technology experience, and my desire to try something new. And finding myself on the right side of the door during business meetings. And while not seeing it happening, I'm getting an education in hotel management that I could tie to the experience I had and the analytical and logical bend that I had created with 15 years of wargaming.
Right.
I found myself making decisions with experience well beyond, frankly, what I had a right to have at that point in my career. And it was because recognized.
Right.
Yeah, BattleTech, Dungeons and Dragons, Warhammer, and Excel. I owe Microsoft. I mean, I Bill Gates personally, but he's got enough of my money over the years to call it even. So I think we're good.
Right.
No, I mean, and that's what inspired me as an entrepreneur, fellow entrepreneur, and when I heard that, I'm like, yes, gamer makes good from BattleTech Excel spreadsheets, gets promoted. I could see the headline.
Well, and there was always a subconscious attempt to sync the career path because I always led with the fact that I was a gamer. I bring it up at meetings, I mention conventions, I talk about Dungeons and Dragons and miniatures, and I play with toy soldiers, and it always gets the same look, like, well, if you're comfortable saying it, I'm comfortable picking on you over it. But it's such a part of my personality and what I do, I'm a lot more comfortable in an environment where I'm the gamer in the room, and that's okay, and by the way, I'm going to clean toilets and smile with the best of them.
I think it's awesome that you're an executive officer in a major hotel chain, and you're like, yeah, I'm a gamer. That's what I do. So, suck it up.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I'll let you get on a little secret that I don't often share. I'm also the guy with the heavy coat and all the deep pockets are full of the starter games. And I'm always looking for ways to find that next gamer. So when we do regional meetings, we'll often travel. I'll throw a couple of games. I've brought zombies to meetings. I brought Bang, Munchkin, Small World. I managed to get a couple of the guys I was traveling with recently down in Tallahassee to play a couple of games of Small World. One of them took the copy home and got his kids addicted to Small World. So little by little, I'm going to create a world where everyone I meet is a gamer. So no matter where I am, I can get a pickup game in.
Nice.
Awesome.
Actually, that was one of my. Russ, I'll jump in and ask my other question since I was going to save it till later, but it's good timing now. That was actually one of my other questions for you. Is it's easy to perhaps announce you're a gamer if you're Dan Yarrington, the owner of Myriad Games, and he's at a convention. But how did you find that for other fellow executives or some other job? It could be plumbing, maybe, where people look down or down in quotation marks on gamers. How did you come out of the gamer closet? Actually, you just admitted you were never in the gamer closet, but did you just not worry about it? If you're like, forget it, if they don't promote me because I'm a gamer, this isn't the company I'm going to work for? Or did it never cross your mind? Or tell us your thought process there.
I'm not sure that I ever sat down and said, what's my image and what do I want to project? I always had the mindset, without really planning it, of saying, I'm more worried about what I need to do than what you think I need to do. And
interesting.
And that worked for me for a few years, and then I was fortunate enough to get to a position where the majority of the people I work with on a daily basis are more worried about what I think than what I'm worried about what they think. You need to be comfortable. And we're in a company, and I work for a person who integrity and trust and honesty is so important that we would let an A-plus player go for violating one of those tenets. And that allows us to be ourselves. I get to, every time someone mentions the number 42 in a meeting, I get to snicker. And I'm going to say, I heard it on an episode of D6, and this was probably a year and a half ago, so long-term listeners may remember, when Ross challenged the audience to use the word paradigm shift in a board meeting. Russ, I've used the words paradigm shift in a board meeting. And silently snickering to myself while people are thinking, wow, he uses a big word. It is. You have to work hard to get a setup where you can then serve that term and have it work. But it's entertaining. You can do it.
Now, wait a minute, Angelo. Have you used the term linky poo in a board meeting, which Russ has quoted he actually said at work?
And Raef, while I haven't, it is not above me. I will get in my Friday conference call.
Okay.
Linky poo. We're rolling out a new television with high-def programming across the brand, and I will get into some technical jargon speak, and I'll talk about the reason we're able to offer this technology is the Linky Poo device. And I'm willing to bet that nobody will challenge it.
Nobody will laugh at you. And you just say, sorry, folks, if you missed that term, just Google it. You'll find out.
It's in there. It's in Wiki. Everything's in Wiki.
It's in Wiki. Don't worry about it. That's awesome. Oh. That's phenomenal. Well, it's interesting you mentioned that because that you're confident in your skills, and so you can kind of be who you are at work. And me being in the tech industry sort of has a rep for being that, right? I mean, a lot of really good tech guys, they go to work in their black shirts. They watch Star Wars in the middle of the day because they're up coding at midnight, and their bosses know that, and they get the job done, and they give them foosball tables and let them do what they want. But it's sort of unusual in the executive branch to sort of, to sort of see that, at least for me, because you sort of think of that area of the company as still being sort of the suit jackets and the very certain form-fitting kind of way of being,
That's right.
There's a lot of that, and I don't go to a lot of the executive mixers, and when I do, I kind of look around at the stuffy group and say, hey, where's the excitement? Where's the fun?
Right.
But I think that culture's changing, and I think that executive team, when they're behind closed doors, they do loosen the ties and they have a little fun, but the society's getting much more comfortable, and we get to have fun at work. And you get to do things where I was telling Russ at dinner that our plan coming up at our conference is we're going to have an act at our closing session, and we're going to have an acrobatic team juggle our leadership team. We're going to be hooked up to harnesses, and we're going to get juggled. And unfortunately, I'm a little over the maximum weight limit for the harness, so I'm on a crash diet to lose just a couple of pounds to get myself under that bogey. But when your company has that personality, and the hotel industry can sometimes be a little bit of a dry industry. It's exciting. We meet a lot of people, but it's not board game design, and it's not, we're not Fantasy Flights or, fantastic games, but that's not who we are. We've got to bring ourselves to it. So an employee wakes up and says, coming to work is going to be one of the best parts of my day. You can't do that from behind a tie. I wear a tie 3 times a year for 3 of the 4 board meetings. And that's the only tie. I had to tie one for a father-daughter dance last weekend. It took me 3 tries to get it right. It's just not who we are, and I think the great news is in the corporate world, we're getting a lot less of that, and we get to be ourselves at work.
Nice. Well, that's good to hear.
Very nice.
I have a Space Marine in my office, by the way.
Nice. Very cool.
Like the really big giant ones?
No, just a small, because someone will invariably ask. So I can pull out a copy of White Dwarf. I can show them, what the game is, and I can pull out an actual miniature, and we could talk about the painting and the creation of it.
Very nice.
Because it's not just a matter of demonstrating that we want to be a family at work. It's genuine. We take an interest. We talk about people's family. We talk about what they're passionate about. And games are something that we can be passionate about. And if you get over your lifetime 20 or 30 people to play games that weren't going to, that thought Monopoly and Risk were as fancy as it got, we're going to give ourselves an industry that our kids and our kids' kids will be able to play, and that comes with income and it comes with business. So I consider myself supporting my hobby every time somebody says, tell me where I can order this game.
That's awesome. So you're actually a gaming ambassador. What a great sort of an angle to have.
Or a alpha
gaming
vector.
Dealer.
Right. Now, let me ask you this, because that goes to the whole idea of you brought up, bringing people to the hobby. You travel a lot, right, as we just established earlier. Sometimes 50 of the 52 weeks in the year. And so and I'm sure when you're home on weekends, that's obviously family time, I'm sure. So how do you get in where do you possibly find time to actually get gaming in?
All right. There are a couple of tricks, and I'll honestly say right now with my job responsibilities, I don't game anywhere near as much as I would like. That doesn't mean I'm not fully immersed in the gaming hobby. And first and foremost, to give credit where credit's due, it's podcasts like this one that allow me to do it. 4 to 5 hours of content every 2 weeks while I'm on an airplane, while I'm in a rental car, while I'm sitting in a hotel room. Listen to the last episode driving from San Antonio back to Dallas in an ice storm. And it was enough content. People complained about the length. Guys, if you want to make it longer, I'm going to listen to it. I'm going to put that right out there for you now. I listened to it all the way back. It got me home. It was a great time. It's combining my work, my personal life, and my hobby. So the podcasts are fantastic. The internet material is always great. You can read about it. You can listen to it. You can stay updated. Always got a couple of magazines. I have a White Dwarf, or I love to download the Dungeon and the Dragon magazine off of Dungeons & Dragons Insider. Well, I don't get to play that a lot. It's just me in the hobby. So hobby time is great. When I am home, I can paint late at night. But the trick is, if you given lemons make lemonade, right? If you're going to travel, go see something. If my email's caught up, I've seen my hotels and it's 6 o'clock at night, let me go to a gaming store. They're everywhere. I'll plan seeing hotels and traveling around getting in a game store that I'm interested in.
Oh.
There was mention of a game store in Pittsburgh. I have a hotel in Pittsburgh. I've been meaning to see it. Make a note in my calendar. When I get to Pittsburgh, run over and see the gaming store. Got to my hotel in Pittsburgh, popped over for an evening, hung out. You can get a pickup game in. If stores that you go back to, you can meet someone, throw them in your contact list. You can set up a game in advance. In a dozen years of travel, I've been to 49 of the 50 states. I've been to multiple countries. I'm not exaggerating when I'm saying I've been to between 200 and 300 gaming stores.
Wow.
On my list when I came here, I'm sitting in Boston right now. I visited both of the Myriad locations. And after talking to Dan, I swung by one of his competitors just to see it and experience it. I have seen the best that the gaming industry has to offer and the worst. And I've played games with folks that I'll never remember, but I certainly remember the games that I played. So you can do it.
That's awesome.
And then you got to make time for yourself, even with 3 kids and a family. I have a once-a-month gaming group that we meet at my house on a Sunday night, the third Sunday. We'll literally start gaming at 9 o'clock at night. We'll play till 3 a.m. because we're all balancing family and work responsibility, and the only thing we're trading is a good night's sleep, and it's worth it every time.
Well, Russ, I remember that sounds similar. There was a period in your life when you said you traveled a lot, and you always used to bring like a shoebox full of models and some paints, and used to just set it right up. And
I used to have a portable paint kit that I would sit in the hotel rooms and turn on some lame show on television and paint my Imperial Guard.
I have done it usually a couple of weeks before a tournament.
Yep.
I'll find myself getting desperate. The pots of paint are under the travel authorities limit for paint size, so you can chuck a couple of them in there.
Yep.
I don't recommend modeling. The clippers and the X-Acto knife are a little hard to explain.
Yeah, my predated 9/11, so I could still bring those things with me.
You had a little more flexibility.
Yeah, right.
I've ruined more than one of my hotel's carpets with paint and super glue, so I would ask if you do stay at La Quinta, I appreciate it, but please lay down some paper.
Nice.
Well, wait a minute. I see a synergy here. Shouldn't La Quintas now come equipped with a gaming suite so it has a hobby table, maybe?
I like
Pre-stocked
the
with
way
paint?
you think. I think we can work something out.
Okay.
We'll call the D6 suite at every one of our events. I'll get right on.
Right. Because the G is for saving, so it should just be
G
the
for
D6.
saving.
The D6.
I love that one.
So you've played in over 200 stores. Now, I got to think also, since you're kind of have a little bit of flexibility, I mean, you have to visit a certain number of locations a year, but you can kind of pick and choose when you go. Are you able to schedule con visits in with this kind of thing?
That's a good question.
If you were to review my schedule closely, you might discover that roughly the end of March, beginning of April each year, the hotels in Chicago get visited right before Adepticon weekend.
Oh, what a coincidence.
It's possible that might happen. I grew up in Cleveland, and I have some friends there that like to have a game here and there, and I do have hotels that do need to be visited on their circulation as well. You can absolutely combine the two. You could even do something like visit your newly renovated hotel in Boston and have dinner with the team from the D6 generation and get a couple of fantastic games in by just planning ahead a little bit and not being afraid to send an email and ask.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome. So now, are there any so do you hit a lot of cons? Are there certain? What are your must-hit cons every year, since you have such a ability to travel so much?
I don't, because of the weekend demands with the family.
Oh, that makes
I
sense,
do more pickup gamings and planned gamings than a con. Right now, Adepticon is my big one. I went through a period when I was all GW all the time, where Games Day was the love of my life, and I didn't miss one. And there'd be times I would go to two in a year. Back before we were down to just a Chicago Games Day. So that was convenient. I had a hotel in Ontario, California, within striking distance of the convention center that we had the California Games Day every year.
Wow.
So those were really big ones. Adepticon is my, I'm about to say must hit, but unfortunately I won't be making the trek this year for the first time in a couple of years. It really is the balance. Every gamer takes something from it at different points in their gaming life cycle. And while I love competition and I love the larger con community, right now I'm really enjoying the more personal aspect, a couple of gamers and getting to know them better. And social media is having a big part of that. My gaming group, they used to just be gamers I played with once a month, and I ran into the store every now and then. And it's interesting. I now have an interest in their children and their family and their lives. So now instead of my gaming friends, they're my friends. Right. And it's really taken on an interesting spin. So the conventions are still great. I'll be back at Adepticon next year. I think we are going to do what used to be called the Bowls Con down in with the Bella Lost Soul guys. I can't remember the name of the new convention. I think that's going to be my big one this year.
Oh, that should be cool.
And I think I'm going to go to the Board Game Geek. I live in Dallas, and it's right across the street. So I think I'm going to get over to that one this year in November.
Excellent. Well, that sounds like a lot of fun. Mm-hmm. Now, are there since you've been to so many different cities and visited so many different gaming stores, I just have to ask this because I don't think very many gamers have really visited this many stores. And we all have our favorite cons we go to usually. But are there certain cities that you're more excited about visiting than others from a purely like gaming point of view? Is there like, sort of a gaming mecca area in each part of the country or anything like that?
So are you asking if Indiana really is the gaming capital of the world?
Well, that's my next question, but just in general, though, first. Like, is there...
It's an excellent question. I'm going to start by saying my favorite gaming store to visit is the one I haven't been to. Okay. I love pulling up to a gaming store, walking in, and saying, wow, what rare treasure am I going to find? I was up in one in Wichita Falls a few weeks ago, and they had an old box of AD&D modules in fantastic condition for $3 a piece. And I bought a couple of them for my DM as a gift, and it was just fun to flip through them. And the little greedy part of my brain said, "I got to buy them all." they're fantastic, but let the gaming community we'll share that treasure. It's called Pegasus Games in Wichita Falls. It was fantastic. The owner's a great guy, but there are some places I really enjoy going. Austin has fantastic gaming stores. I got to tell you, this is my first experience with Myriad Games, and you guys aren't lying. It is a haven for gamers. But I would say it's less about a single location and more about a concept. There are two real distinctions in a gaming store that I've seen. There are places to play and there are places to shop. And some people do one better than the other. And if you go into that place to play, and sometimes it's positive, sometimes it's not. Sometimes it'll feel like a guy's basement with a little bit of merchandise and a strange odor, and just not a place if you don't know the crowd, you're not comfortable.
Right.
Not a place for someone who's not from the area or for a transient gamer to learn the hobby. And then you've got other places that it really is about the sale, and maybe they'll have a table, maybe they won't. And then you've got the hybrids, like Myriad Games, where you've got some great play space, you have some fantastic shelf stock space, you have someone who's interested in giving you an experience, which I got to really feel and enjoy. And when a store does it right, you don't want to leave. Right? You find yourself hanging out and going game after game and closing the place down. Owners or employees who will talk to you for hours about a game they played 20 years ago.
Right.
And that's a great experience. Stores by colleges will usually have a much more social feel.
Yeah.
Stores close to malls are very usually transient in nature. But boy, when you find that one that does it both well, and they've got the tables and they're set up and they've got a game, it's a great experience. And the Fantasy Flight Game Center really pulls off the perfect game center, in my opinion. You walk in, and there's everything you could want to buy, and there's everything you could want to play. And I sat there for probably 8 hours one day, and I don't think I went 15 minutes without playing a game.
Awesome.
It was just
it
was fantastic. It was game for someone like me who just gets to play here and there. It was game overload. I think I was good for 2 months after that. I was on a gaming high.
And didn't you say also it's kind of cool because, like, near the end of the day, all of a sudden some of the designers walked in and said hi and things like that?
We absolutely. The Death Watch creation was going on, and the designers came over for their weekly game, and I knew one of them from an existing podcast. When I heard his voice, I introduced myself. We spent a little bit of time talking. He went over and brought over the other gamers. We talked about the game we were playing, and it really was one of those. It's a store. It's an event center. It's a place that you can talk to, the guys who run the product. And when they asked me what games I was interested in, and we talked about it, they're going and finding the individual and saying, "Hey, this is the guy I want you to talk to." And you're talking to folks that in our space, our fandom, they're a little bit of celebrity, right?
Right.
And they're treating me as a consumer like the celebrity. Hey, let's go over and meet this guy. He's a player.
Right.
And boy, it feels fantastic. You want to call someone and say, "Guess what?" And then you realize, nobody I know really cares enough. I gotta find someone who geeks out on this stuff and say, "Guess what? I got to shake the hands of Russ Watson."
That's
you
awesome.
guys do that all the time, but I don't.
No,
of course,
still
I
cool.
gotta admit, I'm gonna go home and say, I got to shake the hands of the D6 generation.
No, it's cool. It's cool for us too. It's really fun to geek out on that kind of stuff. And I think one advantage we have is we can get on the show and say, "Guess who we met today? We get to talk to Russ Watson. It was so awesome." So it's still cool.
Mm-hmm.
So now I have to ask you this, my follow-up now. So Raef's kind of hinted at this. So have you ever been to Indianapolis, not during Gen Con season? I want to poke a little fun on our friends over at Game On with Cody and John there, because they're very proud of saying it's the gaming capital of the world, which implies that year-round.
Right. You can't be the gaming capital of the world just because of 4 days.
Right. So would you say that Indy is an exceptional gaming city? Or...
You know what? Yes, it is.
Oh.
It is, and now I'm not. It is not the. It is not the center of the gaming universe. But if you were to make a top 10 list, Indianapolis is absolutely a fantastic place for gamers. The conventions aside, with that breeds a community, it breeds an acceptance, it breeds an attitude. And you can feel it when you're there. I felt it on this trip, but I put myself in a place where a gamer would feel very welcome. Indianapolis does that very, very well.
Yeah.
But
okay.
so does Myriad Games. So does Austin.
Well, it's cool that they are. You definitely get that sense during Gen Con that the community embraced it. I was just curious if it was there year-round, and it sounds like it is, which is really cool. That is actually very cool.
Yeah.
So, Raef, what else you got for Angelo here? We got him on the horn.
Oh, those are my two. He hit them right off the top. Craig, do you have any? I feel like Russ and I have been doing all the talking.
Well, let's see. I was wondering, Angelo, do you set yourself goals in gaming, or is it just kind of
that's a good
sort
question.
of take go with the flow and just kind of pick up games where you can, or is there a specific? Do you maybe go to an area having already scouted out where where you might want to go game store wise, and maybe bring games with you ever?
A little bit of everything. If I'm going to a game store, I usually don't bring a game unless I'm going to get in miniatures. In which case, bringing miniatures is great. Uncharted Seas is fantastic for that because it's easy to travel with.
Yeah.
40K of fantasy, obviously a much bigger deal. If I'm going to an event, a meeting, I will bring games and I will attempt to create something. If I'm going to a store, sometimes I'll plan ahead. And if I'm going to go to Pittsburgh, I knew where Legions was, I knew how to get there, and I was prepared to go do it. And I'll check and see if they have anything going on, and I'll be prepared for it. But it's not unusual for me to say, hey, I'm here. I thought I was going to have a little more to keep me occupied. I don't. Let's see. Let's hit Google. Let's find. And I'll go to the Flames of War website, the GW website. I'll say find a distributor, and I'll head right over to the closest one and see what's going on. So I will do any of that. It depends on where I am in my time and my cycle, my pre-planning. As far as setting goals, I used to when work was out of control and the family's getting old, and I said, I'm going to force myself to play a number of games. I'm going to insist on a number of miniature games this year, and I'm going to find the time. And I would set that target, and I would attack it because, being in the world of business, goals are a great way of getting things done. I'm in a much more relaxed place where I'm almost as happy listening to a podcast, painting a model, talking to some friends about games, and swinging by and just getting my gaming fill. It's a holistic hobby, not a specific hobby for me. I do have a bad habit, and I'm going to blame you guys for your enablers. I'm a bit of a hoarder. My house came with a large closet, and my kids are aging, and I see a future where I have 3 young kids, a lot of good 4-player games. Well, my wife isn't a gamer. She's going to support by going and having fun while I play games with the 3 kids. So I've begun stockpiling games that I know they're going to want to play as soon as they're old enough. And a number of them make it to the table, but I have a fair number of games that are sitting there waiting for that prime age where it's time. And I'm really looking forward to the day where I can pull out some of the more sophisticated games and continue to lose those to my children who consistently beat me at games such as Wings of War and soon to be Survive, I'm certain.
Great.
Now, last night, Angelo, we played 3 games. Other than the verbal fencing that went on throughout the dinner, and we played a base of three new games, but one's a version of an old standby. We played Hex and Survive, and we ended up with Merchants and Marauders.
Yep. And
give us your quick D6 using the D6G scale. What's your review of these 3 games?
Okay. Fantastic question, and I wish I'd thought ahead to prepare.
Well, that's what I'm all about.
Wait, should we ask him in the style of a hotel executive?
Ooh, front desk clerk.
Right. Oh, yes, here we go.
An overly friendly front desk clerk.
An overly exuberant front desk clerk. Please describe the patent-pending D6G rating system.
Now you're really on the spot.
The La Quinta at Boston Airport would like to thank you for your business and coming to our fine establishment. I'd like to explain the easiest way to get to your room. When you get to the elevator, there's going to be 6 numbers in the elevator, 1 through 6. And depending on how likely it is that you're going to get to the right floor, you press the button that corresponds with the statistics that you want. Say you would like a 1 in 6 chance of getting to your floor. Press the 6, corresponding to a die roll of only a 6. But if you'd like a 2 through 6 to be your number, go ahead and press the 2, and you'll have a 5 out of 6 chance of really getting to the floor you want to be in. If you're not sure whether you want one floor or another, go ahead and throw a re-roll on there. Statistically, it's not at all accurate, and elevators don't have re-roll buttons, but go with it. It makes a lot more sense after you listen to a few episodes. But I would warn you, Raef is less likely to push a button that'll make sense to anyone but a small group of Raef files who follow him religiously, and that's okay.
Right.
We accept that. And no matter what you do, when you get off the elevator and that family that's a little snobby gets on, go ahead and press all the buttons and make them stop on all 6 floors, because that's a lot of fun. Let's do that. By the way, welcome to our hotel. We hope you have a wonderful day. Good luck finding your room.
Nice.
Awesome.
That was perfect.
If there's any doubt that Angelo's a dedicated listener to the show, I think we just solved that. Awesome, Angelo. So how would you rate the 3 games we played last night?
Okay. Well, I'll start with Hex Hex, which was a game that when I listened to the review I was interested in, but I hadn't purchased yet. I will be buying that. It's a great game, a quick play, fantastic and easy to learn. I would think for a typical gamer, I mean, that is a 3+ with a reroll.
Nice.
Your only chance, I think, of not liking it is if you don't like that random, I can't believe that happened to me, it's really not the game for you. If you want to be social and have some fun and stick it to a couple of your friends for a while, great game. You said on the show, you've got to use the sticks. You've got to use the sticks. That is a mechanic that not only lends itself to a fun game, but it creates a lot of opportunities for inappropriate humor. You can't do that in a game. So, absolutely, for me, it's a must-have. I'll make sure there's enough space in my closet. That one's inbound.
Nice.
Okay.
Survive. I think if you're a mature gamer, if it was just me and my game group, it would be a fun to play. I don't think I would want to own that. I would probably call that a 5+ for an older gamer, a 4+ for someone who likes the mechanics of the tile placement, and the meeples are just fantastic. If you have children, 6 to 10 years old, maybe even a little older than that, I got to say this is a must-have. Statistically speaking, a 1+ with a reroll makes no sense. But I'm a 1+ with a reroll. I've told 3 people about this game already. I've posted it on Facebook.
Wow.
This is just one. It's light. It's fun. Fantastic components. I think the kids are going to love it, and you can learn it in a minute. You can set it up and play it in easily 30, 40 minutes. In my world, it's a must-have for having children.
Nice.
Awesome.
Nice.
Loved the game. Wasn't sure that. I think they sold themselves short with the title. I know it's a remake, but the game box and the title don't do the game justice. It's one if you haven't seen it, go take a look at it. It's worth it.
Very nice.
Very cool.
Merchants and Marauders.
Yes.
I learned something here. I learned that taking risks for some people results in the death of your captain multiple times early, unless you're Raef, in which case you'll just do things and it'll work, and you'll come out ahead. And I don't even know anyone knew why, but he was unstoppable.
It is awesome that you've only played 2 games with him and you've already realized this Raef factor. Where you see him you see Raef doing something that looks wildly random and inappropriate within the game, and then somehow it works out. So you just eventually stop asking him what he thinks he's doing.
Exactly. That's what we call him random. We can't figure out what he does, but it always works in the end.
Yeah,
that's right.
Literally to set the stage, there are 2 frigates in this space. Raef is a wanted pirate. He moves into the space, and Russ says, Raef, I don't think you want to do that. You're a wanted pirate. Everybody's like, okay, I'm going to do it anyway. He proceeds to sink or take over one of the ships, claim it as his own, gain glory, victory, and treasure, and sail off, going from competing for first place to such a commanding lead that we all avoided him for the rest of the game. It was fantastic.
Let me brag a little more. I didn't have a fighting vessel, and it was in the middle of a hurricane.
Right, it was.
It's true.
And you were taking a hurricane.
You took him over with your cargo ship. It was fantastic. It was.
And the best part was he was fighting, and he's like, because at first he was like, I'll go there, and then he's like fighting, and he's losing badly in the comments. He's like, I think I'm bored.
He wasn't even sure how to board. Right, just explaining it as Raef is taking over the galley. It was fantastic. I was awed, and it's also when I realized that the interplay between the 3 of you on the show isn't really the show. It's you guys all the time, and it was pretty fascinating to see. Right before I fell for the Jedi mind trick and actually scuttled my own ship for no reason I can later remember, I was fascinated. But it is a great game. I think I'm going to give that one a 4+. And what I love about it is a very simple mechanic with an extraordinary depth.
Yeah.
And whether you like the Pirates or the Caribbean or the concept at all, there is something in that game for everyone. Yeah. It is. It's got trade. It's got war. It's got a little bit of randomness and a little bit of pre-planning. It's very much one, though, that there are multiple paths, and you're going to pick it early, and sometimes you're going to get just derailed. And I think that the time commitment and the fact that your best plan is going to result on a single die roll at times may turn some gamers off. Mm-hmm. But if you go into it and you understand that, it is a fantastic game. You guys really pulled out 3 great games. I've fallen for it. I'll be funding the gaming community with 3 purchases. They're all going to wind up on my shelf. It is for more mature gamers. It's certainly not one for the younger kids. But if you've got a game group that's willing to sit down for a few hours and play something with a lot of depth, you can learn it quickly and you can play it. I think the replayability on it's going to be fantastic.
Oh yeah,
absolutely,
yeah. Great.
Now, okay. You guys haven't reviewed that yet, have you?
Oh, we did.
No, not for the general public. Doesn't know we reviewed it.
They will now because this is episode 74.
Oh, good point. Yes,
and episode 73.
Angelo has not heard the review.
Right.
Let's put it that way.
Yes,
just 2 weeks ago, guys, you listened to the review, and I'm hoping you landed the same place I did. Fantastic game.
Well covered. Game. Well covered.
Awesome,
Nicely done. Look at that.
Well done.
He's brilliant.
I do have a follow up.
Right.
One more follow-up. Angelo, you mentioned the Jedi mind tricks in passing.
We can let this go now. I'm pretty sure.
No, I don't think we can. Okay. I think
That's
it was
not the Jedi mind trick I mentioned.
Exactly. Russ doesn't realize that the Jedi mind tricks don't work quite as well over the phone. Okay? Which of the 3 games you played? Because he Jedi mind tricked you in all 3 games.
He did.
Yep.
I don't recall this at all.
Which of the 3 games do you feel the Jedi mind trick was the most effective?
I know my vote.
It was. I feel it was Survive, as not only did I scuttle, and Craig, I know where you're going with this. You had a fantastic ship 1 square away from salvation with 3 meeples on it, and I tanked it at Russ's request.
Well, it was clearly the right move. I don't think there's any question about that.
But then I almost attacked my own ship. And then the reason I know that it was most effective is there was a moment of realization where the game's getting into the end game. And I'm great dialogue and fun companionship, and I'm learning the rules, and I'm not really looking around at the victory conditions. And then that little bell goes off and says, maybe you ought to look at a couple of meeples and figure out your next couple of moves. And I look, and literally, island right in front of me has an army of Russ's meeples standing on it. Yes. And I'm thinking, well, Russ is really he's out of the game. I don't need to go after him. It's really between Craig and Raef. And I literally looked down, and 6 inches in front of my face is an army of points for Russ. And I realized, what am I doing? I'm a puppet.
Yeah,
no, puppet's a strong word. Don't think of it that way.
I don't know. You want to know what you were doing? You were basically lambasting the guy that couldn't win because he lost 4 meeples in the first 3 turns. That's what you were doing.
That's not even the mind tricking because you served up 3 survivors.
No. I don't count that. I don't think that. Russ is right. That was the move to make for anybody. Right. It was after that when I had already lost 4 of my 10 meeples where there was no hope of me doing anything. And Angelo kept sinking land underneath my meeples and sending sharks in my direction. And I was just like,
sure, there was a whirlpool, and there was a shark, and there may have been a whale. And I pulled a couple of tiles out from underneath you, but I want you to understand, I did it with respect and love and a desire to drown as many red meeples as I can. I wasn't myself. If the door is locked, move along. Okay.
You weren't yourself.
I'll buy it. I just love it when somebody from the outside comes in and sees the things that we see.
The best part, Craig, is Russ is even shameless. He's like, I think you should sink this boat right here because it has 2 of Craig's on it. And Angelo's like, that would be a good move except my meeple's on it too.
But I reached for the sea monster first. I was actually in play before it clicked. It was terrible. I prepared myself.
He's very powerful.
Very powerful. But I am going to, for the those of you who haven't met the team, I am going to dispel a rumor that Russ's head is not as big as you guys make it out to be. I mean, it's not normal size. I mean, it's really not. There's a percentage variance that, I mean, it's, there's something there, but it's not. Well, it may be freakishly large, but it's not extraordinarily freakishly large.
Wow. Well, next time I say La Quinta, I'll need those.
Oh, that's priceless.
I'm glad. I'm just glad you know that size now, so I got the appropriate size pillows next time I go to La Quinta. That's all I'm asking for.
I actually did. I called the next hotel you can be stayed in, and I asked them to support the top of the frame for security reasons. It'll be fine. It's going to work out fine. I'm in the hospitality industry, Russ, and I'm here for you.
Awesome.
I think something in my chest broke.
That's what makes such a great chain. I think you killed the co-hosts.
And I think this is the last time I'm going to be invited back to the show. That was fast.
But it was worth it.
I only get a third of the vote, so you're fine.
Oh, good. I'm going to play to the lowest common denominator. Right. I can do that.
Right.
Oh, Angelo, now we're picturing you're going to get him extra fluffy pillows.
Yeah, I'm going to do penance. I can do that. But I will just send an email to Nicole and offer her my apologies, and I'll work it through the better half.
Nice. Well played. Well, that
was priceless.
Oh, my God.
Well, I think we
probably hurt myself.
Probably should let Angelo go now before he makes any more comments about my head.
I knew that was the moment I said it, I realized I was bringing the interview to a crashing halt.
This is the end of the interview.
Gentlemen, first, I'd like to thank you for taking the time out of your schedule to entertain me. In the hospitality industry, I recognize hospitality, and the three of you guys dedicated an awful lot of time and played some games and showed me, your city and your games and your hospitality, and it felt fantastic. I really felt like I was at a table with my closest friends playing a game, and I thank you for that. More importantly, on behalf of the listeners, we really appreciate what you guys do. You bring us entertainment.
Oh, thank you.
You give us our hobby. You make our hobby better, and you do it at a lot of personal sacrifice. And I imagine when you're recording this, and it's the three of you, and so there are days it feels like a chore, and there are days it feels thankless. Understand that I'm going to listen to your episode the day after you post it, and I appreciate it. And I want to thank you guys for making our hobby better for us. You guys do a service that is fantastic.
That's very kind. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Very nice.
Thank you.
Oh, great. Well, Angelo, after that
totally makes up for the head comment.
Now you can come back anytime. Now we're fine. See how that works?
And that's the way I roll.
Look at that. All is forgiven.
There you go.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Angelo. Really appreciate it as well. I think it's great to have you on the show, and really interesting to see how
Thanks for coming out and spending your time with us.
Yeah, we really do appreciate it. I think it's fascinating to see how you get your gaming in, being such a busy schedule on such a dedicated job. So it's really fascinating.
I appreciate that. And in the words of Geekly McNerdigan, thank you and good night.
Good night, Angelo. Have a good one.
Bye-bye.
Buying a new game is like a box of chocolates. You never know what you're gonna get till you open it, and then it's too late. Unless you listen to the D6 generation, and then it's like poking your finger in the bottom of the chocolates, and you can only pick the ones you like.
And the answer, my friend, is blowing in the wind.
Dice are our vice.
The War Store, bringing war to your door for a decade or more.
Since 1999.
That's right, baby. So another one of our sponsors that is good enough to help keep the lights on here at the D6 Generation is the War Store. They've been providing great models, great internet shopping opportunities for gamers literally around the world since 1999, for almost forever in gamer lifetimes.
Yeah, gamerdom.
And they do have some of the best prices on the net. They have Games Workshop products. They have Privateer Press. They have Spartan Games. They have Battlefront. If it's a miniature, it's in the War Store.
Or anything related. Again, I was looking for into Flames of War again with Adepticon, and I can look at roads, I can look at rivers, I can look at terrain, I can look at Flames of War vehicles. It's perfect.
Oh,
it's all right there in the same site.
Yep. And they've also got all of your hobby needs and their board games, and they were once again instrumental in the success of our TempleCon event.
They were awesome. They helped us take have a great spot for the table. They were great clearing the area out. They were great providing anything we need. We're short a tape measure. I'm donating some dice to give away. They were
donating gift certificates to give away, too.
Right. Oh, we should say something about the dice they have in stock.
Oh, the dice were beautiful.
Oh, yeah,
so
the dice.
They gave these away. They have these awesome D6s, and they are themed to look like the different nationalities from Dystopian Wars.
Yep.
So if you're a Dystopian War fan, like they have these nice bright red marbly dice with a giant rising sun where the 6 should be, right?
Yep.
You roll those for your blazing suns. They have they have Germany. They have what was on the American ones, Craig? Did you see those?
Unfortunately, the American ones were the only ones that I was kind of like, because it was a real actual ones. Well, it's a real American flag, and in Dystopian Wars, the flag doesn't look that way anymore.
Oh, okay.
So I mean, it looks cool, and obviously they're not infringing on the IP or anything, and that's why they did it. I mean, all the other designs are relatively common. So it's the British flag, which is still the flag that they're using in Britannia, but it's beautiful, and I love them. And the colors are really interesting and rich because they've got like the white and red for Japan and the red, white, and blue for America. But
they're like marbly. They're really cool looking. Very cool.
They're very cool, sparkly looking.
Yeah, and what's great too about the Worcester website, you'll have an easy time finding those. What's also nice is they list even pre-releases are out there. So you can go out and check some of the pre-releases coming out from Privateer, check the pre-releases coming out for Spartan. They're all up there with pictures in most cases, so you can see exactly what you're ordering, you know what you're getting. Really easy to use, and again, a great place to go for the hard-to-find, especially paints, too. Hard-to-find paints as well. They have all that kind of stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So check them out, The War Store. The War Store.
I'm Raef, Hollywood Granger, and this is the Hollywood Minute.
Well, here's a nice, short and sweet Hollywood Minute shout-out. Tor Gaming, bringing originality back to your gaming table with the Stitch Punk-themed tabletop war game, Relics. Check it out at www.torgaming.co.uk. And thanks from Gavin. All right, today I'm going to try something completely new and different. I'm going to do a book review of a book I haven't even read yet, but the title of it was so interesting I wanted to talk to you guys about it. So I was driving home from work one day, and I was listening to NPR, and there was an audio interview of an author named Jane McGonigal. Her book is Reality is Broken, Why Games Make Us Better and How They Can Change the World. Now, first of all, my first clue that this would be cool was her last name is, of course, the same as the professor in Harry Potter, so how cool is that? But the audio article, which I do believe you can still hear for download if you Google Jane McGonigal, and it's spelled McGonigal, different spelling than the Harry Potter professor. But if you type in her name and NPR, I think you can even listen to the story on the web that I heard. But basically, from what I heard from the interview is she is a doctor, she has a PhD, and she makes games for a living. And I didn't catch if it was for just MMORPGs or other type of games, but more importantly, she made like some health-based games that got heart patients up and walking and obese patients up and walking. For example, one thing she talked about was, it's really hard to get gamers up and going, and so and they can tend to be an obese crowd, me included. So I'm packing on a spare tire, So she created this game where basically it was kind of like a Dungeon Quest scavenger hunt, if my memory serves me correctly, where they were out in the city and they had to do different events, and they had to do it in the style of either an animal that they created, so it was role playing, or if it was a or a character. So in other words, if you were role playing a gorilla, you had to move around like a gorilla. I thought that was a pretty innovative idea. I guess she's done other work too for different political agencies and maybe some even other countries. So that's definitely going to be a book that I'm going to try to pick up. But I guess what fascinated me was, here we are, gaming making the mainstream. So this was NPR, and they're talking to an author where her concept was reality is broken. And here's what was really cool. I heard her say that I guess according to the studies, if you do 21 hours of gaming or less, then that is actually healthy for you. And if it's so, that's 3 hours a day, 7 days a week. They find that either the psychological benefits or perhaps the mental stress relieving benefits are positive. But again, if you do more than that, if you do more than 21 a week, if you start doing over that, then the benefits to you, either psychologically or stress-related or even physically, drop off radically. So I thought, man, there's some hard facts for those people who are able to play their MMO in their Xbox game. There's some facts for you. Wouldn't that be interesting if teenagers were presenting to their parents the reasons why they want to play Lord of the Rings online is because, according to Dr. McGonagall, 3 hours a day or less is positive. I mean, that'll be interesting. The other thing that I thought was quite fascinating was, and this comes as no surprise, one of the other points of her book, from what I heard from the article, was that playing face-to-face tends to be better than online. And she recommends trying to split that. If you're going to play an online game with strangers, that's fine, but go ahead and also play with people face-to-face gaming, which, obviously makes a lot of sense. Although, I don't know. I'm beginning to think that you can have some online friends. I mean, I don't know if I mentioned this, but I made some online friends in Lord of the Rings Online. They're career professionals in their 40s and their 50s, and as a matter of fact, we're going to go meet face-to-face in Chicago when I go to Adepticon. 3 of them that I play in my kin for Lord of the Rings Online, they live in Chicago, and we're going to go meet. Now, I guess the argument could be made that my online game is ending up being face-to-face, and they're even going to check out the con. But, and that's true for the podcast listeners, too. I mean, that was all, quote, done online, but then we've met a lot of you face-to-face. So I'm not exactly sure that playing with strangers doesn't end up counting as friends or even FaceTime. Sure, is FaceTime better? I don't know. I mean, what if you're a particular person that, according to the, quote, norm, unquote, what if you're not that attractive? What if you're overweight? What if you have a lot of zits? What if you have bad social tendencies? You tend to be more of a hammerhead. What if you tend to be like me and you randomize and maybe you blow people off and they get pissed at you? Well, I haven't done that in years, but my point being is I'm not immune either. Let's say you're online. It's hard to piss somebody off when you're typing to them. Now, I guess if you're on Vent, that's a different story. But even then, you have to push to talk a lot of times, and so that might be another level of not being a hammerhead. What if you can be your real self when you're online, or even you can be the self you perceive yourself to be through your avatar? What if you don't have that self-conscious attitude about your weight, about your looks, about your pimples, about your tallness, about your teeth, about your voice, or whatever the things that we might be self-conscious about? So without reading her book, maybe she goes into that, and I might be only specifically regarding to MMOs where you tend to either chat and type chat or talk on Vent. I do think that's a little different experience than playing Halo online. If that's what she's referring to, then yeah, I say playing face-to-face is better, but I'm not so sure. I think a 3-hour Latro session with friends is not much different experience than playing a 3-hour session with a role-playing game, even though it's face-to-face. But again, didn't read her book. Maybe she goes into that. But again, I just think it's awesome that we've got a mainstream radio broadcast, NPR, talking about reality, talking specifically about MMORPGs, from what I could tell from the article. And it seems like we have an author that spent her career in creating, fantastical worlds and even using games as a launching pad for other, quote, real-life, unquote, activities like getting in shape or helping out heart victims and things like that. So I just thought that was interesting. Little quick this week, but interesting topic. Go look it up. Author Dr. Jane McGonigal, and the title of the book, hold on, I jumped away. Reality is Broken, Why Games Make Us Better and How They Can Change the World. Touche to that. See you in 2.
The D6 Generation Podcast. All of the mysteries of gamer culture revealed. The D6 Generation. Born to game.
Need to add a big unit to your current force and don't feel like painting that many grunts? Or maybe you want to start a new army and really don't have time to paint it up. That's where PaintedFigs.com can help. For over 4 years, their staff with over 20 years of experience in the industry have been providing gamers with high-quality, affordable paint jobs on miniatures for their most popular games, including Flames of War, Warhammer 40,000, Fantasy, War Machine, Hordes, and even a variety of board game pieces. Their full-service packages include the cost of the models themselves at wholesale prices, assembling, painting, and basing. And they now offer a super affordable dipping service starting as low as 99 cents per figure. Because they are able to get the models wholesale, you end up with a package appearing on your doorstep full of ready-to-play models at only a fraction over the retail price. That's why PaintedFigs.com is the official painting service of the D6 Generation. Their name says what they do. PaintedFigs.com. High-quality miniature painting at the lowest rates on Earth. Even with shipping. Be sure to let them know the D6 Generation sent you.
This is Total Fangirl. Regular Jane most days, Total Fangirl when the moment strikes. Han shot first. Starbuck is a guy. And Lestat, now there's a vampire. Hey everyone, this is Nicole, your Total Fangirl. You can find me on Twitter at Nicole Wakelin and check out my website, TotalFangirl.com. My shout out this week is one that I have a little bit of an issue with. I'm going to read it anyway. Not only didn't Mr. Solo shoot first, but he did a head dodge to escape that Slimo Greedo. I got the proof on tape, haha. This is from Mr. Abel Vieira in Brazil. Well, Mr. Vieira, you should know, and you will soon know for sure, that I've recently become acquainted with some ninjas, and maybe you ought to be looking carefully over your shoulder from now on. Okay, everyone, I have with me today an author that I've just found out about. His name is John Mers, and he is the author of a series of books called the Lawson Vampire Novels. Number 5 has just come out. It's called The Kensei, and I'm really excited to have John here with us tonight. Hi, John.
Hey, how you doing?
I'm doing very well. We have to establish a few things right off the bat. Are you ready?
Sure.
Does Lawson sparkle?
No.
He does not sparkle? Okay.
No, he's pretty tarnished, actually.
Okay. Does he pine away for mopey teenaged girls?
Probably not. He's got a pretty hot chick who's an ex-KGB assassin that really gets his motor going. So yeah, not probably ixnay on the young teenage girls.
Excellent. Okay, because that right there, those are things that if you can't answer those correctly, I'm done with your vampire books. So that's good. That's good to know. Now the last one, this is an iffy one for me, and I know the answer to this, but does he walk in the sun?
Yes, he does.
Explain to everybody why your vampires walk in the sun.
Well, basically, my vampires are not undead. They're actually a living race of vampires that started evolving alongside humans thousands upon thousands of years ago when early man was killing strange, large animals and drinking their blood, thinking that it would give them the beast's powers. This small offshoot of humanity started hunting other early humans, drinking their blood, and over time they've sort of been able to distill the life force energy from that blood, what in Japanese is, a ki, or Chinese a chi, or even for yoga enthusiasts, they'd recognize it as that prana. Mm-hmm. And that has enabled them to sort of live a longer life, have above average strength, good night vision, and the ability to eat all the garlic that they want.
Excellent. They can eat garlic. That's always a plus.
Oh, yes.
Now, you talked about it a little bit in there, but Lawson, other than being a kit butt vampire, he's a ninja.
Yep.
He's a vampire ninja.
Yes.
That is just crazy.
The world needs a badass ninja vampire.
It does. It absolutely does. Now, and, I'm a big vampire book fan. I've read a lot of books, and they do all sorts of fancy things. They can climb on walls and flip upside down, and, they could kill all of us in the blink of an eye. But sometimes it's crazy when they try to reference martial arts things that you think, I don't even know where the author came up with that. But you have a little bit of experience with martial arts.
Yeah, I'm a lifelong martial arts junkie, and I'll be addicted probably till they carry me out of the dojo on a stretcher. But that's the way I want to go out. Yeah, but I have quite an extensive background in it. I've been doing the style, the authentic ninjutsu that I actually study now. I just passed my 20 year anniversary. So
wow, congratulations!
Thank you. Yeah. It doesn't seem like 20 years, but looking back,
you suddenly realize
the bruises are like rings on a tree. So it's all fun.
So technically, you are a ninja too. I mean, you're actually a ninja.
Yeah, I study ninjutsu, yes.
So that means you're the guy who could slink into the house in the middle of the night all dressed in black. No one would hear you. You could sneak in, kill people, and leave, and no one would know.
Yeah, I guess.
So that means
I prefer not to do that.
So that means everyone, I have to give your book a good review because you know who I am, and if I don't, you could come in and kill me in the middle of the night.
That's what it all comes down to. That's why I've studied for 20 years, to creep into people's houses and say, buy my book.
Just that if they don't, there's the threat. If you don't buy this book, right, I'm coming after you, and I'm a ninja. Not many people can say they're a ninja.
Yeah, well, actually there's more of us around than you might think.
Oh, now you're really scaring people. I'm going to lock my door and make sure my windows are all securely latched.
Yeah, New England's actually a hotbed for it, believe it or not. My teacher, Mark Davis, at the Boston Martial Arts Center in Allston is probably one of the senior most people outside of Japan for
Really?
Ninjas. Yeah.
Now, have you traveled to Japan to study at all there, or has all your study been in the U.S.?
I know I have been to Japan several times.
Yeah.
During a trip in 2003, I took a pretty high-level test, and it's actually the same test that Lawson goes through in the pages of the Kensei. So that trip in 2003 was a lot. It is very much a lot in the pages of the Kensei. So it was really cool for me to be able to sort of put that in and cathartically live through the experiences again and sort some of the more crazy aspects of it out through my mind, and hopefully my readers will get a chance to enjoy that as well.
So then a lot of it came from that. I was going to ask if your travels to Japan had influenced what you wrote in this book, because it takes place there. Did a lot of that come? Did you go from that visit? Did you go to that visit, then come home and say, I have to write about this?
I was actually in the midst of starting the Kensei when I was flying over there, and I knew I had to take this test. So I literally, we got on board the plane, I booted up the laptop, and I got a paragraph written, and then just I was so nervous about the coming test that I just sort of shut the laptop and said, screw this. It's not going to work right now. Cannot get the muse working when I am, facing, I have to kneel and with my back to the grandmaster of a tradition that's over 1,000 years old and hope he doesn't cleave me in two.
Which I don't even know how you did that. When I read that you did that, I thought, wait a minute. I kind of read it twice. Wait, he said, yeah. He said he actually passed that test. That must have been incredible. Did he ever whack you on the head, or did you pass it on the first try?
Yeah, we touched down on Friday night. Now this is after 14 to 16 hours of flying over, so you're literally exhausted when you get off the plane.
Right.
We went from the airport to our hotel to training, and we got there. And Hombu Dojo is actually a very small building, and we came in, and there was this huge contingent from the Canary Islands that had shown up, and there were about 40 people plus all the usual people. So people were literally falling out of the door of the dojo. And I'm thinking to myself, oh my God, this is incredible. There's no room to train in here.
Yeah.
So finally, there's a little clock up on the wall, and it gongs every 15 minutes. So throughout this entire class, my stomach is sinking lower and lower into the ground.
Oh, gosh.
And I'm thinking, oh my God, I really don't want to do this test tonight. So the Grandmaster finishes the class, and he says, okay, go down test. Which is the 5th degree black belt test. And all these people stand up, and his face just falls because he sees how many people are getting up. And now I'm thinking to myself, there's no way I want to do this test now. There's too many people.
Yeah.
But I did it anyway, and it was like a giant whack-a-mole kind of thing.
Geez.
It was brutal. Yeah, that first night.
Did anybody pass it that day that you were there?
No, none of us did. It was pretty crazy. So we actually took Saturday off, which was the next day. And when we went back on Sunday for the next class, everything went a lot better. I was a lot more relaxed. And there's actually a video of the actual test on YouTube. If you do a search for it, you can actually see me taking this test.
No
So,
kidding.
Yeah, it's over in like 2 seconds, but it's kind of cool.
So you know what I'm going to be searching as soon as we finish this interview. I'm going to be on
absolutely.
YouTube looking to see, he really did it. He's not making it up.
No, it's out there. Yeah, so I didn't even know they'd filmed it. And a few years after I took the test, somebody came up to me one time and said, "Hey, I saw your test. It was really good." And I went, "You weren't on that trip." And they said, "No, it's on a DVD, dude." And I went, "Yeah, what? Huh? Yeah, but it's out on YouTube now." So yeah.
Now, had you always thought that you wanted to do, like, because I haven't read the first 4. There's 5 books in the series. I didn't read the first 4 books. Mm-hmm. Has he always been a vampire ninja, or is that something that evolved as you've been writing?
No, I actually made him a ninja early on. Yeah, he's obviously, given what he has to do, he's very, very interested in martial arts and how it can help him in his work. And he appreciates ninjutsu for the practicality of the art. It's 1,000 years old, but it's still as viable today as it ever was. The problem with the art is that it attracts a lot of nutballs to it. What I like to call people who come in looking for the Obi-Wan Kenobi effect.
That doesn't exist.
These aren't the droids you're looking for, man. And, so they get that idea that, I'm a ninja and I don't have to know how to throw a punch. And it's sort of like, well, yeah, you do. Actually, need to know how to do that. So I'm fortunate in that Mark Davis, like I said, the guy I study with, he's just fantastic, and he's very much on the non-Obi-Wan Kenobi side. It's you need to have skill.
Yeah, actual skills beyond the Force.
Yes, beyond the Force. Yes, absolutely. Although, don't get me wrong, if there was a way to do that droid trick, I'd be all over it. But,
That's next on your list of things to study.
On my list,
next 20 years. Now, I had mentioned that the Kensei is number 5 in the series. Mm-hmm. Now, as I understand it, you're supposed to be able to read that one on its own, which I did. I didn't have any problem figuring out any backstory. What's the deal with the first 4?
Well, they actually came out between 2002 and 2003 with Pinnacle Books in New York. And, that was, let's just say, my first publisher and I didn't exactly see eye to eye on a number of things. Uh-huh. And they dropped the series pretty early on. My fans kind of rallied behind it, and we sent about 1,000 letters of support trying to get them to keep the series. And it got so bad that the president of Kensington actually sent me a letter and said, "Please tell your fans to stop sending all these letters to us.
Oh my gosh.
We're not going to continue this." And I said, "All right, yeah, that's fine." But I never stopped believing in Lawson, so it was just a matter of finding a new home for him. And finally, in 2009, I hooked up with Daniela Rapp at St. Martin's Press, and she fell in love with Lawson and the series, and it's been great.
I have to say, I really did enjoy it. I found you, I think, through Twitter. Somebody said something about it, and I thought, I should read that. And sure enough, I read it and loved it. But if I wanted to read the first 4, if anybody else picks up the Kensei and says, "Oh my gosh, Lawson is awesome," can they get the first 4 books? Are they available in any way?
Yes, actually, I have just uploaded not just the first 4 books, the first 4 novels, plus 2 novellas, plus 4 short stories.
Whoa.
Right now, it's sort of the entire Lawson Vampire backlist are available on the Kindle and also on the Nook. So if you go to Amazon and type in Lawson Vampire in the Kindle store, they'll come right up. And same for Barnes & Noble. You can definitely get those, and they're actually selling very well out there. So that's kind of nice.
Now, I also understand, and correct me if I'm wrong on this, in addition to the books, there might be something on TV about Lawson?
Yes.
Tell me about that. How's that going?
Well, we're calling the series The Fixer. We are actually producing this independent of Hollywood. Mm-hmm. So what we've had to do is go around New England, and we started off talking to billionaires, and to be honest, I didn't know we had billionaires around here. But we do.
Who knew?
That didn't work out too well. So we next moved down to millionaires, and we talked to a whole bunch of them. And that didn't work out too well.
Oh, no.
So we went to the Thousandaires next, and we actually started doing really well. People that don't necessarily have, a huge ton of money, mm-hmm. but they still have that love, and they remember where they came from. And we've done really well collecting a pool of smaller investors. We're still looking to round out right now enough to shoot the pilot in 1 additional episode, mm-hmm. but I think we're getting pretty close to that. And if things go, hopefully this week, the way they're supposed to go, we're going to be looking at getting going on that within the next month or 2.
Wow, that's pretty quick.
Yeah, well, we're already cast. We've already got the cast and the crew in position. We've also got an amazing trailer. We just have to sign the paperwork with the SAG after union to make sure our cast is taken care of properly, and then we're going to release that trailer because
I can't wait to see
amazing.
that.
I'm dying to release it. We've had it ready to go for months now. So,
I can't imagine because we don't really have, like I said, a huge vampire fan. We don't have a kick butt vampire on TV right now. There's True Blood if you do the HBO thing, but just a vampire who's like carrying a sword and carrying a gun and out there fighting for justice. We need one of those.
Totally. And Brandon Stumpf, who plays Lawson, is actually from your neck of the woods. He's up in Manchester.
Oh, he is. He is in my neck of the woods. That's right.
Local guy, very talented, has the perfect look for Lawson. When I saw his picture, it was amazing. I went, oh my God, that's how I've always pictured Lawson.
Yeah.
And he's got, the military background, so that comes through organically. He's a martial artist. So it was just a win-win situation. It's fantastic. And the other people that we've got attached to this cast are just amazingly talented individuals. It's going to be really exciting.
Oh, I'm looking forward to seeing that. That'll be neat. I hope that I get to see that on TV. I have my fingers crossed.
We'll come down to the set when we're filming.
Oh, that would be awesome.
Yeah,
I have never been on a film set before. No, I take that back. There was a cheesy little show called The Uncle Gus Show the little kids went on when I was little in New Hampshire. And
oh, yes.
I was 5. That was my first big break. My only experience.
You were too young for Andy Warhol's 15 Minutes of Fame.
I was. Dang it. I was too young.
We'll hook you up this time.
Okay, awesome. Now, if people want to find out more about the books and about the TV show, where can they go to find out more?
Well, my website is johnfmers.net, JONFMERZ.net. And shortly, we should have the official website for the Fixer TV series operational. We've been redesigning it because we were rebranding the series, but that's at the fixer.tv.
Okay.
Right now, it's just basically a placeholder page, but we should have that back and operational within the next month or so.
And definitely, for those of you who are interested, go to the website, and there's the thing, you can sign up for a newsletter. You have a little, I forgot the name of it. You send it out.
Boston Nocturne.
Nocturne, which is great because it has information about what's going on and it had a little bit of a story in there too. So
yes, free fiction. Yep,
yeah,
absolutely.
Free fiction's good.
Yeah.
Okay, fantastic. Okay, John, I don't know if you know this, but at the end of every episode, every interview that I do, I ask questions that in some weird way relate to the person that I'm interviewing. You just got to give me your first answer. You can justify it if you want. In fact, I might. But you have to go with your first gut instinct and just have to give me an answer, okay?
I did not kill him.
Okay. Good answer. The fact that was his first. Yeah, that was your first. See, he's a ninja.
We erase that?
He's a ninja. I'm telling you. Look out. Okay, are you ready?
Yeah, go for it.
Okay, who would win in a fight, Chuck Norris or Jackie Chan?
Oh, Chuck Norris. Nobody beats Chuck Norris.
Oh, Jackie Chan's going to come and kick your butt.
Probably, but that's all right.
That's okay. You're a ninja. You can take him. Okay.
Get his autograph after we're done.
I know. I'll be beaten to a bloody pulp. You sign this picture for me. Okay. How about Lawson or Dracula?
Oh, Lawson.
Lawson?
Yeah,
Lawson
totally.
can take on Dracula? You think why? Why can he win?
Oh, because I created Lawson. I know all his strengths.
Because you would make him win in that encounter,
I would
right?
make him win, yes. You get the girls afterwards.
Fantastic. Okay, the last one, and I know you're going to be biased in this answer, but this is an age-old debate, and I feel like you should be qualified to answer this one, okay? Pirates or ninjas?
Oh, ninjas.
Ninjas? You really think ninjas is win, even though pirates fight dirty?
Oh, we fight dirtier.
Oh, there you go.
There are no rules, let me tell you.
See, once
I
again.
thought that question was going to be David Lee Roth. I wasn't sure. See, I can't do the Obi-Wan Kenobi thing. I fail at that.
You fail at the Force, but you win at Ninja. John, thank you so much for coming on the show and talking to us. I look forward to seeing what happens with Lawson.
Oh, thanks so much, Nicole. It was
Take
great.
care.
I'd like to talk to you about our next sponsor, Myriad Games. Woo! The official one and
So
only
many games, so little time.
The official, friendly, professional gaming store of the D6 generation.
That's right. And
so
Dan, go ahead.
My most recent experience is, again, walk right up to the counter. Mike's at the counter. And I say, hey, Mike, I want to reserve a copy of Survive so I can play with my son. He's like, Raef, no problem. You want to game share that? And I'm like, yeah, game share. I mean, I think they're going to like Survive, but you never know with my family. I mean, they're wacky.
Raef has learned his lesson well.
Yes.
That
game is fun.
Have you been to the Myriad Games website? They just totally redid it.
No,
You've seen it? Oh, it looks sweet. For a while there, Dan was rebuilding, and it was sort of this 1996 vintage website. But now it is like totally spanking brand new, little scrolly things, bleep up things everywhere. You can find the menu. It's actually pretty cool.
Wow.
Definitely check that out, myriadgames.com. And I hear a rumor, the MVP program, right?
Yeah.
I hear a rumor there's some exciting new options for the MVP membership.
Oh, I've heard about those.
Really?
In March. Stay tuned in March. So go check out that new website in March to find out.
Cool, cool.
And what kind of contest do they run on Facebook there, Raef?
Well, I think he's got something where you can log in. What is it? Facebook Fridays, I think Dan calls it,
I believe
right?
so, yeah.
You log into Facebook, which I can do now, Craig. I don't know if I told you that.
He's on Facebook.
I think we all know.
Yeah. That's a whole nother story. But you log into Facebook, and you can win a contest. I'm not sure what you can win because I haven't actually been on Facebook.
Well, it's just they randomly give out games. Every Friday they give a game out to anyone who has liked the page. Just go there, like it. You'll get the latest news on Facebook of what's happening at Myriad, and then you could win a game on a Friday just for liking it. How easy is that?
That's pretty cool.
There you go.
What's up with Game Salute?
I don't
Something
know.
going on with Extra Life?
Oh, that's right. Yeah, they're going to be doing the big. I forgot about that. Yeah, in early October. It's mid-October, I guess.
October 15th.
Right?
That's pretty much as mid as you're going to get.
Right. They're going to be running the Extra Life for 2011 at Game Salute as well. And Myriad Games will be taking part of that. I'm sure we'll be involved in that as well. So mark your calendars now and get excited for Extra Life this fall.
And don't forget the Call to Arms bonus free games drawing.
Right.
Where you're going to want to tell Myriad Games about your favorite game stores. You want to email your favorite game store to myriad@myriadgames.com. Tell you why you like them, and the winner of the contest is going to get $100 of Myriad money. Deadline for that contest is March 31st, 2011.
So that's separate than Facebook Friday?
Oh, yes.
That is.
A whole other way to win stuff.
All right.
And we'd like to tell you more, but there's so little time.
Worlds to conquer, foes to vanquish, violence to sow, and medieval crops to reap. The whole world of gaming at your fingertips. The D6 generation, born to game.
Welcome back, and now we're excited to talk about Survive. Wait, gotta fix that. Survive, escape from Atlantis.
Yeah.
You like that?
It was very nice. It's dual echo. I liked it.
Woo-hoo. So, Survive is a board game that was originally published in 1982.
Wow.
So how many years ago was that, Raef?
I don't know. 22 years.
Close. So 92 would be 10. 2002 would be 20. 2012 would be 30.
So 29.
So 29 years.
Wow.
So not really close. So 30-year-old game almost, but just reprinted last month, 2 months ago now, December 2010 by Stronghold Games. And they've now retitled it. It was originally called Survive. Now it's called, Survive, Escape from Atlantis. And what they've done is they've added the original game Survive is all in there, but then they've added bonus stuff with optional rules to bling it out some.
Right.
And the basic theme of the game, Craig, what is the theme of Survive, Escape from Atlantis?
First of all, I don't know why you're giving it short shrift and you're stopping the echo halfway through the name, but the theme is it's awesome. It's a sort of an abstracted, but you've got an island in the middle of the board, and that island, through awesome, very simple but excellent visual mechanics, is sinking.
Right.
And the low levels areas are sinking first, and the mountains are going to be sinking last. And you have to get your 10 little meeples, each who has a random value on its foot that you're not allowed to look at once you set it up, to safe islands that are surrounding the island of Atlantis that's sinking.
The periphery, if you will.
Oh, indeed. Excellent use of the term periphery.
Periphery.
And that's the theme.
Right.
Escaping from Atlantis.
Right. So while you're escaping from Atlantis, that doesn't work as well as Survive. While you're doing so, you can also manipulate the natural animals in the world to kill and maim and eat your opponents as well.
That's
so there's save your own guys while for some reason certain other Atlanteans need to be consumed, and that is your goal to do so.
Exactly.
So let's talk about what comes in the box, because the components in this game are quite impressive.
They are beautiful.
First of all, Raef, what does it sound like when you open a box of Survive Escape from Atlantis?
It sounds like this. Okay, you put a thought bubble over your head. You're like, I think I kind of remember this game. There's like sea monsters in here. I wonder what they look like. I wonder if they're like plastic or maybe they're wood. And boy, those guys from Stronghold game, they're really cool guys, but they made the most boring game ever with 777.
Wow,
but this
I would say
game,
That's why you got to be harsh.
Why you gotta be like that, dude?
Listen, it's my bubble.
Why you gotta give me a negative achievement for that?
It's my bubble.
Oh, wrong button.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Love it.
Jeez.
And so you crack open the cellophane on this one, and you lift the box off, and it goes because that's the sea monster coming out. And you look inside, and you see this really thick cardboard tiles, and these cool sea monsters made of wood, and these cool sharks, and you're like, no, that's a game. That's some mental gymnastics. That's math class.
First of all, Code 777 is excellent. But second of all, good job. So what's in the box is, of course, a nice little, not too intimidating, very short, let me see how many pages this little thing is, 6-page rules pamphlet. Mm-hmm. Full color, though. It's not one of those cheap little one-page jobbies. Also, inside the game, you got this nice full-color game board, which is basically, as Craig described, the sea area that's going to be, the island's going to be in the middle of the board. It's all hexes, but very nice watery backgrounds with in the four corners, there's 4 little tiny islands where you're trying to escape to. And then you get the tiles. There's 40 land tiles, and there's 16 beach, 16 forest, and 8 mountain tiles. And they're very, very nice quality tiles. I would say they're almost at the Space Hulk level of quality. Craig, what would you say?
Yes, it absolutely. Well, it's interesting. Well, there are some that totally are because they're actually thicker than the Space Hulk,
right?
Because did you already say that the thickness is actually keyed to the type of terrain?
No, so what's cool is that there's a lot of great graphic design in this game, and one of the things is that the beach tiles are the thinnest, and then the forest tiles are sort of medium thickness, and then the mountain tiles are actually exceptionally thick, like really, really thick. Great glossy artwork on one side representing the terrain type it is, and then the other side are icons that give you abilities we'll talk about later in the game. So basically, when you get this all laid out, it looks like an island with varying heights, and what's great about that is it's going to visually remind you, hey, you got to take the low-lying land first, because if the island sinks, the lower parts of the land go underwater first. Yeah. So they look really nice. Then you're going to get... Now, here's where the game really comes into its value, because I didn't think we mentioned the price point of this game is $50.
Mm-hmm.
And for a relatively small box, primarily family game, you're like, $50 seems a lot, but wait till you hear the amount of wood in this game. So you get
it's crazy
40 wooden meeples, okay? And these are beautiful meeples, just like you'd expect in any high-quality Euro game, and they're each in 10 different colors. So there's 4 sets of 10 meeples in the 4 primary colors for the 4 different players in the game. So it's a 2 to 4 player game. There are, is it 2 to 4 or 3 to 4? Yeah, 2 to 4.
2 to 4.
2 to 4.
Two-player games are very fun also.
Yes, they are.
2 to 4.
Then you also get
5
sea serpent tokens, which are these cool wooden. And again, all these things I'm going to describe are wooden.
And they stand up like they're rearing out of the water.
Yeah, they look like like a Loch Ness monster picture. The multi loops going along there.
Yeah.
Then you got the 6 shark tokens, and these are these nice thick black shark fins. So when you put them on the table, they look like there's a shark fin sticking out of the water coming at you. It's even got like the little bite marks out of the fin, the little scrapes there. Then there's 5 whale tokens, which again, nice big wooden whale meeples. We called them weeples, right? Weeples.
But you did.
And you did. They had the whale hump, and they had little whale tails sticking up, just like whales.
You and your alliteration.
Then there are the boat tokens, or weeples. Because it says tokens in the book, but they're actually meeples, or they're wooden boats, and they're slotted so that your regular meeples can stand 3 to a boat. So again, great graphic design. It's easy to tell the maximum capacity of the boat. There's no guessing there. It's right there. There's no rule to memorize. And then you're going to get some dice. You get, and there's also dolphins too, which I don't mention on here, but there's also some wooden dolphin tokens, and then or dweeples. And then you also get a creature dice, which is red, and then you get some blue dice also for the optional rules, and then you get a nice little bag also to put all your components in as well, if you'd like. So great components. Even the bag's totally optional. Nice fuzzy little bag to throw all your tiles in or whatever. So what do you guys think of the components in this game?
I think they rock. They're awesome.
Yeah, I can't imagine
A+.
Better quality components for a game like this. I don't know how else you do that.
$50 price point, no problem. The game alone is fun enough, but add the tokens, and it's a $75 game sold for $50.
Now, what's nice about this game is it's really straightforward. It's a game you can break out, teach, set up, and play easily within an hour.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. It's so easy. Without looking at the bullet points, I could describe the rules. I'm not saying I'm going to.
Well, don't do that yet.
It's that easy.
Let's start with just setup. So what we're going to do is we pop open the boxes. Raef suggested.
That's part of the rules.
We flip out the box, the board.
I'm going to flip you
and
out.
Now, so Raef, since you're so anxious to talk,
yes.
What are the setups involved? How do you set the board up?
You take the discs, you flip them upside down. Well, first you hand out the colors. Everything's in a Ziploc bag. And you give green to me. Dave gets yellow. Russ and Craig fight over blue or red. And then once that's established, you give the tiles to Craig. He puts them in a box. He flips them all upside down.
Right.
And then you have the center of the island on your hex map, and you start putting the tiles upside down so that you can't see what they are. Beaches on the outside, jungles in the middle. Pretty much. Oh wait, no, Craig, is that how it works? I'm not sure how that works.
So what happens actually is, and this is the trickiest part of the game actually, because what you're supposed to do is there's big black lines on the board that show where the tiles go. There's going to be a center hole that's left open, and that's going to be water in the middle of the island. And then
like a lake.
The tiles are going to go around it. Now, the problem is you have to put the tiles on there randomly, okay?
Yeah.
So you can't look at the top of the tile, which shows you whether it's jungle, beach, or mountain, and you can't look at the bottom of the tile, which shows you the kind of special ability that particular tile has. So you've got to craft some kind of way to get tiles in your hand randomly and down on the board in a pattern so you're not really seeing what's going where.
That's easy.
So what did you do, Craig, for this simple solution?
Well, you put all the tiles face down in the box top. So it doesn't, don't look at them, but it doesn't matter if you saw something, and then you're just going to spin them around for a second, and then you hold it up, or somebody else holds it up so you can't look into the box top. You can do it all by yourself. You hold it up with one arm, with the other arm you just reach in, and you grab them with a wide open hand so you're not feeling the thickness, and that's all you're doing. And you're just not looking at the bottom as you place it. Because once you've picked it, you can see, you're going to see whether it's sand or jungle or mountain.
But as long as
you're seeing that because of the thickness?
No, it's right on the top.
No, it's actually the beautiful
that's right.
full color jungle or sand, textured sand or mountain graphics.
So as long as you pick a pattern to fill in on the board, though, you're gonna once you've seen the tile, you can't change it. So in other words, you start. What Craig devised was starting near the center and working out in circles until
and
you
I just
built the
spiral
hole.
it out. Yeah.
So you do that. You figure out a way to do that. It's really not that hard, but it just was tricky for me too to figure that out. So you get that all laid out. Now, once you're done with that, it doesn't take very long. You get this island. As you said, it's like 40 tiles or some huge number of tiles there.
It's awesome.
Yeah,
though,
40 tiles all set up. It's a nice big island.
Yeah.
And then with a little hole in the middle.
Yeah.
The other thing you got to set up is the sea monsters. The sea monster is the only creature that starts in the game. So there's one sea monster, and there's little. This is great too. There's little icons on the board where the sea monsters start.
Yeah.
So each island on the periphery, that's where you're trying to escape to, not Atlantis. These are drawn onto the board. But each one of those is guarded by a sea monster, and then there's also a sea monster in the center of the main island. Okay.
Yeah.
And that little pool of water in the center we talked about. So that's set up, except for getting your guys in a table. So now you've got all your colored meeples. And on the bottom of the meeples, as Craig suggested, there are numbers. And numbers go from 1 to 6.
Oh, I didn't suggest it. I just flat out stated
That's
it.
right.
Yeah, he just stated it.
He didn't even infer.
Put it all on the line.
So what you want to do is lay your meeples down in front of you so their feet are facing you and you can see
I
all
was
your
a little
numbers.
nervous when he said it, too.
Right. It might not be
With
true.
authority.
So what you're going to do now, we're going to start going around the table and you're going to determine who the first player is, and each player is going to place one of their meeples, standing feet up so no one can see the numbers, on one of the tiles that make up the Atlantis island.
Standing on his feet or feet down, actually.
Down. Yeah, sorry. You're right. So you're putting them on there. Now, the rules about this are you can put them anywhere you like on Atlantis on one of the tiles, except that it can only be one meeple per tile. So in a 4-player game, there are 40 tiles, and there are 40 meeples. So that means in a 4-player game, after you go around the table, round and round and round, all 40 tiles will be populated with 40 meeples.
Yep.
Okay?
So no place will be safe.
No place will be safe. And the key here is, once you put a meeple down on the table, you can never look at the number on the bottom of him again,
like that
even
rule.
when he dies. You don't get to check to the very, very end. So you got to kind of remember where some of your high-value meeples are, if you want. Or you can just play for saved meeples and hope you get good ones. So we just go around in player order, put meeples down on the island until the entire island's populated with meeples. Okay?
Yep.
After that, each player gets 2 boats, right? And each player goes around again and puts an empty boat adjacent to the island.
Yeah.
Anywhere they want. Probably,
as long as it's adjacent.
Right, probably near your groups of meeples, but maybe not. Whatever you want to do.
And this is where it gets kind of fun, actually, because you might think, well, I'm going to put my boats right near my my highest points meeples, but as we get into the game, there's a bit of a screw your neighbor component, so you might not.
A bit is an understatement. This game is all screw your neighbor.
Yeah.
So basically, now you're ready to start playing. All right. So it comes to Craig's turn. Let's say Craig is player number 1. Craig, what is the turn order for a player?
Well, the first thing you're going to do, and you can't do it in turn 1, but we'll explain it anyway, is as you're going to be pulling up the tiles of the island, and that's how it's sinking. And some of those tiles are going to actually tell you need to immediately do things like drop a monster into that section that was just vacated by your tile. Other tiles, however, will tell you with an icon that you put it into your hand just like a card. So it actually works like a playing card and gives you special abilities or special invulnerabilities later on in the game. So the first thing you do when it's your turn is if you have a card you want to play, you play the card. If you don't have a card or you've already played your card, you're then going to move your meeples. You have 3 moves, and that can be one meeple moving 3 spaces or 3 moving 1 or any combination thereof. And the only limit is you can if you're a swimmer, meaning you're actually in the water, you can't climb out of the water onto the land unless you're at one of the safe islands, and you can only ever move into 1 new water tile per turn unless you have a special card. There's a card that lets you basically jet ski three hexes.
Yeah, the fluff is you're hanging onto a dolphin. Now but Craig, can you only move your meeples as movement points?
No, you cannot. In fact, you can also move a boat if you have A, equal meeples as another player, B, the majority of the meeples on the boat, or C, the boat is empty.
Right.
And that's what Raef was hinting at, because if I've got all my guys on mountains right on the edge of the coast and I'm like, yay, and I got my boat right there, on Rafe's turn, if he has like a free movement point or whatever and he doesn't know what else to do, he can shift my boat away from my coast.
Right.
And then my
it's
big
not
plan
your
is
boat
over.
unless you've got guys on it, and they got to be in a majority to own the boat.
Exactly.
So yeah, basically you can move your meeples or your boats, and it's really simple. You're going to make 3 moves. It can be the same piece multiple times unless the piece is a meeple in the water, and then it can only be 1 space. That's pretty much all there is to it.
Yeah.
So then what's the third thing you can do?
Well, the third thing you're going to do is then you have to roll the die to activate the monsters.
I thought you pulled a tile first.
First you pull a tile.
Right.
You can pull at a tile, and the rules are very specific, and this is where the graphic design gets awesome and the visual is fantastic. Beaches, first, the tile you pull has got to be adjacent to water. You have to pull all of the available beach before you can go to jungle. You have to pull all the available jungle before you can go to mountains. And so it's going to sink from the low areas up to the high areas.
Right.
And once you pull that, like I said, you're going to look at the back. It's either going to tell you, oh, there's a shark in that space now, or there's a monster, and that's not a monster. Those come out, and those only start on the board.
Right.
But a whale, maybe, or a dolphin.
Right.
Or it's going to say, put it in your hand, and put it in your hand allows you to teleport, as Russ says, monsters around the board at one point, or defend yourself if somebody attacks you with a monster and things like that.
So exactly right. And then you so basically, again, it's really simple. You play a card if you got it. If you don't, make 3 moves, pick up a tile, and if you pick up a tile that the meeple's already on,
they become a swimmer.
Any meeples on the tile, and there can be more than one. When you first deploy, everybody's got to be in their own tile. But after you start moving, you can stand in space with other meeples of any color.
Yeah.
So, but if someone pulls that tile up from under you, every meeple on that thing becomes a swimmer, and now you're in the water, right? Bad things happen in the water.
I forget, Craig, when you were setting up, do you just plunk the tiles down, or do you have to try to keep the beaches on the outside, the jungles on the inside?
Random.
Okay.
That's why we're saying it's hard to...
It's beautiful. Somebody used some serious math to figure out how many of each type of tile to have, because there's always beach on some of the edges, and then there's always like cliffs on some. And I've never seen an island that didn't look realistic.
Right.
I agree.
And and that works great. Now, the last thing in your turn, Craig, is what? You got to roll some dice, right?
Then you've got, the basic game, you roll the 1 blue die, right?
Red die.
Or the red die.
Yep.
And the red die, all it has is the actual images of the monsters on it.
Animals.
And then
some of them are
just
animals.
Animals, monsters, whatever.
Creatures.
Creatures. Let's call them creatures. And right on the board, it actually tells you, for instance, a sea monster goes 1 space, and you can move any sea monster 1 space. And sea monsters, and then on next to that, it says sea monsters will kill boats and people, and basically they kill anything they touch. The next thing would be a shark, and I believe sharks can move 2 spaces.
Mm-hmm.
And sharks will eat swimmers if you move them into a hex where there are swimmers, and they'll eat all the swimmers. And then there's the whale, which I believe the whale can move 3.
I think
I'm not sure,
also,
but
I think it moves 2.
Yeah.
It moves 2 also.
Yep.
And the whale will basically capsize any boat that has meeples in it. It'll ignore empty boats, but it'll go right after a boat that has meeples in it, tip it over so all those meeples become swimmers, and the boat is destroyed.
Right. Now, the key here is when you roll that die, you control where that creature you rolled moves.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you are aggressively taking out your opponents.
Right.
Now, another thing to remember is when you're getting into boats, okay, you can get into a boat with someone else's color on it.
That's
no problem. So let's say Craig's got a boat with one of his blue meeples in there, and I sneak one of my red meeples in that boat. Now when Craig rolls the old sea monster, he might be a little less likely to eat that boat because he eats his own guy too.
Yep.
So now, but since we have equal numbers of meeples, we can both move the boat in our own movement phase. Are we going to move it to help each other? Or do I know my meeple's only a 1 and I'm willing to sacrifice him to kill Craig's meeple? So there's all kinds of subtleties going on
this is
here.
one of the games that's really simple to play. It's fun. It's a little bit deeper than beer and pretzels, but it's beer and pretzels. I always think of beer and pretzels as kind of maybe like a simple card game or something. But, what's fun about it is you have a lot of strategy, but it's not a brain buster. You're like, all right, I'm going to take my number 6 meeple, which is hidden, but if you remember where it is, and I'm going to put that on Craig's boat and try to hope that Russ doesn't sink Craig's boat or Craig can control it or you could. Like my strategy was I took my 6, my 5, and my 3, and I put them all in one boat. No, actually, I didn't do that because I knew that was just seafood food. Craig did that. Yeah. I put 2 on a boat.
Yeah, 3 guys
and
on
I
a
got
boat.
my 2 on the island, but I didn't get the lower ones on, so I didn't win.
Now, what's interesting is, so that's really the whole game. So again,
that's the whole game.
The different tiles are very, very simple, the ones you can collect. So the tiles either have an arrow pointing down, so it might show a shark fin and have an arrow pointing down. That means if you see that tile, so I pull up a tile, I see the shark fin arrow pointing down, I show the table the tile, and I put a shark right where I pulled the tile up from. So if there were any swimmers now, they're automatically eaten by the shark. And there's one for a whale like that as well. So
that's the shark that becomes when later you roll the dice, you can move the shark.
So that's how sharks and whales enter the board, is by pulling
Or if you have a tile in your hand that can move the shark.
Other tiles will drop boats, so more boats can be introduced. And then other tiles will be, as Craig suggested, you keep them in your hand, and they have a picture of a sea monster with an arrow, meaning you can play that card and move one sea monster anywhere on the board as long as you're moving to an empty hex.
Yeah, I kept getting that wrong.
So the key is you can't surprise someone and teleport a monster and immediately attack them, but you can move them near them. Or you can use it defensively. Like what I would try to do is move the sea monster away. Because remember I said at the start of the game, there's a sea monster right in front of every island you're trying to escape to. So if you just load up a boat with 3 of your own guys and head them towards the nearest island, you're heading right towards the sea monster. So you got to wait until you can get one of those teleport cards or something to get the sea monster away from you. So you've got a clear lane to get to that island. Or just pray no one gets a good roll and get by, but that's pretty lucky. So it's really interesting. And that's really the basic game. And you keep going around the table, moving meeples, trying to get to the island, avoiding sharks, avoiding whales, all those things until you get to start flipping over the mountain hexes and a volcano shows up. And when the volcano shows up, the game is over.
Right.
And as soon as the game ends, everybody then can look at the meeples that made it to the safe lands. Anybody in the middle of the water or whatever else is lost, the volcano blew up, they all died from lava or whatever. So you only got the guys that got to land. You add up your total points at the bottom of your meeples. Whoever's got the highest score is the winner. That's it.
But again, like Craig said, somebody did the math where it's not like you're pulling the volcano, 8 tiles in, and you're frustrated that it's too random.
Yeah.
It's on a mountain tile, and by the time you get there, it's tense in a good way.
And there's one more tile back we should mention too. When you start getting into the jungles, you start seeing whirlpools.
Yeah.
Whirlpools are nasty. They kill.
That's my favorite one.
They kill everything adjacent to them in the water and everything under them as well. So basically, it's the undertow from the island going down and starts sucking things under. As you get to later and later in the game, the more the jungle tiles and more the mountain tiles are whirlpools. So near the end, you got to get away. It really gives you that feeling of the island sinking the way you'd sort of expect. As it gets deeper and deeper into the water, you got to work hard to get more away from there because it just gets really deadly over there quickly. So it's really cool, and that's pretty much the core game. Yeah, I reckon so.
Reckon a whirlpool ruin your day.
Now that's the basic game. That's Survive, but that's not Survive.
Escape from Atlantis.
When they added Escape from Atlantis, they added some new bling. These are in the form of optional rules that you can play with immediately. So one of the big ones is the idea of the dolphin meeple. So in the original Survive, there was no dolphin meeple, but there's a card that you can get that says you can play it on one of your swimmers and he can move 3 immediately. Okay?
Yeah.
That's great. But in the advanced game, there's actually nice wooden dolphins. And when you see that card in the advanced game, instead of just moving 3 for free, you actually take a dolphin and put the wooden dolphin wherever that tile came up. And then dolphins you have to use these special blue dice, okay, which come in a paired set. So you replace the red die with the blue dice, and you roll those blue dice. One of the dice has symbols of different things on them, including the dolphin. And these are D6, by the way, we should say. The dolphin's on there, the shark's on there, the whale's on there, the sea monster on there, and there's also a star for pick your creature. There's a boat on there as well, allowing you to move empty boats. And then the other die shows different numbers on them between, I think it's 2 and 3, and then there's also a D. So let's say you roll a shark and a 2. That means you can move one shark 2 spaces. So in the basic game, the red die just tells you which monster to move, and all the monsters have fixed movement speeds. But in the advanced game, the die tells you which creature to move, or it could be a boat, or it could be a dolphin. But the other die tells you how fast it goes. You don't really know. You can now have speedy sea monsters instead of always moving one that can move 3, which is nasty. Now, when the dolphin's big deal is, if a dolphin is in a space with a swimmer, the first swimmer that got there, the dolphin will defend him. And that means that sea monsters and sharks cannot eat that swimmer.
Are you sure it's sea monsters, too?
Yes, it's definitely sea monsters as well.
Yeah, so nobody can touch you if you're with a dolphin.
So what you do is, and the dolphin will follow you while you move your meeple. So if you move your meeple 1, the dolphin stays with you. He's happy. But if someone else rolls that die, the blue die set, and they get a dolphin and a 2, they can move that dolphin now away from your meeple and over somewhere else. So you're kind of safe for that dolphin until someone rolls that thing. Now, the big problem with being in the water, remember, is even if you're with a dolphin, you can still only move 1 hex per turn. But if you're in a boat, you can move the boat. All 3 of your movement points can go 1, 2, 3. So
bing, bing, bing.
Boats are much faster. So you're really better off on a boat. But if you have to be in the water, the dolphin is your friend. So the other big thing about the blue dice is that if you roll that D for movement, that allows you, it's like playing one of those teleport cards. You can move whatever monster you roll, a creature you roll. So if you rolled a whale, you can now pick up a whale, any whale, and move it anywhere else on the board to an empty space. So again, it really makes the game much more dynamic. Things can happen from all. Now, you can't immediately get hit by the whale, but you can put the whale, again, right in front of their path on the way home. You try to block out their path back to the island, all kinds of crazy
things. The only way you can do that is with the dice, right?
No, they're also the cards. Remember, the cards have teleport and the dice have teleport. So there's 2 ways.
Doesn't the dice let you teleport right into somebody's square where the cards only let you go to an empty square?
No, both. This is where you get confused. Whenever you're doing, it's called dive in the game, right, Craig? Whenever you dive, the rules are the same whether it's a card or you roll the D. You pick them one up and you got to put it anywhere on the board, but it has to be an empty
right.
hex.
If you roll the D, right? But if you roll the actual monster,
you just move him normally and take them out.
Right. Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. Sorry.
Right. So yeah, if you're just moving him normally, so if you roll a monster, you roll a 2, you move the sea monster 2 spaces, and if he gets to something, he kills it. Right.
Yeah.
So that's how that works. So that's really all the newness. Now the other big newness to the game is that they've added the components. I think are much superior to what the original game was, and that's pretty much everything that comes in the box. What do you guys think about sharing any strategies about the game?
I think that it's a big mistake to put all 3 of your guys in one boat and try to move that boat towards an island.
Especially if you're your highest pointed ones.
In a game with Angelo and Russ at the same time. Because you're not playing against one guy, you're playing against 2 guys. Well, neither of which is a Toydarian.
Well, it could be nasty, yes. You definitely want to be very careful about loading up a boat with all your men unless you somehow manage to clear out the sea monsters, right? And even then it's scary because someone else could roll a D and put a sea monster right back in your grill. So it's kind of hard to avoid that. I think definitely your point, though, is you want to share boats when you can.
I think that's the key.
Sharing a boat really makes it less likely someone else is going to sink that boat.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
although I've done it.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could. I think a thing you could do is you could put a bunch of 1s maybe and try to trick people. Craig might do that next time as the old sucker punch.
No way, because I can't remember any of those numbers.
Like what I did one time.
I remember.
What I did was you had someone had a boat of 2 meeples and an empty slot, and they're heading right back down. I just jumped a 5 right in the back of your boat.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't know what it is, and you're not going to sink your boat with 2 meeples on it. That's probably not fake. and you had a clear shot to the island. So I'm like, that's good. You're all good. Take me home, baby. Home, James. Right? So that was pretty cool. So I liked it. And also use those dives when you move monster or creatures, whether it's sharks or whales or monsters. It's very tempting to always look for the way you can hurt your opponent. But sometimes I think you want to think about very carefully about playing defensively. Use those movements to get things out of your own way. Move the sea monster away from you. Teleport the sea monster far away from your island, or get those whales away from you. Try to get yourself a safe path wherever most of your meeples are.
Yeah, I like that method.
And the other thing, too, is tricky is I don't know about early game deployment on the island. I still haven't figured out whether it's better to clump all your guys up in one section or whether it's better to spread out so you can take advantage of other people's boats.
Right. I think probably spread out.
Yeah, I think so, too. I don't know. It's tricky. But the other way you can win is when you're playing with your family, you have to be able to convince your children it's mommy's turn to lose. If you can achieve this objective, you will then do better, have a better win-loss ratio than normal. So, and one other thing, any other strategy suggestions before I move on to the squid expansion?
I have some strategies.
Yeah, go for it.
The strategies I like to do is, I like to pay attention where my high pointers are, and then I like to also do the I lost my train of thought. Crap. The obvious one is I remembered it. The obvious one is to stick your meeples in other people's boats, but I like to play nice. So my goal is to always slip under the radar. So rather than take the opportunity to move a sea monster and sink somebody's boat, unless Craig serves you up a 3-boater, is to move and clear the lanes. Because my theory is if you play nice, someone else is less likely to screw you. Now, when you're playing with Russ, that's not going to happen. But
I play the Russ strategy. I look for the guy who's got the most meeples on land, and I sink his boats. That's pretty much how I roll.
Well, that's a pretty good strategy, actually.
So now the other thing that's coming out is the squid expansion, or as I call them, the squeeples. And this Stronghold Games is nice enough to send us.
Hey, man, when Russ has a joke in his teeth, he's like a terrier, and he won't let it go.
No, he won't let it go.
He's like a giant squid with a joke in his tentacles.
They're really cool.
Nice.
They're very big, white squid-looking meeples. They're awesome-looking wooden things. So they're a little bit pricey because you get, I think 4 of them in the bag.
SpongeBob.
But what's...
SpongeBob.
What's cool about them is how the squids work is basically... They're an expansion.
Oh, Squidward.
They work when you roll a whale. So when you get a whale, you can choose to...
SpongeBob, I don't think we should go eat crab patties right now. That was Patrick, Russ.
Are we at the level of SpongeBob? Is that where we've gotten to?
Oh, no, we got to do the Sandy the Squirrel next.
All right. So the squids... they come in with whales. So you can, when you roll a whale or you get a whale, you can choose to use a squid instead if you have the expansion and want to play with it. And what the squids basically do is they can eat things from adjacent areas on land. So if a squid is next to the mainland or next to the Atlantis, he can't steal them from the safe zones, but from next to Atlantis, the sinking island, he can reach up and steal a meeple and eat them from adjacent land. He also can float in. He doesn't capsize boats, but he can float in next to boats, and he'll steal a meeple off a boat and eat them as well. But they fight the whales. So when the squid and whales end at the same spot, they start beating each other up. So it's kind of a neat thing. And there's an option to play with only squid instead of whales and that kind of thing. So it's a really interesting just adds a little bling to the game. I think the squid meeples, they're a little pricey, but I think they're worth adding because they're just so cool. If you play the game enough, I think they're like $15.
No,
really?
No. The squid expansion, I've got it on order at Myriad. It's $6.
Oh, never mind then. Well, then it's dirt cheap.
I thought it was like $5.99.
Ignore me. I thought it was expensive. $5 is definitely worth it. Buy it. No, don't even think about it. Just get it with the game when you buy it.
Yeah.
It's cool. I like them all. They look great. So that is Survive. Escape from
Atlantis.
So
I don't get if people love Atlantis or something. There's no Atlantis. It's just an island filled with tiles.
Right. Don't get it because you're a big fan of Atlantis.
Right. Yeah, there's no column.
It's not like an Atlantis role-playing game.
The only Atlantis portion to it is there's an island that's sinking and people are trying to get away. That's really
exactly. There's no columns. There's no Greek. There's no marble statues under the water. There's nothing like that.
Nothing like that. So what are our final thoughts about this game? Oh, wait. Craig?
What?
Wait. I want to do Craig. Craig, what? In the sound of a sinking island, please describe the D6G rating system.
That I can do.
See, that's good. And then 2 plus. Yep. Yeah, but throw some numbers in there.
2 plus, blah, 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 6 plus, blah, 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 blah.
Really? Is that where we're going?
Perfect.
That was great, but I don't know how we're going to... Did anybody get anything out of that, folks?
2 plus, 6 plus.
I don't know. I mean,
I'll do
75 episodes, 74 episodes. Excuse me.
It could be a new listener.
If you are sinking on an island and you like your life, you would want to escape on a 2 plus.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't like your life, you wouldn't mind sinking with your home island, so it would be a 6 plus.
All right. Anyway, basically, the lower the better on the D6 roll.
There you go.
We're going. Tonight's a weak one, apparently. So anyway, what do you guys think, Raef?
This is easy. Okay, I'm biased because I have nostalgia. 2 plus.
So Raef thinks that the average gamer rolls a 2 or better, they're going to like this game.
Yeah. Oh, I have to add another
Remembers
caveat.
the good old days when he used to play.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, the average gamer who has a family
and is just like Raef.
Is just like me.
A clone of Raef, if you will.
Which, if they're just like me, let's add parentheses, is awesome. Just like Neil Patrick Harris. And Susan Sarandon, let's have some coffee. And people out there who have cartoons, Raef, Russ, and Craig, and 2 plus. Voices.
Right. Wow. I'm not sure any survivors mentioned there, but okay, 2 plus. Craig, what do you think?
I enjoyed it a lot. Karen loved it. It was the first game we've played multiple times in a long time. Karen gave it a 3 plus, I believe.
Oh, hey, look at that.
Yeah.
All right.
And I will say I will give it a 3 plus also. It's very basic, which is awesome to begin with, and it's going to be a great filler game. After a bunch of plays, it does get a little repetitive because you're trying to do the same thing over and over again. But the game itself comes with like 8 or 9 variations in the rule book,
right?
That you can
I didn't
throw
realize
in.
that.
Yeah, so you can throw in there. So when things start to get a little repetitive, you can shake them up with all these different challenges. I think they call them.
Right.
So I would say a 3 plus definitely.
Yeah, I think this is it's obviously targeting a family game. And it certainly is a family game. It was a huge hit with my family. We're playing, and my youngest daughter, Kit, were playing along, and she was having a great spirit, and for some reason everybody kept eating her. And she said at one point, she's like, why does everyone think I'm animal food? Guys. So she loved it, and everybody had a great time with it. It's definitely something that Nicole said, just go get it and add it to our collection because it was that good. I'm going to give it a 3 plus with a reroll.
Ooh, yes, I support that
with no modifiers. I think that it appeals
no
to anyone.
modifiers.
I think it's a game too that don't dismiss it because it is a family game. Because
what if you had a traumatic experience with a dolphin in your younger formative years?
Positive or negative experience with dolphin?
Traumatic. I would assume that would be negative.
Well, the good thing about that is you can avoid the dolphins. So
I'm just saying that maybe you're 3 plus with a reroll unmodified. Maybe you want to throw a modifier like if you were at SeaWorld and you saw some horrific thing with a dolphin.
I think the probability is taken care of in the. No, it's in the roll because the probability of people like that existing is so low that they're handled and then the reroll fail.
So you're not giving me this little joke. Huh?
No, not at all.
Totally treat me this. Oh, okay,
that was lame.
I'll remember this.
You're doing
That's how it's going to be, I guess.
You're doing a disservice to aquatic mammals everywhere, pretty much.
Wow.
At that point.
Okay.
So no,
I can do straight man too.
I wanted to add a caveat. If you don't have kids, or even if you're just married, we don't mean family game like that. What we mean is at least I don't. I mean, if you've got a gaming club and you're in the mood for some light fun and to be able to have some fun, screw your neighbors, and race some meeples to shore, you're going to like the game.
You think of yourselves as a big family.
No,
there you go.
No, I agree. I don't think you need. That's a good point, Raef. I think this game is a great filler game. Period.
Oh, absolutely.
Period. It doesn't matter whether it's gamers or anybody else. I think it's a fun game, and I think it. Yeah. It's and you can break it out any time, and it's not too big of a box, but it's got that nice. You get a feeling of a good board game experience in a nice fast time with some great quality components.
Absolutely.
So
can't disagree with anything that you just said.
Great.
As much as I might try.
So is that survive, escape from Atlantis?
It is. I'm done.
All right, sweet.
This edition of Jever Notice is brought to you by Bob from Green Mountain Gamers, who says, come out and join us for our 4th statewide game day, being held at the Ilsley Library in Middlebury, Vermont on March 19th, 2010, I think that means 2011, from 10 a.m. to 10 p.m. Check out our website at www.greenmountaingamers.com, all one word, for more info. Peace out. Did you ever notice how some stories irritate you beyond all rational sense? And sometimes it's not just a story, but a series of books or movies or even an entire writer or director's body of work. I've noticed that throughout my life. Every now and then I encounter a work or an artist whose work, in general, rubs me the wrong way. I never really looked at it closely very often, with a couple key exceptions, and I'll talk about one in a second. But yeah, they were there, and they bugged me. Well, last week I was surfing around the net looking at non-gaming stuff. I do that more than my compatriots, I think. I was site jumping, looking at stuff about Hollywood, upcoming movies, inside baseball type stuff, when I came across an article on Big Hollywood by one Leo Grin. This article wasn't about movies or actors, but something much closer to what I usually talk about on our show here, books. More specifically, fantasy books. Basically, this article, entitled The Bankrupt Nihilism of Our Fallen Fantasists, well, right there you would normally lose me. Got enough nihilism in grad school, thanks, is what I would normally think. But there was this picture of J.R.R. Tolkien right under the title, next to some other guy I've never heard about. And so I was intrigued. Was Grin saying that Tolkien was bankrupt? Was this guy really going to gore one of fantasy's sacred cows? I was intrigued, and so I started reading. Instantly, I was, again, catapulted back to grad school. That's 2 times in 1 month, for those of you keeping track at home. Now, I didn't agree with everything Grin had to say. He had some really mean things to say about George R.R. Martin, for instance. But there was enough there to catch my attention, and so I kept reading. Before I go any further, I should probably be a good little commentator and define my terms, for those of you without the benefit of hours of interminable meta-theory class under your belt. Firstly, nihilism. Basically, this is a philosophy that says that nothing is worth anything. Your life won't mean anything. Nothing you do is worth anything. There's no such thing as morality because no 2 people could ever agree on it anyway, and thus there's no reason for you to be a good person. In short, as it pertains to this discussion, there's no such thing as a real hero, and anyone who tries to act like a hero will die a horrible, pointless, probably very painful, and early death. Next, I'd probably want to touch upon the term deconstruction. In analysis and criticism, a deconstruction refers to a type of art that takes apart another type of art to prove how wrong, pointless, or pathetic it is. Not nearly as tasty as whatever they're talking about on Top Chef when one of them says deconstruction. Possibly it's a bad idea to watch back-to-back episodes of Top Chef when you're in the middle of a 10-day crash diet, however. Anyway, so there you have nihilism and deconstruction. They're going to be the centerpieces of our conversation today. I guess I should probably touch a little bit on anti-hero as well, because that'll probably come up, as anti-hero is a main character in a story who either has traits that do not coincide with the classic definition of a hero, or who acts in ways occasionally contrary to the way that a hero should act. But still, they're a hero. So, on to the article I was reading. Basically, Grin was bemoaning the fact that he can't find much, if any, good fantasy out there today. Other than the huge sweeping sagas he calls those fat fantasies, there are only very, very pale imitations of Tolkien and his other big favorite, Robert E. Howard of Conan and other books fame. He goes on to attack most modern fantasy as nihilistic deconstructions of the memes propagated by Tolkien and Howard. Oh, yeah, meme I should probably hit too. Basically, it's a reoccurring idea or belief that is transferred from one person or group of people to another. If you think meme is an idea version of a gene, which is physical traits passed down to descendants, then you won't be too far wrong. So Grin is talking about these nihilistic deconstructions of epic fantasy. How these new books, his examples were none of them familiar to me, deride the meme of the hero, creating worlds where heroic sacrifice and efforts are for nothing, where characters are generally horrible examples of humanity doing terrible things to each other, where the end mocks the very essence of what we expect from heroic fantasy. And I started to nod. This might just be hitting something buried in the swamp of my noggin. And then it struck me. No Country for Old Men. I hated that movie with a passion. I felt that I should get my money back. Then it started winning all those awards. Best Picture Oscar to start. The IMDb page for its awards and nominations is scary in its size. I was once again left with a lost in translation moment. But Lost in Translation was just stupid. Something in me found No Country for Old Men seriously offensive. I was angry about it. But why? I couldn't figure it out, and I kind of just forgot about it. But Grin's article hit that nail right on the head, and suddenly I understood the anger of his article. See, No Country for Old Men is a nihilistic deconstruction of the Western or modern action movie. A military vet finds a bunch of drugs and money. He's tormented about what to do with the stuff because his family is in very bad shape financially. And then suddenly this psychotic Mexican hitman is cleaning up the mess left and right, and our hero has to go on the run, still trying to figure out what to do. In the end, he's left trying to lead the killer away from his wife, unsuccessfully, while the killer is leaving a massive trail of innocent bodies in his wake. And in the ultimate screw you to every fan of action and Western heroes in the world, the Coen brothers kill the hero, wait for it, off stage and without any sort of fanfare or note whatsoever. He's just dead in the background. To the point that I had to turn over to Karen in the movie, and I'm one of those folks who believes there's a special place in hell reserved for those who talk in theaters, and say to her, was that him? So what the Coen brothers did was take the action hero meme and mutate it to show you that in this world, in this country for younger men seemingly, there's no reason to try to be a hero or to do the right thing. You're just going to end up gunned down in a dirty motel room anyway, so why try? And that's it in a nutshell. All of a sudden my eyes are open. I want to believe in heroes. I know this about myself now. I want to believe in men and women who, when the chips are down, do the right thing, no matter how hard it is, and the universe will take note of their efforts. Excuse me. Do they always need to survive? Hell no. They don't even have to succeed all the time. That's what makes good drama. But when the story basically goes on to postscript how hopeless the situation was from the start, and that the hero was very foolish to even try, well, damn, don't we get enough of that on the evening news? I won't go into why I think No Country got all those awards and what that says about the folks that voted on the awards and their worldview. So, back to Grin. Nihilistic deconstruction of the heroic meme indeed. I hate it. I want my heroes. Now, I know there's a lot of folks out there who like this sort of thing. Critics included, apparently. Often they evoke things like gritty realism to justify the entire situation, or they defend the work as showing the dirty and realistic side of war, as if we're children who believe war is all trumpets and medals. They miss the basic point of heroes and heroism in a culture and a cultural need for those things by such a wide margin you have to wonder where they grew up. And they're so cavalierly dismissive of heroes and heroism and those of us who want such things that it can't help but leave you with a bad taste in your mouth if you see what I'm seeing. When a book lacks a hero, it's going to have a hard time keeping me interested. They don't have to be superhuman. In fact, I prefer my heroes to have flaws. I prefer them to be human and to act in human ways, except for that one moment when they're really needed and they don't. I don't mind anti-heroes either. An anti-hero is somebody you can get behind, even though occasionally you'll want to check your wallet afterwards. And an anti-hero, 9 times out of 10, will do the right thing when the chips are down. But a book without a hero? Ugh. I came to realize that that's why reading The Dream of Perpetual Motion, thanks again, Jeff, I did enjoy it, felt like grad school, though. You get a lot of deconstruction in grad school, and not a little bit of nihilism either. Makes you wonder what it takes to become a professor sometimes. And in the novel The Dream of Perpetual Motion by Dexter Palmer, you have Harold Winslow, a greeting card writer whose one moment of attempted heroism ends him trapped on a giant zeppelin sailing around and around the globe, losing a little altitude each day, waiting for the end. You see, Harold Winslow is no hero. He comes to that conclusion himself before the end, and that sort of bothered me without knowing why it was bothering me. But now that I figured it out, it actually makes the novel fit into my head a bit better, and I appreciate it more. Because although there's no hero, see, Harold Winslow goes through that journey to realize that he's not a hero, at least, and the world in which you can realize you're not a hero, that world at least has heroes, or you wouldn't realize you're not a hero. Now, I know there are those of you out there right now going, oh, he's got too simplistic taste in books. Those heroic fantasies are unrealistic. They don't show you the true horror of war. They don't show you all the nuances of the real world. Well, firstly, I'm here to tell you that nuance can be way overrated and is often merely a code word for, I don't know what I really mean, or sometimes even, I don't want you to know what I really mean. And as for realism, hello, fantasy. And don't get me started on that boat either. I'm all about internal consistency and the illusion of reality in fiction. Karen won't even let me talk about it anymore. I've gone on and on about it so often with her. But seriously, if you're looking for reality, I mean this reality, watch the news. But guess what? you're going to find heroes there too. That's right. In the real world, there are folks who do the right thing when things look bleak. There are those who run toward the fire instead of away from it. Those who run into the smoke or the shouting or the tears. So get off my back on the realism score, okay? Heroes exist, and I want them to exist in my heroic fantasy too. Now, where Grin and I part ways, however, is that he is far too bleak and hopeless when scoping out the field of fantasy today. In the discussion thread beneath his article, and at least he is one of those writers who will actually jump into the discussion thread, he jumps ugly on two of my perennial favorites, The Belgariad by David Eddings, not anything other than that, but The Belgariad, and George R.R. Martin's Song of Ice and Fire. He says The Belgariad is sort of like Lord of the Rings 90210. Which is clever and witty, but really does the entire series a grave injustice. But he saves his deepest vitriol for Martin's series. He says it epitomizes what he's talking about. And here, I could do a whole new Did You Ever Notice defending George R.R. Martin, so let me just say that I believe there are heroes in those books. Many heroes, in fact. Men and women who rise above their abilities and their difficulties, who fight monsters or people or ideas way out of their weight class. Some of them die, yes. Many of them die, actually. But if you look at the world in general, you will see that it is a world, although dark and gray, it has heroes in it. And it has heroism, and those good guys are trying to win. And I bet, in the long run, if the series ever finishes, who those good guys were all along will become much clearer, and the further ideas of redemption and forgiveness might just rear their ugly heads as well. Or maybe that's just because I like his writing. In pursuance of this topic today, I downloaded a free book I found online called The Last Ring Bearer. It's by a Russian biologist named Kirill Eskov. This is purported as being the story of the Lord of the Rings from the point of view of the bad guys, and basically spins it to show that the elves and the humans were the bad guys, and that Mordor was just an advanced, technologically minded civilization that wanted to be left alone, but was targeted by the wizards and elves for destruction because its very existence threatened their control of the world. I started to read it, sure that it would be the perfect example of nihilistic deconstruction for this episode. Everything online goes on and on about how it isn't fanfic, how it's real and important, and although the Tolkien estate has now started to go after them because of their recent English translation, you can still find it online, and it's really good. But I was about 50 pages into it, and I don't know if maybe it's a translation error or something, but this definitely reads like fanfic. The verb tense dances around so much it made me yearn for my freshman's first essays. And the voice in which the story is told is so casual and modern, lacking so utterly and completely anything about the mythical storytelling cadences and voice of the original that it just pales in comparison. Now, that doesn't mean there isn't going to be a decent story here, and I'm going to keep reading it. The opening paragraph is almost poetic in its beautiful description of a desert sunset, but the issue of tense and voice and the blatant alterations of elements of the canon make this read more like really bad fanfic alternative history rather than a story from the other point of view. Since the very premise is that most of the Lord of the Rings novels are a lie, I guess that's okay within the story, but I ain't buying it. And you can write me to say, you just don't get it, Craig. The modern world is too complex to be wrapped up in Tolkien's neat little story. And that's fine. Nobody's saying that Tolkien's neat little story was supposed to be a reality. I'm just saying, when you have the uncouth barbarian Éomer coaxing the exhausted and fed-up Rohirrim into one last charge on the Pelennor fields by promising that each man who dies in their just cause will be serviced by beautiful virgin sex goddesses for all eternity, I think you're getting a little too caught up in your own worldview. Leave my Tolkien alone. And that's about all I've got to say for this. Thanks for listening, and good night.
Achievement unlocked! You've made it to the end of another D6 Generation episode, the podcast whose humor has universally been acclaimed as not too horrible. Please let us know what you thought of the show by either emailing us at info@the d6generation.com or by posting in our official D6G episode thread at the top of the DACA Discussions Forum on DACA.com. If for some inexplicable reason you actually enjoyed this show, you can help others find out about it by leaving positive reviews on iTunes. See you in 2 weeks. Thanks for listening, and happy gaming.
The theme from Total Fangirl comes from the soundtrack of The Last Night on Earth, the zombie game, courtesy of Flying Frog Productions, and is a composition of Mary Beth Magalanes.
All right, I need a sound check, people.
I want you to push it real good, because when you hear that music pumping hard, I knew you should push it. Who's calling me? Leave me the F alone.
Hang up the phone.
God.
Nobody home. Craig, where do you got, Craig?
I got, let's see. Listen, children, to a story that was written long ago about a kingdom on a mountain.
Treasure on a mountain.
No, it's a kingdom on a mountain.
Treasure on a mountain.
It's a kingdom on a mountain, and the valley folk below.
Yes.
On the mountain was a treasure.
Oh, you're right. Damn it.
Wow.
Damn it.
Dude, my music teacher in 6th grade was a hippie.
I remember that song totally well. I know, right?
What's that song? It's like, do-do-do, and don't mess with Jim. Do-do-do-do-do-do-do. Only
you don't tug on Superman's cape. You don't take the mask off the
Don't piss into the wind. You don't pull the mask off the old Ranger, and you don't mess around with Craig.